Your eyes do not, in fact, deceive you. This is the first ever Wild Rift Origin Series monthly final, and we're going to kick things off in June. I've brought on two lovely gentlemen with me this evening to take us through all the action. I've got Maxman and I've got Excoundrel with me. Kiernan, how you doing tonight? You've got to be excited, right?
Mate, I've been looking forward to this. A lot of people have been building up towards the Origin Series. It is obviously the start of like the official competitive scene across the European, Middle Eastern, North African and CIS regions. So I think this is going to be a real test. We're going to see a lot of really good teams kind of strut their stuff. And at the end of it, we'll see who's the best in the region.
And for you, Max?
I'm feeling amazing. As Excoundrel said, right, this is the very first official tournament we have for Wild Rift in Europe. So many community tournaments before, so I know that all these teams and players, they're fully prepared and ready for today's kickoff.
Well, I hope the players are ready, but before we jump even further into the action, let's hear from a couple of them so you can learn their faces.
Hey, I'm Joey Scott, or also known as Joey in real life, and I play for Team Singularity as the AD carry.
My name is Ryo. I'm playing for Team Singularity as the top laner, and I'm from Denmark.
Hi, I am Kaglian. I am playing for Futbolist.
I'm Baluz. I'm the jungler of the team 7 Free Agents. We decided to create a new team with all French players.
I'm Maxime Guyot, named as Shakrix in game, and we are very proud to represent our country.
We are all friends. We all want the same things, perform at the best level.
We are kind of outsiders, but we want to prove we are not just outsiders.
My name is Saibek in game. I'm playing for Team Clash. We are on the top 5 teams on Spain. We have a strong team. We can fight for win the tournament.
Awesome. My name is Stuart. In-game name is It's Stuart, and I'm the Dragon Lane carry for Resolve.
Hello, I am Kamoto. In-game name is Polish Onion. I'm from Poland, and I play support for the team Resolve.
Hello everyone, I'm Nick Colstar, team captain and Baron lane player of Unicorns of Love from Cold Russia.
My nickname is JD. I am creator and captain of Team Mortal Shot.
My in-game name is Artiboy. I'm coach for Recent Gaming.
My in-game name is Skov. It's also my middle name. I play for Gamelord and I'm from Denmark.
My name is Georgi. My nickname is iSector. I play organization Bekarog Esports. I'm playing from Georgia.
I would say I'm afraid of two teams right now.
I'm really excited for playing this tournament. I think we're coming in as a huge underdog for this tournament. I think a lot of teams has counted us out.
The Game Lords is better than us right now, and I think Tribe. I think we can win it, and I would hope for us to get at least top 4. That would be like the minimum.
We expect top 3. The time has come for us to show our true power.
And that's just a handful of the players involved in the Origin Series, lads, because we had over 370 teams sign up for the first qualifiers at the beginning of this month, and we whittled them down to just a selection. Before we go any further, we kind of need to touch on how this format is going to work. We've got a double elimination bracket, but of course, we're covering a very large area. We've got Europe, the Middle East, North Africa, Turkey, CIS. And if you try to make those two teams from the furthest reaches of those regions play against each other, ping may be an issue. So we decided to split them into groups with their closest server in mind. Group A on your screens right now, this is primarily European teams coming in, and this is where we're going to see some more familiar faces. Isn't that right, Kiernan?
Yeah, I think if you've been watching community tournaments over maybe the last 3 months or so, you will recognize a lot of the teams in the bracket for the main European region. You'll notice people like Tribe, Queso, Reason, Gamelord, Clash, Resolve, even Vampire, who've been around a little bit. So lots of, I would say, like recognizable faces in this area of the bracket.
Yeah, really big teams. Of course, we've got a few of these that I expect are coming into this tournament as favorites. One of those, of course, being Gamelord and even potentially the likes of Tribe Gaming that have just been doing so well in recent times, especially Gamelord for you guys that maybe haven't been able to catch up too much as of recently. Gamelord was the old Singularity roster, and they still have a big portion of the team still with them, so they're still performing extremely well, and they could be the favorite coming in this first bracket.
So we just have this very familiar Group A, but why don't we go ahead and take a look at Group B? This is primarily going to be full of Turkish and CIS teams. There's one name that stands out for me, lads, and that's Trovo Nova. They've been making waves in EU so far.
Yeah, if you were sort of following from the very early elements of Wild Rift competitive, then Trovo Nova will be the first team that you really got to see. They were one of the first teams on the scene. They have some of the oldest in sort of inverted commas competitive players that we have in Europe. So the faces on Trovo Nova haven't changed a huge amount since they started, and they're coming in this particular bracket where I think they probably come in as the favorites, Maximan.
Yeah, and the reason why we're saying they're coming into this one as one of the favorites is for you guys to watch maybe a few of the past community-run tournaments. You're like, well, Na'Vi was a really good team. People call them the best team in Europe. Well, the roster completely changed. The old Na'Vi that you used to know is completely different, so they got really big shoes to fill coming into this Group B bracket, and hopefully they can try and contest, but they're not going to be having potentially too hard of a first matchup, but they're going to go right off the bat versus Trovo Nova in the quarterfinals if they win their 2 matches. So that is going to be a very hectic match between these 2 teams.
Yeah, a lot riding on that next stage of the tournament as we start to really define the top dogs, shall we say, and the ones who have got a little bit more work to go if they want to reach the end of the bracket. Let's take a look at our final group, though. It's Group C. These are teams coming in from the Middle East and North Africa. And in all honesty, we're probably not going to have too much information on these teams, but we will be checking in with them and we'll start to learn more about them.
Yeah, and I think I want to take this opportunity to say that just because we don't know them doesn't mean that we won't know them. I think at the end of the day, the Origin series is about crafting your own story, building your own legacy. And, I hesitate to say legacy. I know it's a bit of a European buzzword, but these are the kind of things that the Origin series is designed to do. So just because we don't know your names now doesn't mean that we're not going to know your names by the end of the Origin series, because we could have a team that comes straight out of left field, no one's expecting, really pop off. And I think one of the beautiful things about the Origin series is that we do get to see regions that we haven't classically been able to see at the sort of the more heavily publicized European scene that we've had previously. And that's what I'm also really excited about.
Yeah, that's the nature of an open tournament. Anyone can come up, anyone can be a star. And when the competitive side of Wild Rift is in its infancy, this is what we're looking for. We're looking for a few upsets. We're looking for people to define their own path on this one. So, lads, we've seen everything that's going on. Let's go ahead and pull up the schedule, see what we've got coming up later today. Now, you'll notice we've got a couple of TBDs in there. We're going to be quite fluid. We have to jump between these groups because there's a lot of matches that are going to be happening simultaneously. What I can tell you, though, is that we're going to be starting with Trovo Nova going up against Butterfly Dream for Yoda. And if you haven't figured it out, Butterfly Dream for Yoda is one of these teams that has kind of come through the open qualification to try and reign prevalence, but they have got a tall order to run up against them. It's Trovo Nova. We've already pegged them as one of the stronger teams potentially in the tournament. So, Max, Butterfly Dream for Yoda, what are some of the things they need to be looking out for here?
I mean, already you're going to have to be very careful about the likes of Grizzly. We were talking about that actually with Xscoundrel before the stream actually started, and how strong Grizzly actually is, because the meta has been shifting pretty heavily, I would say, for supports. Just a few months ago, you would see a lot of Braum, a lot of Alistars. Now it's went a little bit towards Enchanter supports, and Xscoundrel, he can just play so many strong champions in that position that he should be a player you want to be very careful, because even if you ban away a bunch of supports, you'll always have that one support that you can always play no matter what happens in the draft.
All right, then, Max, thanks for that little teaser. But before we go any further, let's just make it formal. Let's just jump straight into game number 1. We didn't go very far, but now you finally have some rosters on your screen. We spoke a little bit about some of the Trovo Nova players, but I'm hoping to get a few more nuggets of insight from you, Kiernan.
Yeah, so I think the 2 players that I'm really excited about from Trovo Nova are Vex and Grizzly. Vex was a player that popped out really, really quickly in Wild Rift. He was a previous mobile MOBA player, had kind of came in with like wealth of experience and really popped off early on in Wild Rift solo queue. I believe he took a little bit of a backseat for a while, but he has really just been raging up the solo queue ladder, as has Grizzly. Vex absolutely Goomba stomped me today in ranks. He's in a good. I think he's in a good place coming into this. But Grizzly, I have so much respect for this support. Not only is his Braum absolutely nutty, but he's got such, like as Max said, an ability to play numerous champions at a very high level. So I'm really, really excited about what Grizzly and Vex can do as a jungle support duo on the map here.
Well, we're into the draft, so you're going to be able to see what they'll roll out with. Some power picks in general. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping for those who haven't really tuned into competitive Wild Rift before. What kind of picks are strong right now? What are we looking to get banned off if you just remove any names altogether?
Right now in the meta, Ziggs is ridiculous in competitive. Wukong is like a tier 1 priority jungler. You don't usually see it banned, but it's obviously very high up at the pick order. Seraphine, Sona bot lanes in the high levels of Europe have been super popular as well. Garen is I can say this with first-hand experience. Garen is broken, so I expect to see him, getting banned quite a lot today. There's a lot of good champions. Interesting on Draven, that feels like a bit more of a target ban. I would not rate Draven as a ridiculously high priority AD carry, but it's often you see it banned on competitive levels max when people either don't want to play against it because they're not comfortable, or you've got a particularly skilled Draven player.
Yeah, potentially just want to play more of a slower scaling ADC, and then that's because you want to try and get rid of the Draven that will typically bully you pretty heavily in that laning phase. But the Ahri, I added an entire segment that I was going to have dedicated to Sen. I want to see Ahri played. I think it's good. I know Xscoundrel, you don't agree with it, but she's banned. So she's definitely good at something, right? And then we're going to have the very first pick coming on through for Trova Nova, and that is going to be the Camille. So Camille, very good in a flex pick currently, can play her jungle. She's really strong in that position and also in the Baron lane. But typically, the reason why Trova Nova like to go for that pick first is that really good potential to play in 2 different roles. So it's a little bit harder to counteract for the side of Butterfly Dream for Yoda.
Tell you where it's going right now. It's going Baron lane. Clamara's on Camille.
Typically,
that's the first pick for him. Like, absolutely. I love this rotation from Butterfly Dream, though. They take the Seraphine, who, you prevent a Seraphine Sona bot lane, which has been super popular with many European teams, and then you pick up the Braum as well. But this is a power pick that I don't usually get let through the draft very often, and the Ziggs gets picked up, and that Ziggs is powerful for one reason only. He makes towers already feel like paper in Wild Rift. He is like a lighter. He just absolutely burns towers in an instant, and they've nerfed it for like 2 patches in a row, and he's still doing it. Ziggs is just very good at taking towers.
Yeah, he's still just insane in the current landscape of the game, and that Mega Inferno Bomb, if you get fed, I mean, typically it is almost like the champion's got something going his way all the time. You always see him on the top damage leaderboard, Ziggs being #1 by a significant margin. So goes to show he's not only good at taking down towers, he will take you down pretty fast also. They followed up with the likes of a Kai'Sa, so I'm intrigued to see what support they're going to pair with that one. Braum being off the table. They could try and play towards an Alistar if possible. But though, there you go. That I was just about to talk about Vex especially, and how he loves to play Wukong. Wukong being taken away by Butterfly Dream for Yoda. I wonder what what jungler's going to go the way actually of Vex in this game.
I'm interested to see. I mean, I think the Janna Kai'Sa is, in my opinion, S+ AD carry right now. I think the highest competitive AD carry that you'll see picked through the Origin series. Janna is like the counter into Braum. That's very Vex. That is a Vex pick through and through. Olaf in the jungle. For me, though, Butterfly Dream, for you, they're building like a wombo combo comp. Like, they're clearly setting up for just press our ultimates, win the game, is essentially there you go.
Yeah.
Yasuo comes through. Press our ultimates, win the game. That's the Butterfly Dreams for you tactics straight off the bat.
Ooh, I like this one. Now, you said the wombo combo is really clean, though the Vex pick here going to the Olaf works really well. You're going to be able to cleanse all of that CC with that Ragnarok ultimate. Down to synergy, I would say clearly for Butterfly Dream for Yoda, so we'll see how that's going to come down in this very first game.
All right, then. Well, there's your pick and ban. I've got nothing else to add here. I'm going to disappear into the Shadow Realm. You two kick off with the game. I'll be waiting for you when it's all finished. See you later.
See you soon.
Thank you so much, Trid. And indeed, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be jumping right into game #1 here of the Origin series. It's been a long time coming, Xscoundrel, and we got some really clean drafts coming on through here. And if there's one draft that could take down Trova Nova in game 1 of the Origin series, a wombo combo comp could do the trick.
I mean, look, first Drake, especially if it's a high priority Drake like Infernal, even with the Infernal nerf, still remains a very high priority Drake, could be somewhere where we see Butterfly Dream if you look to fight. If they're all level 5, which you should be by that first Drake point, if you're able to combo those ultimates together, there is very little counterplay because it is just pure CC comboing with Yasuo. The only problem that I have with this comp is it is very Yasuo focused. So like if Yasuo doesn't do well, you are limiting some of that upper end of kind of like what this comp can achieve. Whereas Trovo Nova, they've just got a very standard, like high, I would call it like an S tier picks type of comp. Like you've just got some comfort for Vex and Clamara's. You have a very strong 2v2 in the top lane. You have a tower taking machine in the form of Ziggs, and then you just got Janna Kai'Sa bot lane. Like you're going to scale insanely well into the late game. And if you can survive through some of those first early skirmishes, you know, Trovo Nova should have more of an edge when it comes to sort of taking towards that mid-late game.
Yeah, they should be working potentially towards a very strong game. Though, if I want to have potentially a negative caveat here for Trovo Nova, because we talked about it, this team has been participating a lot in community-run tournaments as of recently. And I would say mainly Clamaris, he likes to go for some big beefy champions that like to split push. That's exactly what the likes of a Camille will attend and try to do and perform in those games. Though sometimes a little bit too much down that route, and it does sometimes cause his team a lot of issues. So Clamaris, I'm hoping to see some improvement over time. We haven't seen him playing quite some time for Trovo Nova in the last few weeks or months. So I'm hoping to see Clamaris having the opportunity to improve on that sense.
Unironically, though, if he goes for split push this game, it might actually benefit Trovo Nova. Because I don't think you win team unless you're snowballing. If you're Trovo Nova and you snowball the Olaf jungle, you could potentially take over at that first dragon fight with a very, very fed Olaf. But I actually don't think you win team fights versus Butterfly Dream for you. I think Butterfly Dream for you have just drafted the ultimate wombo combo team fight. As long as they have those ultimates available and they can land them correctly, you have an almost unbeatable team fight in that scenario, right?
Yeah.
So I think, unironically, if you choose to cross map for first tower, if you're Trovo Nova, you let Clamaris do his split push thing, that might work out better for you. Like, what I would actually prefer to see from Trovo Nova is use the Ziggs, use the Olaf, rotate around the map, and just focus on breaking towers very quickly. Build up a big enough gold lead up through neutral objective control that by the time that it comes to actually team fight, maybe like second Drake, third Drake, maybe even Baron, you're so far ahead in terms of item spikes, the wombo combo doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, we saw it through a lot in the Summer Cup as of recently for the Icon series, that typically you have a rotation that's very popular right now in that tournament, which is you would have the jungler rotate with the two-man crew, typically on the Dragon lane, and you would go straight up for a very early dive. So we'll see how that's going to be coming on through. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be right on the Wild Rift for game number 1 of the Origin series. Is going to be Butterfly Dream for Yoda versus myself, Trovo Nova, and already looking for a little bit of an engage on myself, Lonely Kid. That is me, in fact, when I was in high school, but that's okay. We'll overlook that point as they're going for a very deep invade this time around, Excandrel, and trying to snatch away that red buff.
Yeah, looks like Urien does finally find his way over. You don't win this, though. I mean, Urien and Lonely Kid, you just have to accept that you've made the mistake. The exhaust comes through. Lonely Kid drops. You kind of had to accept you made the mistake here, but nice rotation here, Max.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Braum. He's just an insane support level 1, and he's going to be actually able to make it 1-1 at the end for his team. That 1 kill being actually given over 2-1 on the Yasuo, so definitely one of...
Gold to Yasuo early on, that's good. And actually, Urien coming away with the red buff is a nice start, because he should be able to, especially with the changes that have happened to Wukong recently, where you do get a little bit of HP back from using your first ability, sustain his way through the jungle, shouldn't be affected too much, and will get to that first Scuttle Crab very early on. Looks like Pose, I mean, this is very aggressive from the Braum, just like buying a lot of space in the early game here for the Yasuo. You do sometimes see this from supports. They'll stay in the mid lane very early on, especially in a matchup that can be a little risky, and they'll just give a bit of an edge over to their mid laner and then rotate down towards the bottom side of the map, which is what we've seen here from both Trovo Nova and Butterfly Dream.
I mean, we talked about it, right? Braum is such an impactful support in the early game. Do you want to try and get that passive proc on as many targets as possible, and it could lead to some early kills coming your way. But especially down to the support meta, we got to mention it, especially that I believe maybe a few of the PC fans of League will be tuning in for this broadcast for the very first time. The map is a lot smaller, so supports are trying to have more of an impact in the early to mid-game phase. Will go down the mid lane, and they can very easily roam to both sides of the map without too much of an issue. You can see the Janna Grizzly is going to be in mid, and Braum once again is going to come back towards that mid lane position. So yeah, support meta is very heavily focused around roaming, and also when you do have the likes of a Seraphine, she's going to play really far away, so Luthien is going to be normally safe versus Hydro. Doesn't need the support just yet as he connects the root to the Hydro, and he will be able to join the party just in time. But they're roaming so efficiently, I'm really enjoying Excandrel.
Yeah, and I think you won't see a huge number of roams just yet. I have sometimes seen Alistairs pick up these really early roams and head towards like top lane and mid lane and just go for like crazy headbutt pulls. I think once that first dragon drops though, and you start to see people think about rotating for the Rift Herald, that's where you sometimes see the support make the rotation, and you leave the AD carry down bot lane to get solo experience and solo gold. Although I should just say bot laner in this game, because we actually have a Seraphine in that bot lane position, which is a very popular thing we see a lot of European teams do. So I'm not expecting a huge number of roams until that first dragon has gone. And then I'm expecting when we get towards first dragon, and then we get to that, after that we had, wait a second.
Unstoppable Force coming into the top side of the map. That's going to be the second kill actually coming over to the side of Butterfly Dream for Yoda. Kill actually going on over then to the Malphite. So that's Lonely Kid picking it up. He's going to crash into tower. So that's going to be a little bit of XP and gold lost to the hands of Trovo Nova.
I'm not going to be too harsh on Clemares there. There was a way that you could potentially look to outplay that by using the Camille ultimate through the animation of the Malphite ultimate, and you basically don't get hit. But that's really hard to do. It's hard enough to flash the Malphite ultimate, let alone do this. And plus, he was so close, you don't get much time to react. So he would have had to have predicted it if he was really going to make that play. But that's what you can see with a Malphite. Like, they just blow 2 ultimates. They should be back up by the time. Actually, well, no, they might not be.
I don't think they will.
No, they won't be. That might prove to be an issue here. That might give Trovo or Trovo Nova a little bit of an edge when it comes to this first dragon fight, because those 2 ultimates are key ways to facilitate Yasuo. If you can't facilitate Yasuo with the 2 really, really strong knockups that you've got, you're relying on Braum, and that can be a little edgy when looking for like a really good engage for the Yasuo. So if Trovo Nova want to go for this, I wouldn't even be remiss to see them start this up and try and take the team fight.
Yeah, you're reading my mind, Excandrel. Just about to talk about that. But yeah, the knockups not being there, definitely one is not going to be happy-chappy about that one. So far, it's going to be the Ocean Drake, the first Ocean of this game. As Trovo Nova just going to control a bit the river side. They did get the River Scuttler, so that Info and that Vision is definitely going to be coming their way. But you can see there's definitely some strong presence coming out from Butterfly Dream for Yoda. They're trying to push it away as much as possible. And the fight should be happening very soon between these 2 teams. Satchel Charge trying to zone them away, but Trovo Nova going to give that one up for the time being, and Bloodfire might actually try and go for it, but they're going straight to mid to try and make sure that tower stands strong.
I love this from Trovo Nova. This is the classic play when you're dealing with potential Drakes. You just try and game prio mid. So you push that wave in, you crash it under tower, especially with the Ziggs, you threaten that mid lane tower very quickly. And I'm really liking this. Now, the ultimates are back up for Butterfly Dream for you, so I'm very glad that Trovo Nova are not attempting to fight this dragon, and they are cross-mapping it. They are going for that top lane tier 1. They're going to combine the Olaf and the Camille to pick that up, and they should be able to get first tower of the game. I think this is a very sensible and very good decision here from Trovo Nova, especially because it's only an Ocean Drake. I'm very, very happy that they made this play. I think it was the best play they could have made in this scenario.
Yeah, I think they could have potentially played a little bit around the ultis not being up, but I fully respect. I mean, you called it earlier. It's like it's your job, you know, to talk about the game. But that's going to be the Killer Instinct coming on through with a Mega Inferno Bomb. Does connect at the very end. The Encore will be coming on through to get some extra CC, but will not save the life of Urien. They're going to put their focus onto Lucian too, trying to make himself over to the heal, and he will lose his life to the hands of that bouncing bomb from Pose. And it seems like slowly but surely there's a little bit of a lead getting built into the bottom side. Poe's going to be encountered there. The Braum passive is going to be chucked, and that's some big crit coming out from Wild into the Glacial Fissure. They want to make sure he cannot escape as Trovo Nova loses himself another play in this fight.
Yeah, I think that was just a little overstep from Urien on the Wukong. They caught out and then kind of threw Luthien under the bus as well. Like, they both kind of died in that scenario. Really aggressive play from Hydro there, and I love that he just found that opportunity to just jump in with the Kai'Sa ultimate. He had the backup of what should be a level 4 Janna shield now as well, so you're going to get a huge AD boost out of that. So that is like a nice little catch. But the roaming squad of Braum Yasuo, very strong 2v2, just comes down and is able to recoup a kill. So not bad in the slightest. And this is that you can see here. I think, unfortunately, Urien just didn't realize that he was being, he was seen trying to go for a Krug invade. And that, honestly, it was a risky Krug invade. You didn't really have the priority in the bot lane to do that for free. And so I think just a little bit greedy from Urien, and he was punished for it aptly.
Trovo Nova's got really good vision into the river side, especially bottom side of the map. You can see you got yourself currently 2 wards. One of them was actually towards where the Yasuo currently stands on the minimap. So they could very easily get the information that, sure, there was going to be one player trying to go for those Krugs. Krugs, by the way, that have been nerfed a little bit. Not only Krugs, but the Gromp. So any kind of junglers, especially a jungler like a Olaf, could actually farm up a little bit quicker and try and set up those ganks a little bit faster too and get some more gold up his sleeve. So I'm enjoying that. It could help them out quite a bit, though. Bottom side, there you go. That's going to be the conversion. Grizzly taking a little bit of a hit from Silver Heat. Looking for the conversion. Urien really trying to close that gap and go for the Cyclone. You will be able to close it. Cyclone does connect onto one target, but be careful. You're not with the rest of your team, and that's going to be Vex instantly shut down in that fight. Hectic Ultimatum onto the Wukong will also be traded away. So 1-for-1 so far, but they're going to right under tower, pick up the second. They're looking for the third as the Yasuo is split away from the rest of his team, and he went, oh no way, graceful final breath. It was almost a clutch play. Does make a decent trade-off at the end, but that tower is still going to go in favor of Trovo Nova. That's unstoppable force right in the tower. The tower aggro is still going to be on the likes of Pose. Will he lose his life actually to the Malphite? Seems like there will be the case, and it will be another kill coming out. There will be a one-on-one trade happening once again. There's a lot of back and forth here, Scoundrel.
I'm going to be real with you, Max. I am super impressed with Butterfly Dream for you. I didn't know what to expect coming into this.
Yeah.
But I genuinely think they are giving Trovo Nova a good run for their money. They're behind in gold right now. Clearly, they're about 4,000 down. Trovo Nova especially coming out ahead. But I was not expecting them to have this level of resistance. The problem that I think they're having right now is they're just getting caught on the rotate too quickly. Like Trovo Nova are the ones being proactive. They're dictating the pace, which I really like. They're trying to force smaller skirmishes by pressuring out side lanes. Let's take a look at that once again. Like Vex, yeah, he dies, but look at how much work that he gets done before he dies. He's taken everyone to like sub 50% HP, and at this point, it's just cleanup duty for the rest of his team. Like yeah, it's sad that he kind of went in 1v4, but that's kind of what an Olaf does sometimes.
Yeah.
He did enough work to allow the cleanup squad of the Camille and the Kai'Sa to jump to that backline and take people down. And you're funneling gold into the Kai'Sa, you're funneling gold into the Camille. They're both at 7,600. They're the richest members in the game next to the Yasuo. You're giving the gold to the right targets right now.
I think this is a little bit of an early herald. He doesn't even get the ram forward. No, you're not going to get any plates off of that first mid lane tower. So an unfortunate run of events for Trovo Nova. I think they tried to win priority towards this second Drake. There's going to be the Mountain Drake. Didn't quite go as planned for them. But Trovo Nova trying to potentially take the fight their way. GA is now going to be up for the likes of Orianna on the Wukong, looking for the Cyclone once again. Does get on a decent target, but right away, that's going to be the Ragnarok procs away. Encore goes pretty far into the backline of Trovo Nova, but they're just taking so much damage on the side of Butterfly Dream for Yoda. All of the players are currently taken down. 2 players currently out of this game, and that's going to be the third fall into it. Now they get priority towards the Dragon, and that's going to be the focus of Trovo Nova.
Yeah, that was, again, I think that was their best opportunity for Butterfly Dream for you to make their comp work. Like, they had all of their ultimates up. They were all ready to go. Like, that was the perfect opportunity around a Drake fight. If you were ever going to win a team fight versus Trovo Nova, that was the team fight that you were going to win. You just had to try and execute on it properly. I don't know if we're going to get a replay of it at some point, but it'd be good to break it down. But the I talked a little bit about that gold lead that was accrued earlier on, just through going through side lane plays, trying to funnel as much neutral objective gold into you as possible. The item spikes are just there right now for Trovo Nova. So the item spikes are there. They've got the Triforce Blade of the Ruin King for the Camille. It's very, very strong dueling setup. You have all of your evolutions for the Kai'Sa. You have the Triforce almost into the Sterak's for the Olaf, and Ziggs right now kind of popping off with that Ludens too. So you had that opportunity, but unfortunately just kind of fluffed it a little bit when it came to execution. And I think the best way that you can approach these team fights as Trovo is try and split your team up a little bit. Make sure that Ziggs is coming from one side, Kai'Sa trying to come in at the other angle. Make it so that they can't just throw a Malphite ultimate and catch all of your carries in one go. And that's kind of the way that they played that fight.
Yeah, and Trovo Nova, from how they're controlling the map right now, they just want to wear out the entirety of Butterfly Dream. They are trying to get every single tower so far. 1 tower in every lane has been their priority, and they got it done so far. But especially, and you touched upon it, I think, on one of the very early team fights against Scandal, was the fact that Vex, despite him maybe not being the big carry of this game, he's still chunking down the health bars really quickly of Butterfly Dream for Yoda. And then you got the pickups start coming on through very clearly from the likes of Hydro, but Clamaris, he's looking for that 1v1. He's going to be joined up by Grizzly, Hectic Ultimatum into the final breath. It doesn't matter, they do not get himself the kill out of that one, and Clamaris is going to be the next focus, hit and knocked up by that Glacial Fissure. No one will be traded away in this one. Pose will join the party, sure, a little bit late, but oh man, he just chunked down their Seraphine like nothing.
Yeah, that's the thing about Ziggs. Like, once he gets ahead, he's so oppressive, and these bombs start to really, really hurt most of the squishier members on your team. I also want to pay a little bit of attention to Grizzly. 109 might not seem ridiculously impressive. 100% kill participation. This guy's been all over the map. He's been influencing everybody right now. I told you that he was very, very strong support, and I've been really, really impressed with the way that both him and Vex have had such an impact here. But this is the engage you could be looking for.
Yeah, Wukong, nice knockups. Unfortunately, Yasuo not going to be able to use that ultimate just yet. He's just got off cooldown, and now he's going to go for the opportunity straight for the back line. Gets the damage, picks up one. That's the double kill. Actually going over to the likes of Wild. Hydra trying to close that gap and move away. Does use the killer instinct to reposition in time. Be careful, don't go too far. That's the regret point. Butterfly lose one along the way, but that was still, as you said, a really good engage we were looking for coming out from Butterfly Dream for Yoda.
Yeah, I'm really, really glad that they were just decisive about it as well. Like, they just knew they had the Seraphine ult. They could just pop it in and go for the engage, and that was super, super big from them. I think that is the kind of that's the kind of engage that you want to look for. Like, you just as soon as they're grouped up, don't hesitate, pull the trigger. If you can get a multi-man knock-up, a multi-man engage, that's what you're looking for. Chain that CC. Don't use it all at once. Wukong ultimate. Then when they're dropping down for the knockup, Malphite ultimate. Then when they're dropping down for the knockup, the second Wukong ultimate. Then the Braum ultimate. Layer the Seraphine ultimate over the top of it. That's the way you want to try and play these fights. Just trying to chain that CC together so there's no way that Trovo Nova can respond to an engage. I do think Trovo Nova overstepped. I think they had a lot of gold in their back pockets that they can go and spend on sort of big item upgrades. We've just seen the Ziggs pick up the Rabadon's Death Cap. We've just seen Kai'Sa finish up her Infinity Edge now as well. The Sterax is there. We have the Harmonic Ardent combo for Grizzly on the Janna. I don't envision that these fights are going to be as clean as that every time, especially with these new item spikes being picked up. But that's the kind of way that you want to see Butterfly Dream for you execute.
Yeah, the 10k gold lead currently going over to Trovo Nova. This is not looking all good for Butterfly Dream for sure. It could still work out. One combo like that could definitely maybe reduce the impact of such a significant gold lead, but they are still having a really hard time. And the damage you talked about, the itemization power spikes coming on through, is going to make matters even worse for Butterfly Dream for Yoda. Now Baron is going to be up, so you know that the next fight could be even more impactful, knowing whichever team takes that could instantly secure himself a Baron or even potentially a Cloud Drake, depending on where you want to go throughout this game. I think that Vex, I mean, he's already moving towards the Dragon, and he's going to pick it up solo, apparently. He doesn't need the team. I mean, he's Olaf after all. He's going to take that one very easily for himself, but they do not know he's there because the lack of vision is very, very obvious for Butterfly.
And I'm also loving what we're seeing here from Trovo Nova as well. They've kind of opened up the map. They haven't gone into a 1-3-1. They've kind of gone into a 2-1-1 with like Vex tracking across the map right now. But that's good because, you know, if you can avoid straight up team fighting against Butterfly Dream for you're in a strong position. You can see that Clamares is, you know, you mentioned it, is a very strong aspect of his play. Back into that split push. He's got that tier 2 in the bot lane dropped. What I would actually love to see though is, you know, keep that pressure up and then a setup around Baron. I want to see some vision clearing around Baron. I want to see Vex tracking the top side of the map, because if they can threaten Baron but keep Clamares split pushing in the side lanes, that is enough to kind of like make it awkward for Butterfly Dream for you. They're going to put a bit of pressure on them and make it difficult for them to respond. I'm also loving that Clamares at any opportunity is just heading into the blue side jungle, clearing out jungle camps, because the more gold that you starve away from Butterfly Dream for you, the more of an advantage that you're going to have heading to towards this late game.
Yeah, he's also installing a lot of deep vision, which is allowing him to track a little bit easier the likes of, for example, the Malphite here. He knows Lonely Kid is going to be in that position. He knows they're currently split away, so it could make matters a little bit easier for them. And he also has that teleport, so if really this is going to be a big fight or Baron engage they want to go for, he should be able to join that without any issues whatsoever. There you go, back in the jungle, as you said, Xcandra, and he's looking for more opportunities, maybe to find a sneaky kill on the likes of the Malphite. You unfortunately can't move away from that Hectic Ultimatum, even with the Unstoppable Force. That's going to be the game plan for them. But so far, you can really see this is a very defensive position from Butterfly Dream for Yoda. And because of their composition, you want to be the one to initiate. How they're playing this game so far, it doesn't seem like they got that confidence anymore they had until the 12-minute mark.
Yeah, I think they're struggling to find a really strong setup. I mean, Vex has already forced a flash out here. That's a really nice flash to pick up. I mean, I'm not sure about this engage. You don't have the follow-up.
Oh, that's the big encore there onto the backline, but unfortunately, the team is not there to back it up. Final breath onto the Janna. Grizzly going to be moving away thanks to the flash. And now it's just looking horrible for Butterfly Dream for Yoda as they're all losing their life one by one. A little bit of a deep engage at the very end from Clamares, but you know what? Your team is there to back it up, so you'll be completely A-okay. 4 kills going over to Trovo Nova, and the Baron is still up, but not going to be their focus, apparently.
No, I would be just looking for inhibitors. If you can get inhibitor towers at this point, those are things that don't come back. So you're going to get natural pressure in any lane that you're able to take an inhibitor tower in. I would almost always choose an inhibitor tower if I could do it safely, because these are things that are going to be there creating natural pressure in a lane for you. They may even just be straight up looking for the game. 2 inhibitor towers is really strong. You have 15 seconds to go here, Max. This could be game 1.
I did not expect them to finish it this quickly. I mean, this is what the split push is coming up from Clamares allowed to set up, and now they're just going to hammer down on that Nexus, and that's it and done. We just got ourselves our first game of the entire Origin series given over to the likes of Trovo Nova in great fashions. Had a few little hiccups here and there because of the strong composition from Butterfly, but I mean, Trovo Nova coming into this, Xcandra, we were expecting them to take the win, and they take it very cleanly at the very end.
Yeah, and I think it was just a really awkward engage. And I get it. It was like you were trying to deal with the split push that was coming through, but it was an awkward engage. Yasuo had just flashed towards his tower. He couldn't follow up with the last breath on the Wukong engage. But even though Trovo Nova won, they're the expected winners, I was pleasantly surprised. I think Butterfly really made them work in the early game. I think they had a good cohesive team comp that had a clear idea, a clear identity, and that's what I do like. But I think Trovo Nova were just able to outplay at the end of the day.
Yeah. I do expect, though, looking back onto the draft, we had some bans that were maybe a little bit all over the place. Now that they played versus Trovo Nova once, maybe you're going to get rid of a few of the champions that caused you a lot of issues. Thinking especially back to Clamaris' pick of the Camille, that could be one of the champions you want to try and get rid of if possible. But there you go. That's going to be all said and done for our very first game. Congratulations to Trovo Nova, but that's just one game of the series. So we'll be heading over to a break. And after that, we'll be back with Trid on the desk to try and break down that game.
I've reclaimed myself back from the Shadow Realms, coming and joining these two fine gentlemen after that first match, which I think went a little bit faster than we were expecting, didn't it, Max?
A little bit of a speedy game right there, but as Xscoundrel touched upon, and I fully agree with, there were definitely some moments of greatness coming out from Butterfly Dream for Yoda. Already just purely in draft, there was a clear game plan that they executed really well, but coming into the second game, they need to find ways to deal with those split pushes that just split the team, and if the team's not together, well, the composition just kind of fall apart.
Yeah, I think there are limited areas that you can fight in Wild Rift, right? I think when you draft a team fight comp, you have certain points in the game where you're going to execute. Those points are like first dragon, where you're level 5, you have your ultimates unlocked. Second dragon, you don't usually like Fiesta Rift Herald. Some teams do. And then you have Baron, obviously, and then, you know, as it goes on. Other than that, you do generally tend to get these segmented skirmishes. So when you're drafting a team fight comp, you do put the pressure on yourself to say, when we have the opportunity to engage, we pull the go button and go for it. And I think there was just some hesitancy, like some hesitation around that in the early game. But we did see some elements of that team fight that worked really well for Butterfly Dream for Yoda. But I really think what we saw from Trovo Nova was just excellent idea about how to play the map, knowing to stay away from team fights, building gold leads through neutral objectives like split pushing and taking towers in the side lanes. And they knew they didn't want a 5v5. So why 5v5, right? They just grouped up in little skirmishes and played it that way. So they knew how to avoid this, and they played it well.
And that's the thing, right? Like when they did group and they were sat in the mid lane for a long time, about 12 minutes in, BDY, they actually found like a glimmer of hope. They found the team fight they were looking for. They layered the CC. They were able to actually have a definitive win, where in other areas of the map, they were struggling. So I was wondering if either of you could talk me through what was different about that fight in mid lane and what was wrong with the fight in top lane at the end, which ultimately lost them the game.
Yeah, I think in the mid lane, the fight that you saw where they actually won, it was really the only fight that they decisively won in the game.
Yeah.
Trovo Nova were grouped up. They'd just come off the back of a team fight win. They stayed around too long. They had a lot of gold in their back pockets that they hadn't spent. So the item discrepancies weren't as big as they maybe should have been. And they presented themselves as the tier 2 in the mid lane. And honestly, what I saw from Butterfly Dream was they just pulled the go button. They said, okay, Wukong go in, let's just engage. And that's what we need to see from them more. The top lane fight, very simple. Yasuo flashed towards his tower, and Wukong then decided that was the time to go in. So usually when you have a knockup, like a Malphite knockup or a Wukong knockup, you're looking for Yasuo ultimate straight away to kind of combo with it. Yasuo was way too far away from the team fight. Wukong set the team fight up by himself. And once that once that initial engage is gone for the Butterfly Dream comp, and you haven't immediately converted it into some kind of kills or some kind of chain CC combo, it's so easy for Trovo Nova to recover. So once they got through that first Wukong ultimate, they recovered.
Yeah, the composition worked out great that one time, then back in mid in the 12-minute mark. But also, you got to keep in mind that when you're coming into this tournament, and Trid talked about it earlier at the very start of the show, you had 370 teams that signed up. A lot of these guys signed up as a team, and they never played together before. And you can see that these few teams that we do not know of, and the players we do not know of, have to struggle potentially and work on that kind of synergy and that communication especially. I think that against the top teams that have been playing in so many of the past few community run tournaments, that is going to be the clear difference. It's how you communicate and how you control most of the map, which is the reason why Trovo Nova knew how to control the map and how to especially bully the composition of Butterfly into submission.
Yeah, and I think when you've got a Ziggs, it takes 3 to 5 seconds, especially towards the mid-late game, to get a tower. So you make one tiny error in rotations, and suddenly Trovo Nova pop out with a Olaf, a Camille, and a Ziggs, and the tower's gone. So you have limited windows to mistakes. And honestly, what we saw from Trovo Nova was they took those first-tier towers very easily. They pushed that vision line into the enemy jungle, and then they made those quick rotates between each of the lanes, just slowly chipping away at each of those towers in the lanes. And then once you built up a gold lead, they had a 10k gold lead by the time that team fight went wrong. It doesn't matter how well you execute on a team fight for Butterfly Dream, unless you're hitting the pitch perfect, which is just like making it so they can't do anything by chaining all of your CC together, which is very difficult to make work, by the way. you're looking at you're looking at a team that's going to have such a significant item advantage on you that even if they don't have a classic team fight comp, they are just going to win through pure item advantage. And that's really what we saw. Yes, okay, there was some missed execution, but it was just eventually some, winning through just pure item advantage.
And one of the things you touched on before you threw to the break was that, hey, okay, they kind of drafted around this wombo combo composition. There were a couple of inefficient picks or bans, the way you kind of posed it, Max. Going into game 2, what do you think would be a nice adaptation for them to explore? Do you think they could probably refine the wombo combo, or do you think they have to throw the playbook out and look for something different here?
I think there's definitely ways for them to refine the way they played it. I talked about synergy and communication. That's typically an issue you're going to try and resolve over days, weeks of play. So I don't think that's something they can right away fix throughout this series. So it might be a little bit harder. In terms of draft, I think you want to maybe try and get rid of those good split pushing champions, but you only got 2 bans per team. So that's kind of hard to do. If you take away the Camille, Fiora's available. Other champions are really good at doing that. So I would say if they can try and work on playing together a little bit more, that'd be great. But I said it can be a little bit complicated. But otherwise, I think the draft was pretty decent, but it's down to execution and the fact that Trovo Nova just definitely outscaling them in the entire game.
I would just get rid of Ziggs. I know Ahri might seem scary, but just get rid of Ziggs. I think Ziggs is too good and competitive right now. I think it's too easy for him to snowball advantages through tower taking. Towers are worth quite a lot of gold, and he's very obnoxious once he gets ahead in terms of the amount of poke that he can put out. Yeah, I think you actually had the remedy for poke. I think you had the hard engage here, but obviously we never really saw them find the correct opportunities to go in. So I think get rid of Ziggs. That would be my only adaptation. But honestly, I think they drafted a comp that if you are not confident in your individual players' matchups into your opposition, which against Trovo Nova, why would you not be? Like, these guys are some of the best in Europe. Then that kind of comp can work because you can just get to first dragon and hope they make a mistake and look for the engage and snowball it that way. So I actually think their comp made a lot of sense. I loved the identity of it, but it just was very difficult for them to properly execute because of the way that Trovo Nova kind of split the map.
Well, they've got their first taste of playing against Trovo Nova. They're definitely going to have some learnings from that. We're giving them some time to think about their draft, have a nice little break. We're going to do exactly the same thing. When we come back, we're going to start talking about game number 2. So make sure you're here after the break. Welcome back to the Origin series. We've already seen Trovo Nova take a 1-0 lead against Upstart's Butterfly Dream for Yoda. I'm never going to get tired of saying that name. And as always, I'm joined by Maxman and Xscoundrel to take us through all of tonight's action. So, gents, we're one game down. For people just tuning in, bit of an error for BDY was picking a wombo combo team and doing it out of comfort, but not really being able to adapt and keep up with what's happening with Trovo Nova's comp. Kiernan, I'm coming to you just for some general thoughts on what we need to see next.
As I said, like in the previous case, I don't think what they drafted was bad. Don't get me wrong. As I said, I love the identity of it. Like, I think it had a very clear purpose. But when you draft something that is purely team fight and doesn't really give you any other avenues, you do limit yourself to certain opportunities in the map to actually make it work. And those are usually around the big neutral objectives. And a lot of these team fight comps, they like to snowball off the first dragon of the game. That dragon that spawns very early on, they want to group up around it and just make it happen. But when you have someone like Clamares who loves, Camille and these split pushes, that it's so easy to cross map it and just trade and snowball through first tower taking gold and then eventually towers in other areas. So it's just about, I think they need to be more decisive and they need to just make those engages happen. I think they were waiting for the perfect moment. You're never going to find the perfect moment. You just need to make it. You need to go make it happen as soon as you find any opportunity to engage. Just try and do it.
Yeah, I agree. In general, it's going to be one of the attempts that they could try and go for BDY to try and potentially fix themselves and try and take a series off the likes of Trovo Nova. Though Trovo Nova, and we talked about this especially on the pre-show before this matchup, is that they got extremely big hero pools. All the players especially talked about Grizzly, the fact he can play anything. If you're talking just about drafts, it is so hard to push Trovo Nova in a corner unless you not only ban away really good priority picks, and one you talked about earlier, Xscoundrel, was potentially the Ziggs, you also got to pick them yourself. So you always know as a fact that Trovo Nova are going to have a draft, maybe not as good as what they initially anticipated, but they're still going to have a really good draft they can play and execute around really well. So it's mainly down to execution for BDY. If they want to try and take another game, they could try and go down to a similar strat. I think that could be fine, but it's how they play around the map and how they deal with those split pushes especially that will distinctively make the difference in the second game.
Well, we're jumping into pick and ban, so we're going to start seeing those differences coming through. We targeted saying, get the Ziggs out of the way in the banning phase first. That's what you want to see, Kiernan. Are you going to get your wish? We're going to find out. I think it has to be BDY. I don't think Trovo would opt into the Ziggs ban, would they?
Not when you're blue side. You would never usually opt into the blue side. Now they ban away the Draven. My assumption is that there is a Draven one trick on BDY. that is my assumption, because otherwise I don't know if you would ban Draven in other circumstances here. Braum ban is an interesting one that gets taken away. It's obviously a Grizzly Q, a very, very good Braum player. So yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense in that instance.
They might want to try and take. Sorry,
wasn't it Butterfly Dream for You that banned away it was Butterfly Dream for You that banned away they banned away the Draven. They banned away the Draven last time, right? Though it was Butterfly Dream for You that were on blue side, and no, Trovo Nova were blue side.
Trovo
Trovo they
Draven,
back to blue side. Yeah.
BD4Y banned Garen. Trovo then banned Gragas, and BD4Y then banned Ahri, which they've done again.
Yeah. So, okay, no issue with that one so far. It seemed like they're going to go down a pretty similar path, though Trovo Nova are going to get rid of that Wukong. So it seemed like they were still having a few issues with that wombo combo composition based around those initiations from the likes of the Malphite with the Unstoppable Force and also the Cyclone of the Wukong. So it seemed like they want to try and put a caveat to that kind of a plan that was set up by BDY early in this series, and they're going to go back towards the Kai'Sa. I mean, Vex was setting up those fights so well for the Kai'Sa, right? Put everyone down to minus 50% HP. Then the Kai'Sa with that Killer Instinct would go straight and get access to the backline. One of the few AD champions that can actually do that in the game currently, and that's why it worked out so good. But Garen, not banned this time, Xscoundrel, and that's going to be the first pick for BDY.
Yeah, Garen coming through, I don't blame them. Like, they're going to go for the Camille, so it's going to be Garen, Baron lane, Camille in the jungle. So they are trying to limit Clamares here. They're trying to make him feel a little bit more uncomfortable, but that will be Camille in the jungle. And then we're going to have, I have seen some Camille mid, but I'm not expecting Camille mid here. But Garen, very strong Baron laner if you can make him work. I wouldn't say he's like an automatic win type of champion. You have to have someone that's relatively good at frontlining to know how to pilot Garen. A lot of Garen's skill comes with the ability to know when you can't engage, and like a lot of it is like zoning the enemy team away, knowing when to be threatening, knowing when to peel off. Like it's a lot of nuance to the way that you play Garen on the front line, even if mechanically he's not that difficult of a champion to play. Like a boomer like me can play Garen. I love the Kai'Sa Janna lane though. It's just a super strong lane that's quite difficult to deal with, but BDY,
Ooh, they get it.
The Ziggs. This is looking like a spicy comp from Butterfly Dream right now. They're kind of drafting a lot of high tier picks.
Ooh. Okay, yeah, it is looking like an interesting pickup here, going for the likes of that Ziggs, working pretty good with the Galio also to back it up. So this is a big engaged potential type of composition coming out from BDY. I'm really enjoying it. Of course, you're going to have the backline just going to be continuously poking in this game. So I'm enjoying it. And also, if their focus is to try and get those towers, especially paired with a Camille, it's going to work out fantastically well. They're just yoinking some of the strats that were set up from Trovo Nova in that first game of this BO3 series. But now there you go. Clamaris, I talked about it. I love his Gragas. Maybe a little bit overzealous from time to time. He's going back towards the Gragas. And even though the Camille, I would say, is his best champion, his Gragas is definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, a couple of things that I want to just pick up from this draft phase. Camille Galio combo. It is disgusting to play against. You Camille ult someone, you Galio ultimate on top of Camille. There is no way that person escapes the knockup from the Galio ultimate, and then they get taunted, and it's very difficult to deal with. It's a very classic combo that is translated over to Wild Rift very nicely. Gragas is, in my opinion, if you're going to go for a tank, Gragas is the best option into Garen in the Baron lane. Now, a good Garen should be able to beat Gragas because you can silence his drunken rage animation, stopping him getting the empowered basic attack. But in practice, that's very difficult to do consistently. So Gragas is one of those champions that I think is very solid into Garen in the top lane. Tristana is the final pickup here. That is not something that a lot of European teams favor. If you watch the Icon series in the Summer Cup, Southeast Asian teams absolutely love Tristana, but from talking to most pro teams over here, Tristana is like, if I get Lulu, fair enough. Otherwise, no. So I'm interested to see how Tristana functions for Butterfly Dream, because not many AD carries value her quite highly right now in Europe.
Right, well, Kiernan, I'm going to let you explore that concept a little bit further, but first, I'm going to disappear. I'm going to let you two just go at it, and I'll touch back with you after the match.
Thank you very much, Trid, as always. And we've got some interesting picks here coming out for this second game of this series. Once again, what's going to be happening? Trovo Nova, they take the win. They go themselves straight into the quarterfinals. And if BDY do take the L, we still do have a loser bracket. So they go straight into the lower bracket and will be having a second opportunity to rise to the occasion and move their way forward. But yeah, Excalibur, you had a lot of things to say about that draft coming on through.
Yeah, sorry, I got a little bit carried away. Carried away.
It's passionate, man. Hey, 100K on YouTube, man. You're going for it, okay? You know what to talk about for the game right now. But this Tristana pick,
Wild Rift guys in gameplay.
There you go. But right now, I'm especially loving that Tristana pick. Reason why, she's played a lot in the Icon series, in the Summer Cup especially. She's got a really big pick rate recently, even though not being too popular, I would say, in Europe. So I'm actually really intrigued to see what's going to be the take of some of these CI/Turkish teams on the champion itself. They have a composition that can work really well around it. And you talked about it, right? The wombo combo between the Galio and the Camille. If you are able to single out one particular target from the side of Trovo Nova, there's no escape. If you have the burst there to back it up, you're going to be good. But Trovo Nova, the way to back it up, of course, is if they know which champion is going to be focused, boom, stasis enchant, you're golden. You're good to go. So that is going to be something that BDY is going to have to be able to deal with, but there's easy ways to find to play around that kind of stasis enchant.
I agree. I think stasis will be the big thing to pick up for both Kai'Sa and Seraphine in this game to ensure that they, stay safe versus that combo. But the problem is, if you prioritize stasis very early on, that's 800 gold investment that can limit some of your power spikes, especially for Kai'Sa, who has a very specific build that is designed to accelerate her evolutions as early as possible. So an 800 gold investment in stasis can often limit that and really limit your power output in the mid game. So the swings and roundabouts when dealing with these kind of engaged comps. My thought process for the Tristana is this. You have a Ziggs taking towers. You have a Tristana who can explosive shot the towers. It's very, very quick tower taking. So, you have a Camille, super quick, taking towers as well. Like, these guys will just be able to battering ram turrets and they will disappear in an instant. So that's my thought process for the Tristana here. I get it. I guess it's more of a tower taking focus coming out from Butterfly Dream. But overall, I think, Trovo Nova drafting what they felt was that they were comfortable with previously. They've got the Lee Sin as well, which is a super high priority jungler right now. Expecting Vex to be very aggressive in this matchup. And I'm still expecting Trovo Nova to sort of come out on top.
Yeah, I was especially wanted to talk about the Lee Sin that Vex used to play a long time ago. Then I think that especially the champion was getting banned a lot back in those community tournaments. So he went towards the Wukong, which works amazingly well, but they decided to ban the way the Wukong. And one thing about Lee Sin is he's good at virtually any stage of the game. He's strong early, he's strong mid, he's strong late game. He is the champion that will create those opportunities for you if needed. So then playing around that champion, I think, could definitely put a lot of issues in the mind of BDI.
There's a lot of discourse in the community about how Lee Sin sucks late game, but I completely disagree.
I like him.
No, okay, his damage falls offshore. He's not the tankiest in the world, but that kick will never not be useful. A good Lee Sin player can isolate a target, and that is the value of Lee Sin in the late game. He's all about finding those isolating kicks onto key targets that can set up for good, strong 45s. If I kick as a Lee Sin and I kill their mid lane or their AD carry and I die for it, that is a worth trade 1,000 times out of 1,000. Like, he can very easily set very strong plays up in that regard. So, I do really highly value Lee Sin in that sense.
Like a utility jungler almost. But back once again on the Rift for our second game of the series for BDY versus Trovo Nova. As BDY, they're going to be then onto the blue side this time around, and red side is going to be over to Trovo Nova. They're going to be checking out and putting a little bit of deep vision, especially thanks to Clemmer. He's going to put that vision on the blue buff up top to make sure they can exactly track down where the jungler of BDY is exactly going to roam, and that's going to maybe facilitate a few things for the likes of Vex and how he rotates. You want to gank very early on with this champion.
A couple of things to note here. This is something that we've seen some Lee Sins do. Because Krugs on the latest patch have had a HP nerf, you sometimes see Lee Sin start Krugs. You take the huge boost in experience that this camp gives you, and then you accelerate level 5 very quickly coming out of it because you get a bit of help from your laner. Bot lane as well, you saw Hydro and Grizzly Q in the brush and cheese. Look at the HP bars. I don't know if we can switch over to bot lane. Look at the HP bars of Luthien and Shift. What you can do as a Kai'Sa, if you're willing to cheese it, is to get into the brush and then wait until the enemy bot lane walks up and just press your first ability. And you instantly get isolated damage off on them before the wave hits. It's a very, very good way to punish people who go to help their jungler and just don't think about that brush ever being used. So I'm really, really impressed so far, because two things that, this new jungle pathing from Lee Sin that we've seen some junglers go for, and also just that very cheesy early start for Grizzly, Q, and Hydro. It's worked out nicely.
Yeah, also when you got the Zephyr coming out from Grizzly, despite that ability actually getting nerfed in the most recent patch, is still, Jun is still really good in terms of damage early game potential, so it's not going to hurt his opportunity too much. But I really like this Galio in the support position, though. A Scuttle here onto the bottom side of the map is going to be encountered. I like the fact that they're not trying to take the fight here for the side of BDY. Lee Sin, you have a nice rotation coming out from the bottom side. Also, an instant rotation coming out from Grizzly. And with this passive, that's going to be speeding up the move speed of your team. They're going to try and potentially get double Scuttle control. And double Scuttle control is going to be huge for Trovo Nova in this early stage.
Yeah, I love this from Grizzly. Like, just... so really intelligent pathing from Vex to begin with, right? Full red side clear. Camille doesn't want to fight you in the early game in the river, so Camille's going to do a full red side clear into her Scuttle because she doesn't want to go red-blue and expect Lee Sin to try and meet her there. So she tries to do something that's a little bit unexpected and go for a red side clear into the bottom Scuttle because you wouldn't expect it from a Camille, right? And so then he, Vex paths straight down there, knows that he can win that matchup early on as long as he dodges out the stun and takes that Scuttle. Then Grizzly Q, knowing that they have priority bot lane because they built a bit of priority in the early game. They have priority bot lane, uses that priority to roam up towards mid and secure the second Scuttle of the game. Really big for Vex because now he has a significant level advantage to work with.
Yeah, it could help them out quite a decent bit coming into this. But here we go, continuing it on into this game. About to hit the 3-minute mark. Bottom side, that's going to be Vex going for the rotation. Thanks to the ward, knows that could facilitate potential gank. But he's going to go back. He's just looking for opportunity. He's not going to be overzealous. So I like that coming out from Vex. That's one great mark that I've seen. And reason why potentially beat Scoundrel early in ranked. Is just going to be always roaming around the map in really good ways. But first Drake is going to be up in now just about 45 seconds. So team's going to have to think about their very first reset to have priority on those positions if possible. I'm really liking this matchup. Garen then into a Gragas, and Gragas into a Garen I think works amazingly well. You can very easily poke it down with those barrels. And we want to see Lonely Kid get to that late game, become the real beefy frontline tank we expect him to be. And that could really cause a big issue, especially for the likes of this Kai'Sa, that if he tries to reposition, you can just get smited instantly by that Demacian Justice. So you better be careful because Lonely Kid might take you down given the opportunity.
Honestly, I think Gragas is just as good as a tank in the late game, though. They both have natural damage reduction in their kits. I actually prefer Gragas as a late game utility pick because he has a little bit more CC, can split fights up a bit better, can peel a bit better as well. So I think it's pretty solid. That's why I like Garen as an answer Gragas as an answer into Garen. I think it's a little better. But obviously, the first Drake of the game is going to be the Cloud Drake. So this is a Drake that It's difficult to say. Riot published stats that it was the second Drake in terms of win stats, or it was the Drake that gave the highest win percentage. But then I think it's a little confounding because I think some people just prioritized it when they were so far ahead, so that when you took Cloud, you were already so far ahead anyway that it didn't matter. But regardless, it is something that Trovo want to group up and play for. I think they have a very strong team fight at this stage in the game with the Seraphine, and you have a massive advantage on Vex in terms of jungle levels. So they're going to get it for free, and you can see that Butterfly Dragon don't even care. They're not even going to bother. They're going to back off and stay fine.
Yeah, especially here, they're doing something very similar to what Trovo Nova did in that first game. They don't want to try and contest the Drake, but they know there's a big chance that they're not going to be able to take that fight. All the ultimates were up on both sides, and you know that, especially because of that encore, you get hit by that and you're basically done so. So I like that. BDY trying to take and learn from the strategy of Trovo Nova that they played up against in the first game. So that's a great mark of improvement of a team on the long term, thinking that potentially this is one of their very first tournaments, right? And they're trying their best to improve over time and get more skills under their belt. Mega Inferno Bomb under tower. Not going to connect, unfortunately, on the low HP bar of Post. So you'll make it back to base potentially. No first blood. This is definitely a lot slower pace than what we saw in the very first series, but I'm enjoying it. Seems to say that BDY is definitely learning as this series goes on.
Looks like Vex just getting aggressive here. He's going to wait for... Luthien knows what's up, though. Luthien is not going to get anywhere near this tower. He kind of understands that Lee has just walked into the jungle. They have got a ward just at the top red side entrance that's kind of scouted Lee heading into the jungle. Now, Lee has got priority bot lanes. This is why this invade makes sense. He goes for the kick.
Yeah, Dragon's Rage coming on through. Vex got himself a shield and is going to go for the ring gauge once more. That's going to be the first blood over to Trovo Nova, looking for the double, but unfortunately the minion wave is not there to back him up. So they're going to have to move away back into the jungle position. Bouncing Bomb doing some really good work onto Grizzly, actually. But Trovo Nova, that's the dive you're looking for. That's 500 gold. And with the Herald now being up, that could facilitate things for them.
Yeah, and I think realistically, it was a really nice, play around the fact that you have natural priority with a Kai'Sa Janna. Galio is very difficult to make that work. This is a very aggressive play from Urian, though. Couldn't get in range of the Hextech Ultimatum, and Hydra is able to stay safe. But that was just, Vex using the priority in the bot lane to go for a nice kick there. Got a knock up on it as well. Doesn't convert it, though. Like, I want to see some more conversion here from Trovo Nova. They haven't really been able to capitalize on any more neutral objectives. And I think with the Rift Herald up, this would be my play. Just try and get some setup around the Rift Herald. Rotate your bot lane up there. You're not going to get any love right now trying to clear out turrets versus a Galio and a Ziggs. So I think that, trying to set up for this Rift Herald would be the best thing that you can do on the map right now, because everywhere else seems a little bit like a dead end.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's really weird. There's no lane swaps happening at this stage of the game. Typically, around the Herald spawn time, that is when the lane swaps happen. But Grizzly, especially thanks to his passive, is going to allow potentially his team to roam a little bit faster around the Rift. Though, focus down, Body Slam connects onto Lonely Kid, and he's trying to bully him out of submission in that fight. Bottom side, though, that's going to be the Kai'Sa. Hydra taken down into submission, so that's going to be a 1-to-1 so far. But the Herald going extremely low. Vex will indeed pick it up at the end, but they got 4-man in top. Are they going to use it right away? I think they might give it a shot.
Well, they're losing first tower regardless here, Max. Yeah. Unfortunately, they rotated too many resources out of this lane, and actually, this was super clever from Butterfly Dream for you. They basically said, fine, you go for Herald. I have a bit of a rant about Herald, where it's like, if you lose first tower of the game when you go for Herald, was it really worth it? And the answer is most of the time, no. But if you can use Herald to go for a setup on the second Drake, especially with Infernal, then you might be able to get more value out of it. So that's what I expect Trovo Nova to do here. They're probably not going to use it to secure a tower. They've already lost first tower of the game, so what's the point? They're probably just going to now use it as a way to create natural priority in mid lane to get a good setup on the Infernal Drake, which is what I expect them to do within the next minute.
That's like one of the best setups you could hope for in terms of the objective spawns in the jungle. Have yourself the Herald spawn, pick it up, and then have straight away the dragon that's going to spawn, and that's going to be the Infernal. That's the best setup you could hope for in terms of the little bit of the RNG part of the game of Wild Rift, and that's going to be working great for Trovo Nova so far. Though top side, the tower did go pretty low, so they could have a little bit of cross-mapping happen here and potentially make it even. Sylvie's going to get taunted away. Body Slam. Going to be able to actually move that one out of submission, but Silver E's got to be careful. Tries to get himself the ultimate to reposition with the jumps also. But he's just collapsed upon by 4 players, and Trovo Nova starting to get to the stage where they want to team fight, get those priority in the engages, and that is definitely going to give a huge kick to the knee on the side of BDY for this first Infernal Drake.
Yeah, that's why Gragas is good in these scenarios. He buys time, he can separate out team fights, and now the Infernal Dragon is up. You have a man advantage to work with. No Galio ultimates. That Camille Galio combo is kind of out the window. I think you're looking for a Urian steal here. This is one of the dragons that I do think is worth going for.
Oh, he gets it! Oh, the steal away coming up from Miriam is big. The encore connects on only one, connected by the root right after, but Trova Nova, unfortunately, health bar all looking too good. Demacian Justice does get some significant damage, but not able to get the kill on Pose whatsoever. And now you go a little bit too deep. Lonely Kid, you're going to get punished, mate. You were in danger. As now the mid tower is open, they still got the Herald. Are they going to use it now? That seems like that's going to be a yes.
It feels like a Rage Herald right now because I actually don't know if you're going to be able to get this first tower of the game. You can see there's a lot of healthy HP bars. There's still a Ziggs here. You do have to be careful. I don't know if Trova Nova can convert. I mean, Vex is going to have to look for a big engage if they want to make it work.
Oh, maybe. There you go. They poke them out pretty low. I think if the sweep slows down Vex for the time being. I thought if they did keep the Seraphine on the front line, if Pona was there, maybe he could have scared away a few more players of the likes of BDY, but apparently not going to happen just yet. But there's still, that's 2 plays. That's some extra gold coming your way. And talking about gold, we're just about 200 in favor of Trova Nova. Not insane for a game that's now hit the 10-minute mark. I suppose they're going to 1v1, gets ulted away, and that's going to be Luthien finding a very easy peek. I mean, yeah, Seraphine, there's not much you can do against that mobility.
Oh no. Has the Infernal Steel tilted Trova Nova? Because that is the game it's separated out here. Looks like they should be able to get the kill onto the Camille. Nice pick up there with the Hydro, just able to get it. A double kill for Hydro, though, just off screen, picking up the Ziggs. That is a really good little bite back here and should open up an opportunity for this mid lane tier 1.
It's always so scary when you see a Kai'Sa get fed around the 10-minute mark. Reason why, she is a very late game scaling champion. She's going to get stronger and stronger as the game goes on. And she's already looking really comfortable. And Hydro, if he keeps on down this line, I will not be able to give this game over to BDY, despite the goal being a lot closer compared to what we saw by game 1 between these two teams of BDY and Trova Nova. I think this is slowly but surely slipping away. And now the Stasis Enchant is coming on through. And we talked about that in the draft phase, right, Excadrill? About how you get yourself the Stasis Enchant, the combo is not going to work anymore for the Camille and also for the Galio. That Stasis Enchant is everything, as now Hydra not only is going to do an insane amount of damage, but also will be able to just cleanly and easily move away from those big engages.
Yeah, it looks like they're going towards the Gragas, but again, like Gragas, he'll be able to buy time here if the Camille ults. I mean, look at this. The whole team's responded.
Yeah, teleport. There you go. That's scaring them away. BDY, they do not want to get involved with this one. Nice on Cork and a little bit of extra CC. And the Monsoon is clinical, moving away that fight. And the team synergy is just destroyed for BDY. They take themselves down a few more players, 3 to be exact. And now they can try and crack him to open the Baron in the mid lane.
That piece of decision making is what I'm a little questioning. I think at the end of the day, like, why are you trying to kill a tank Gragas as a tank Garen and a Camille who doesn't get a huge amount of gold from the jungle right now? I'm not entirely convinced that was the play. It looks like they're going to be able to take up the Ziggs here as well. It should be able to then get back onto the Baron, and an easy take here for Trova Nova. And that was off the back of what felt like a bit of a questionable gank. Like, why are you investing resources into trying to take out the tank Gragas at 12 minutes into the game? It doesn't feel worth it, you know? And it clearly wasn't, as Trova Nova now pick up a huge neutral objective. And with the Mountain Drake spawning relatively soon, I feel that's going to go uncontested by Birthday Dream.
Yeah, and there's a Stasis Enchant actually just got purchased by Pose, and he's going for the full AP route. I'm trying to see how that's coming on through. But agree, Clamara should definitely not be the focus. Here it should be on Hydro. Pose too, if you can get on top of him, that's great. But you want to try and burn those Stasis Enchants, even if it's just by faking an engage, scare them away, pop that active item, and then maybe get yourself a good fight to follow up, but not going to happen just yet, as Galio's going to go for the push. Dragon's Rage actually going to be used up by Vex. Really doesn't want to be caught out here as the mid lane pushing as a 3-man crew for Trova Nova.
Yeah, and with Baron, you can now start to split the map easily. We're in a 1-3-1 with Vex actually acting as a split push in the side lane here as well. Just trying to utilize that Baron buff in every single lane. Does look like Birthday Dream are trying to rotate between mid and bot as much as possible, but these rotations open up these opportunities to go for the extra towers, and that's already 2 towers taken very quickly here for Trova Nova. They should be able to utilize this Baron buff, and one of the ways to deal with Ziggs quite nicely is the Baron. It makes Ziggs wave clear much more difficult to make work effectively. He can't clear the waves out as easily, and it looks like this will be at least mid lane tier 1 of the engage comes through.
Yeah, there you go. Stasis Enchant going to be burned away by Hydro, but he's still going to be good to go. And now they turn the tides in their favor as BDY lose himself 2 players. Luthien and Urian will be losing their life in the process. The ult comes down, Clamarish, but he's still... Okay, no, I take it back. He dies to the last Ignite tick. Is going to be very unfortunate for him. That's going to be a trade-off at the end, but only a 2-for-1. And they're still hammering down these towers. And it's so hard. You talked about the Baron buff. I still think it's busted in the current landscape of the game because WAM can do nothing. It's too good, man.
Minions are just too strong with Baron buff. Honestly, they're so strong with Baron buff. It's difficult to clear those waves. Like Ziggs is probably the best wave clearer in the game, and he struggles to clear those waves with the Baron buff on. 2 inhibitor towers, they never come back. That is natural pressure in your bot and mid lane created for Trovo Nova, and this is the point in the game where you're thinking difficult for Birthday Dream if they want to go back into the series. I have only ever lost 1 game where I took all 3 inhibitor towers, and that was versus an enemy Vayne, and they kind of smurfed it. But yeah, it's a very difficult when you take these big permanent objectives like those inhibitor towers, and now all you need to see Trovo Nova do is just let that natural pressure push through bot lane, push through mid lane. You can even group up top lane and look to pressure out that tier 2 inhibitor tower as well. And with Baron spawning, if you just let that bot lane do its thing, eventually someone's going to have to respond to it, and then you can start up that Baron.
Yeah, you can just very quickly threaten that Baron, force the fight to come your way, and off of that, you just win the game. You don't even need the Baron buff. With those 2 inhib towers, you're basically set for victory almost, and it's very rare to see a comeback happen in those kind of situations. Teleport being purchased by Urian, is that going to help? I'm not too sure, but things could potentially come on through later on. But Butterfly Dream for Yoda, going to still give it their best shot. Top side of the map, nice little bit of CC connecting down from the likes of Pose. Going to be able to move away. Clamara's going to be safe, but there you go. That's the big push. 3 players of Trovo Nova in the mid lane position. They already got the inhib, but they just want to try and get those pokes, especially for the likes of Pose and Hydro. But I've got to say, the setups of BDY are pretty clean. They're not giving away too much, but unfortunately, they were split because of that push coming out from Trovo Nova in the mid lane, so that tower should fall in the very, very near future.
Yeah, look at this though. Vex goes
Dragon's
in.
Rage. Dragon's Rage, the young core connects on so many targets. That's the setup, but they're just too far. You can't close the gap just yet. Trovo Nova going to be at the end losing Pose, but he done what he was supposed to do. He used the ulti, and he did it extremely, extremely well. Flash forward, he has to go golden last second. One will potentially lose his life to the body slam and into the empowered basic attack. That is going to be potentially GG there. Scoundrel. Explosive cast a little bit off put from Clamaris, and he's taken a severe beating by Luthien. But Luthien will be still able to make it back to the fountain. And I believe Xscoundrel here, we're looking at the final moments of BDY in this game as Trovo Nova are looking to close this one off.
They got so much time to work with here. Going to shove those minion waves in. You can see a kick comes through the flash kick there from Vex. And this will be GG's for Trovo Nova.
Yep, Trovo Nova, congratulations, taking himself the first series of the Origin series flawlessly 2-0. A few little hiccups here and there, but still looking clearly as one of the favorites in Group B, and they are proving us why right here, right now. BDY, I gotta say, big respects. They tried some things. I especially really enjoyed that first game and how they drafted it, but at the end, they go back to the lower bracket, and we'll see if they can make it to the next stage. But Trovo Nova, pretty easy walk in the park this game.
Yeah, it definitely felt that first game. There was some elements, some shakes from Trovo Nova. The early game was definitely a lot stronger than I was expecting from Butterfly Dream for Yoda. But honestly, Trovo Nova came clean in that second game. Like super, super good stuff. Like Vex clearly just styling on the Lee Sin, took over the map. And honestly, that very early roam to double scuttle really put Camille too far behind here. And then a lot of focus on the Garen, you know, from the Camille, trying to go for a tank Gragas kill over and over again, I think really shot Butterfly and Dream for Yoda in the foot because they were never able to convert. And then eventually Trovo Nova just again categorically squeezing the map, taking every objective that they can, and had a huge gold lead to work with by the end.
Yeah, hopefully this is something the Butterfly Dream for Yoda can take as a great learning experience and try and use and improve upon their very strong basis that they showed throughout the series versus Trovo Nova. But with that said, myself and Xscoundrel are going to head on over to a very short break, and we'll be back in just a bit for another guest segment to break down this game that happened between these two teams.
Well, this is the nature of best of 3 series. You win 2 maps, it's all over. Trovo Nova, proven they are the dominant force, they'll be moving through to the next round, but it's not all over yet. For Butterfly Dream for Yoda, they get to go and try and have a lower bracket run. Well, guys, I was looking at that Pras matchup, and it didn't really look like Butterfly Dream for Yoda had much into the game, really. They had a cheeky little dragon steal the Infernal. I liked what you said there, Kieran, about being an angry herald in the mid lane. That might not have been the best use of time. But I kind of want to kick things off with, you know, we had that Galio Camille combo that was going on, I believe, and there was lots of instances where they weren't able to really set that up. One of the problems that they had, I noticed you said about 12-minute mark, they were sending a lot of resources top to go and take out a Gragas tank in the top lane. Is that really an efficient use of time?
I think you heard it from my voice. No. I think realistically at that point, like you were just looking for anything as I keep saying Birthday Dream. That's the better name, guys. Change your name to Birthday Dream for Yoda. for Butterfly Dream for Yoda, like they were clearly looking for something to do. Obviously, Garen has got a big execute with true damage. So Garen's ultimate is true damage. It's got execute on it. You can definitely take out tanks with it. But like it's so difficult to get him to the HP threshold where that's going to be relevant, and it takes too much time. And honestly, Trovo Nova were just easily able to respond on the map. So yeah, I think realistically, it wasn't the best use of time. But I think when they were doing that, the game was kind of already lost. Honestly, at 12 minutes.
Yeah, it's not even only that the issue. You talked about him trying to focus down the tanks. He was trying to sometimes to even focus the backline, get himself on top of Hydro, on top of Pose. The thing is, you're going to the backline, you got that beefy front line actually coming out from Trovo Nova. You're going to get surrounded, and unfortunately, during that ult animation, you're just going to take a severe beating, which happened most of the time. He tried to go for those kills. Not only would he not find that kill, but then he would just die himself, and then get themselves the man advantage as a 5v4, and because it's Trovo Nova, they're going to do what Trovo Nova does, and they're going to win the fight right after because it's a 5v4. So there were some ideas I think that they understood, but the execution still I think is a little bit all over the place, and that's definitely one thing they can try and improve on going into the lower bracket.
I feel like for BDY, a lot of it was just like in the early game they had under control. Like another thing I go back to is that cross map they took. They traded Herald out for the first tower, so they understand what they're doing, and in execution it's fine, but. You know, I feel like the later the game goes on, the more of the inefficiencies really turn up with this team. And a team like Trovo Nova really know how to exploit it, stay on game plan, and just keep eking out that advantage.
I think from what Birthday Dream for you is they clearly have like the first 5 minutes planned out in their head. Like every time they know exactly where they want to be. They know where their strengths lie. Again, you're right. That first tower take trade was super good. I think it made use of the resources that they had. The problem is when you throw them something that they're not prepared to deal with. And that's what I feel like Trovo Nova were asking questions. They were saying, what are you going to do about this now? And Butterfly Dream were like, didn't prepare for this. Not sure. Let's gank Gragas. So like it just felt like there wasn't a clear idea about how to deal with kind of like the mid game, which is where Trovo Nova really accelerated. Like Trovo Nova was super good at accelerating the mid game, and it just felt like Butterfly Dream had this really good early game plan every time, and then when they came a little undone because Trovo Nova were asking difficult questions, they didn't know how to respond, and that's where Trovo Nova took over and accelerated.
Okay, Max, I'm going to ask you a little bit of a difficult question in that vein.
Okay.
So Trovo Nova, obviously they won 2-0. They looked very control of the series. Against a maybe stronger opponent, where were some of the ways that Trovo could have improved their games, right? Where were the little like drawbacks in the gameplay, the kind of cracks in the armor that are already starting to emerge with this team? Were you able to spot any in the first two games?
I would say one point that I also brought up, and I did see it happen a few times, especially in the first game. I think second game was not all that much present, but in the first game it was pretty visible sometimes. Clamaris likes to split push. It's this key gameplay style that he likes to go towards. He's like a Leon 2.0 in this one. He just likes to split push 24/7, and if you're a team that responds really well to that, you can very easily collapse, get yourself a kill, and then you got a 5v4. And if you turn that into objective control, potentially even more map control, and take yourself a few towers or dragons off of that, you could try and get priority. That could be one of the ways to do it, but I think that Clamaris throughout the past few months has definitely improved on that aspect of the game, so he's a little bit harder to catch out in those split pushes. But it's something that if you know how to play around Clamaris properly and you've done your prep before the game, it is something you could try and turn in your favor if you play it correctly.
I think, unironically, the first game, Clamaris was smurfed because those pressure points that he was putting out on the side of the map was good. It took that team fight comp apart, right? Like it took the idea of this wombo combo team fight apart. And the second game, like your tank Gragas, you're never going to die anyway. You saw it every time. Even if you overextend, tank Gragas just lives forever, and his team were able to respond. So in this series, like I don't think it mattered. And unironically, the first game, I think it actually helped. So yeah, I think Trovo Nova looked impressive from their first game. I know it wasn't the toughest of competition, but I'm impressed from what I've seen.
All right, well, I know there's been a lot of talk of Clamaris. That's really convenient. I don't know if you guys were planning that at all, because we actually have Clamaris for an interview right now. So I'm going to say goodbye to you two. I'm going to bring him in. We're going to have a quick chat, and then I'll pop in with you guys in a second, all right? All right. See what we got. Clamaris!
Hello. How you doing?
Hello. I bet you're feeling good after that, right? First win in the Origin series. First one on stream as well. So you got people talking about Trovo Nova. That's got to feel good.
Yeah. I saw a lot of support on the chat. We weren't nervous at all, but first game is always difficult, so we need to do our best. I think we play very, very solid both games. Different play styles both, because we have a split pusher and team fight comp second game, but overall I'm pretty happy for the team.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that first game, actually, because it was very clearly defined what BDY were going to do, right? They drafted a Wombo team, right? What was the game plan going in there? Because the analysts were saying to me that you're a bit of a split push king. So that's your kingdom, right? Put pressure away from the Wombo combo, try and play around the side lanes. Was that the plan, right?
I have to say that I wasn't a split pusher for most of the time. But with the meta, I need to change my playstyle from tanks to split pushers. And for first game, overall, we were not going to fight any objective because they have pretty strong 5v5. I just need to be like alone, split pushing, getting gold, making enough pressure to Malphite to not TP. And after I got killed first levels, they used both ultimates, Wukong and Malphite. We were down to fight for Drake. But after we couldn't do it in time, we just drop it and go top, following the standard plan. And that's all, just split push and wait for me to get enough pressure to just join fights, catch backline, Seraphine, because I couldn't do nothing to tanks. That's the game first.
So I'm going to ask you a quick question about Baron lane. I'm going to pick your brain on that one. What's the strongest Baron laners at the moment? Who are they? Are they the tanks? Is that what we're seeing? Dominant tanks in the Baron lane right now, or is it something else we're missing?
I think the strongest, depends on playstyle on the team, but I think Garen is the most broken tank because he's unkillable. But it's true that he's Garen. He cannot do like Gragas, hard engage or... but yeah, Garen, Gragas, I think are the most broken tanks in top lane. Then Camille, I think is the... Not only for top lane, but you can flex the pick. You can pick Camille for 2 roles. But Fiora also. I think Camille, Fiora, Gragas, Garen are the best for top lane. I saw Riven, Irelia, but I think in competitive they are not seen a lot. They are not very picked. But let's see with time if people know how to play them.
All right, so we're going to move on quickly. Looking ahead, right? There are a lot of teams here in the tournament, especially in your group, that people are saying are going to be... well, there's a lot of names, shall we say. You're not in Group A with some of the other teams we're looking for, but in your group, what are the teams that Trovo Nova are kind of curious about or a little bit worried about maybe that you think may be getting to the later stages of the tournament with you?
Yeah, I don't know most of the teams because they are not from my region, but we already play each other, like Navi. I think Navi are pretty decent team. Unicos of Love, we play a lot against them in European leagues and scrims. But also, I think IW, Footballist, and Fastplay Wildcats. I think they are the best teams in the group. I don't know if they match each other early, in early stage of the tournament, but I think they are the teams who you need to take care of. Yeah.
Well, we've got a double Elim bracket, so they do lose that. We'll probably see them find a way to get to the end. But Clemars, before I send you away, is there any messages you want to give to your team, your fans, any shout outs? The stage is yours.
I'm the only one Spanish, but I will not talk about this because I want everyone to support my entire team. I think we will do very, very, very good games to impress the viewers that I see. They are a lot. I think we play very, very fun games. I hope they support until the end, and I hope we can make it to every monthly. And I hope they are happy to see us win. I don't know, it freezes a bit.
Yeah, don't worry about it, Clemars. Thank you so much for all your kind words and your well wishes, and good luck with the rest of the tournament.
Thank you, Thomas. Bye.
All right, let's get the other two in. Kin, I saw a very smug message from you in our Discord chat when that was going down. Do you want to explain yourself?
Look, Clemara's just listed, the best picks in the Baron lane right now, and if you're going to go look at a potential tier list out there, Scoundrels, Wild Rift guides and gameplay, the tier list does kind of put the Fiora, the Garen, and the Gragas at the top end of the tier list, with Camille just up there as well. So I'm just saying, Clemara's has justified me. He's justified me. But I love to hear from Clemara's. He's a great player, and I do think that Trovo Nova are going to do really well. And as he said, like, he had to adapt his playstyle because it has become a bit of a tank meta. Like when Clamara's started, it was just split push meta. Like it kind of was like just playing Camille, playing Fiora, just going all out in the side lanes. It's why you saw people like Leon do like insanely well early season 1, because that was just the playstyle these guys liked. They just forced the 1v1, went in over and over again. But yeah, it was it was good to see that he's kind of adapting his playstyle, and that was a good Gragas game from him.
Yeah, I mean, also, you had a bunch of One Piece posters in the background. If you like One Piece, you're my best friend by default, okay? I got a bunch you can't see right now. So, yeah, good interview with Clamaris, and also talking about how they were intending to go through this one. So, I clearly in their group, I'm expecting them to be into the finals. So, I'm intrigued to see what's going to be their take in, you know, the quarterfinals, semifinals, and hopefully for them in the finals if they do make it that far.
All right, I want to loop it back to game 2 because we talked about a few instances of some misplays that are happening, right? But I want to talk a little bit about some ganking on Gragas, right? We had that 11-minute counter gank that came in when they were trying to shut down a big tank one. Yeah, I'm wondering if you could walk us through this first drawing board section and like really go through exactly what are the problems and how maybe it might have been played a little bit better.
Right. Okay. So take a look at the map state right now. You can see the map state. Hopefully this is a big enough line. This is the half of the Butterfly Dream for Yoda team, right? Mm-hmm. They are here. You don't have any vision. You've got no vision of where the rest of the Trovo Nova team is, but you see Lee Sin bot. So this is the theory, right? This is what's happened in the heads of Butterfly Dream for Yoda. You're like, okay, Lee's bot. That probably means that his team is floating somewhere between here and here, because it's very unusual to have your jungler on the other side of the map to the rest of your team. It doesn't happen, especially when Baron is up. So you're expecting like the rest of his team to kind of be hovering around the area. So you see Lee bot, you're like, okay, maybe I can make a gank happen on Gragas. So I get the theory, but you didn't really have the vision to compensate. You've got no vision in this area of the map. So if we play it out, this is like one of those ganks that we saw. I'm going to play it out. There we go. There we go. It worked. And again, right, Clamares, he's super tanky at this point. If you look at the items he's got, it's ridiculous. You blow the ultimate on him and immediately the entire team collapses. Yes, okay, the Galio joins, but the rest of the team comes through. And this was a teleport Lee Sin, by the way, something that they probably weren't even expecting. A teleport Lee Sin in the side lanes in the jungle teleports into this fight. And then that sets up the perfect fight for the Baron. Again, it's lack of vision. And also, I guess, not really fully expecting A, teleport Lee Sin, but B, also expecting the rest of the team to be so far separated from their jungler on the bottom side of the map. And that happened a couple of times this game. And it was just, again, a lack of vision from Butterfly Dream for Yoda. And I genuinely think that they got baited by Lee Sin showing himself on bot side of the map.
Yeah, and also Luthien tried to actually fail for that bait in the first place. He went right down to the bottom lane, and then the TP, as you mentioned, did come on through. So they got himself a fight in a 5v4 that's really hard to deal with. And that's what's so strong about Trovo Nova. We saw them try and do that, especially in the past of the few community tournaments that we're involved with. They like to subjugate your expectations and try and maybe kind of wreck and shut down your kind of expectations of what's going to happen in a game, depending on what draft they're playing around. I mean, you talked about it, right? TP Lee Sin, you don't see that every single day. It's something very out of the ordinary, especially in the jungle position, and they play around it so well and execute it really well, known as something that's not very popular and common, which is why I think that is some of the strengths of Trovo Nova, is when they're playing something or playing into something they're not really used to, they can adapt really quickly on the fly and just try and mess you up really quickly, which happened in that game, happened in that fight you talked about, Xscandrel, and they built a big lead off of that fight initially.
Yeah, at this point they were 5k behind at 11 minutes, which is not an insurmountable lead. Like, it's a big lead, but not an insurmountable lead. But then that Baron, that was the platform that basically sealed the deal. That Baron that they took, they set up for after this, sealed the deal for the game, honestly, at this point. And yeah, Trovo Nova were able to just very cleanly finish the game from that.
Now, we don't have the clip to necessarily back this one up, but I know you had a lot of high praise for the double scuttle take in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, that was really good.
I was wondering if you could talk about how important that was.
Yeah, that was basically, so when you take double scuttle, you eliminate a lot of early gank pressure that can come through because you have good control on both rivers. So as a Camille, the game plan for most Camille's is get level 5 by about 2 minutes, walk into a lane with Hextech Ultimatum, get a kill, you roll in, right? That's a good place to start. Double scuttling her puts you further behind. You don't have much control of the river area, so it's difficult for you to get out and look for a gank opportunity. It gives Lee Sin a lot of free control, which allows him to be more aggressive and either look to match you or look to get an invade off. So it was just a really nice way to put the Camille a little bit further behind in the early game here, which I thought was very clever. And I love the roam from Grizzly. I praised this guy so much. I thought he had an insane performance this game in both games in the series as well.
All right, well, we've had one team go through to the next round. Plenty others are doing the exact same thing in the background. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to bring you another matchup in the Origin series. Look, I told you we'd end up coming back for a banger. I think we've actually managed to secure one, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, because it appears as though we're going to get Reason Gaming versus Luminous Charm in the Group A lower bracket. So we're getting ready to send teams home already, and one of these two teams, I hope it's not Reason, because they're a UK team. I'd rather not see them get home just yet. I'm sure Max will be happy about it, but Kin's fine with this.
No, we've got Resolve. We've got Resolve in the bracket still.
Yeah,
Resolve
we got a few. I'm saying I don't want to see any of them go home, though, mate. I want to see them strive.
It's going to happen, man. It's going to have to happen eventually.
Reason were in the finals of a recent tournament, and they played up against Singularity, got battered, but nonetheless they got to the finals. Resolve have actually made it through to the quarterfinals of Group A, and Resolve is the team with It's Stuart on. If you guys know It's Stuart, he's a pretty popular Wild Rift streamer from the UK. Content creator for XL, even though he plays for a different team, but there you go. So that's his team. But I believe we're jumping into the Reason Gaming Luminous Charm game, and I do already believe that it is 0-1 to Luminous Gaming. So I think we're actually jumping into the second game of this series, where Luminous already have a win.
Yeah, we will be jumping into that one, but we need to... Ooh, is that... Don't think that's the right team roster card.
It's not, don't worry about it, ignore it. That's Dark Passage versus something else.
Yeah, that's fine. They're probably playing somewhere else right now, but Luminous Charm, they're up in the lead. And when we got that result in, and we got told about that, there was a few surprises from UT. You didn't expect Reason to be going down one map so early, right?
I'm going to yoink forward the point that Scandal just made, which is, one recent, 2-month-long tournament that we all actually covered, right? And they made it right to the finals. They were definitely, I would say, the rising star of the entire event. The Dark Horse actually made it right to the finals. And we were expecting them to, I would say, I would have really liked if they pushed Game Lord to a Game 3. It was a 2-0. It was one of the hardest matchups coming into it, so not quite able to happen at the end. Here we go. We got the proper rosters coming into this one. But now you're looking at this matchup versus Luminous Charm. This should be a team that they should be able to take down in a Beer 3 matchup. But Luminous Charm taking the very first game, it is a big surprise. And you got Sanji here, which was one of the players that we did recognize here coming into it, Xscandrel. Actually on the team, and he could definitely bring some really good map control in the jungle position for his team, and it might be the reason why they won that first game of the series off against the likes of Reason Gaming.
So we're all familiar with Reason. As you said, we covered a tournament recently where Reason were involved. But what do we know about Luminous Charm? Are there any players that you can recognize from other teams, or any standouts we should be keeping an eye on?
As Max mentioned, Sanji's the guy that I recognize from Solo Queue specifically. Sanji's I've kind of seen play. In fact, actually one of our co-commentators, Desertu, who some of you might know, he played 3 games in a row yesterday, I believe on Sunday, and he camped Sanji's Baron lane and killed him every time.
Sweet. So... He was camping Sui.
Oh yeah. So he was just like basically tilting him before Origin Series. That was his plan. Doesn't look like it's worked though, because he is 1-0 up against Reason right now. But yeah, Sanji's the guy that I recognize. I've also played with Pastu, I think, as well. But again, a lot of these players I'm not massively familiar with, but Sanji is the guy that I'm familiar with. In fact, I've played against him in solo queue a hell of a lot recently. He's got a pretty mean Lee Sin, so I'm expecting Lee Sin to be a relatively high priority for him.
I feel bad compared to Xscandrel. He's able to play against a lot of these guys in ranked, and I'm just a diamond play. You can spam Keck W in the chat. I get it, but okay.
Right? Do you want to hear my route for success?
I get elo boosted. Is that it?
Yeah. Play Garen until master. Play Garen until master tier. Then recruit either Joey, Skags, or Keys and play with them and support Joey. And then get I'm the Doom to play with you every single game, who's the rank 1 player on the server. It's easy. Like, I just don't know how anyone
Why doesn't everyone do it, huh?
Yeah,
why doesn't everyone
do
just find all
this?
these really cool pro players and start getting themselves boosted? It's so easy, dude. What are you talking about?
To be fair, I'm being harsh to myself. I'm actually a relatively good support. I'm pretty decent. I think someone asked me the question, they were like, what elo do you think you really are? I think I'm probably like a good red master tier, like Splashing Ground master tier support, but yeah. That's my key to success.
Key to success. Play Garen to master, then get boosted by pro players. But anyway, Max, I've got to ask you then. Like you said there already, that you're a bit of a diamond player. Keck W in the chat is what's going to happen here. What's the reaction then to someone who's in Emerald? Because I'm not even at your level yet.
Hey, bro, you'll get this fine. I mean, I'm a support player, okay? I'm a support main, so I got there with my sweat and tear. Also, Jason did carry me a little bit. Thank you very much, Jason. I mean, Emerald's fine. You got to start somewhere, right? And I'm sure that you talked about it at the very start of the show. 370 teams did sign up in this one. I'm sure if you were Emerald, no, that's fine. There's no issues with that. You could potentially...
Emerald's people are slating. Emerald's fine. Emerald's above average, mate. Above average. I think the average elo in Wild Rift is platinum. So you're technically above average, mate. So don't put
the only thing I'm above average in, mate, is great. Is I can just hold that over me. Yeah. Anyway, I never hit plat in PC version of League of Legends. So to hit Emerald was just like a massive bonus.
Just high five yourself. Good job.
Yeah. Wait, make sure it's on camera. Which hand is it? This one?
Oh wait, no. I was going to slap Scoundrel. There you go.
Oh, wait,
okay, we're done. No,
I'm just going to high five myself. Yeah. I don't even know what that was. Lads, I have no idea what you
I don't know.
All right, we had a massive tangent there. We spoke about ranks. We've padded the egos a little bit. Thanks for the boost, lads. Really appreciate it. But we know a little bit about Reason Gaming. So why don't we talk to the audience about what we expect to see from them? A couple of players and good performance. Like you said, they were a dark horse in this recent tournament that we covered. National tournament within the UK. What about them? What about the team really led them to success here? What was their standout moments, their standout attributes?
When you talk about Reason Gaming, there's one player that really stands out to me, for me at least, when I've been looking on that prior tournament we covered just a few weeks ago now, is Jash. Jash, a German player, is extremely talented when it comes down to playing one champion, specifically in the Dragon Lane position, and that is mainly Tristana. Tristana is very popular now back in the Icon series, the Summer Cup that's currently unfolding. It's picked quite a bit up against the likes of, Ezreal and also there's Kaisers. And I don't think a lot of these teams has experience with Tristana. Of course, they know how they play, but it might be a little bit harder to deal with it itself. So I think Jash here might be the reason why you see Reason Gaming actually go really far in this one. That is if you pick it. Of course, we'll check out in this pick and bane phase. But Tristana is definitely a champion that I'm hoping to see picked for Reason Gaming.
And remember, it is, of course, Luminosity Charm leading the series 1-0 at the moment. So this is the last potential match for Reason Gaming. If they lose this, they're out of this monthly cup altogether. It all comes down to one match in.
Yeah, okay, so at least in ban makes a hell of a lot of sense. Like, you're going up against Sanji, and I think that's one of his best champions. I think he's got a lot of Lee Sin experience. Tristana, there you mentioned it. Josh is not going to get his hands on Tristana here, so that will be banned away. Would not be surprised to see the final ban from Luminosity to be Garen, because Kapana is a big Garen player. I think, he's got a lot of Garen experience, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's not banned, it gets first picked. But it doesn't mean you can't ban Ziggs. So then Ziggs also comes into play in this game too.
Yeah, also with Ice currently, the jungler for Reason Gaming could play a little bit of Lee Sin back and forth, so it seems like the game plan is not towards that Lee Sin. Maybe they have something that they have preempted before actually coming into this second game of the series, because you got to keep in mind, there was the first game here that Reason Gaming did lose to Luminous Charm. Something happened over there, so these might be a response to what happened in that first game that we don't know about, and they're completely shifting their playstyle or the draft coming into it, which is why you see these more specific bans, especially the Tristana I'm thinking about. They might have struggled against it a little bit, but at the end, it was still really dominant, and they were able to win against it. That was the reason why they banned it away. But Reason Gaming, there you go. The first pick of this game for them is going to be the Camille, and that's going to go over to none other than Kapana, which has played it a pretty decent amount. He likes those tanks from time to time, but I would say Kapana on the Camille is definitely a big winning condition for them to go towards.
Yeah, we're going to see the Kazakhs locked in here.
Oh,
I'm assuming it's Camille jungle, just because I'm still expecting Kapana to want to crack out the Garen. But I know that With Ice does play some Camille in the jungle, so that would be my thought process. Kazakhs Galio early rotation here. Another pick that we see a lot of in Southeast Asia and over in the Icon series and the Summer Cup is the Galio prioritization. Like, they really prioritize Galio over a lot of the champions. So maybe that's bleeding into some of the European drafts a little bit. But the Gragas coming through, maybe Kapana's not going for Garen then. Maybe Kapana's actually going to go for the Gragas top. And I think if you're playing for, I think as Clamares says, Garen is, I think, strictly the strongest tank. But I think if you're playing for more team-wide utility, you're focusing more on a team environment, then Gragas offers more to a team in general. He has more of an instantaneous engage. You can make more plays happen. And I love that, when you see a Braum early on rotation, you just slap an enchanter down. Like, Braum is super weak into a lot of enchanters. I don't think Nami's like the optimal pick because, one of the biggest things that Braum has got against Nami is that you can just shield the wave. So when Nami uses the wave, you just block it, and then it kind of like stops it from going any further than the Braum. However, it's a very oppressive lane when combined with Varus, which makes it difficult for you to pick anything. This lane has got such short range compared to Nami Varus that, I think you're going to struggle.
I was actually just about to talk about this composition. Really big engage potential. Now you had to back it up for Reason Gaming with a ADC that can very easily follow up in those fights and get access to the backline. One of the few champions that can do that currently is going to be Kai'Sa. And they even paired it with a Wukong, so it seems like it's not going to be jungle Camille. It will be Camille then into the...
Okay.
Wait, so it might be Camille. Oh, because they can flex so many champions here between the Gragas and the Camille. They can flex so well, so it's really hard to respond for the side of Luminous Charm, and they're going to close off with a Garen. You wanted to see it here. Xcandral is going to be coming on throughout the very end. The Varus, if you watch Xcandral Taylor's video, you would know in competitive, Varus is really strong, really valuable in terms of poking potential, and also when it comes down. Okay, I'm seeing. Thank you very much, by the way, Xcandral. He's making fun of me. Those frame freezes are really strong, but Varus really good in competitive. Not only for the poking potential and sieging potential that the champion offers, but also because of that chain of corruption. That if the follow-up is strong, it's really hard to deal with.
Absolutely. I think from a pure teamfight perspective, I'm favoring Reason right now. I think you've got a much stronger teamfight here. It looks like it's going to be Gragas mid, actually. So we're going to see maybe a full AP Gragas, which gives you a lot more damage potential. It's a little better into the Galio as well. I think it's one of the best options you can pick into the Galio in the mid lane right now, especially if you're looking for a melee mid laner. So I think the team fight for Reason is actually pretty strong. I think you're relying very heavily on the Varus to carry your early team fights if you're Luminosity. But the laning phase is pretty strong from a Luminous Charm. So the laning phase is pretty strong from Luminous Charm, and you have plenty of ways to isolate targets for the Kha'Zix, which is a good way to kind of get that jungle pick rolling.
Yeah, especially talking about the Kha'Zix, right? I think it was patch 2.3 or 2.3, one of the two patches where they actually buffed up his passive now. It was his range for his isolation that was reduced from 300 to 200. Of course, the map compared to the PC counterpart is a lot smaller, so you want to make sure that kind of range is going to be a lot smaller and adapted to the map of Wild Rift, which now he actually found himself some really strong opportunities. If you are going for a 3-man gank early on, which we saw in our first series is pretty popular still in Europe, that Kha'Zix is going to do an insane amount of damage in those ganks. So I'm expecting Kha'Zix to be a really strong champion, but of course, Kha'Zix, you want him to get a good early to mid-game stage. If he falls behind, then he tends to get 1v1 pretty easily if he falls behind.
All right, you've done a fantastic job at setting the stage, lads. This is the last chance for Reason Gaming. One more game could decide whether they get to press forward or we're sending them home early for the month. But I'm going to go home now. I'm disappearing to the Shadow Realm. Bye-bye.
See you later, Trid. Hey, he's going to the Shadow Realm quite a lot today. You know what? I didn't know you could come back from that one that easily. But you know what?
He would be the ultimate antagonist in the Yu-Gi-Oh series. Like, he just pop out every 6
like,
you thought you got rid of me. One episode later, he's just back. There you go.
Interesting you did anime references. I thought that was going to be my job, but you're the first one to do it. Hey, you know what?
I watch the normie animes. I'm the normie anime watcher. So,
okay, I watched the dark stuff a little bit more. You know what? That's fine.
Well, we won't go there. But I grew up on like the normie stuff, like Dragon Ball. So I do want to try and get into it more, but it's just a little difficult to find the time. A little difficult to find the time. I did used to watch One Piece though, Max. I was a One Piece watcher, so I'm hopefully getting a bit of respect.
Yeah, respect with there now. It's respect plus. Okay, feeling like in GTA, but really good stuff. Okay, I've got some anime references coming out from Trid too. Hey, watch Jujutsu Kaisen, pretty damn good. Talking about Jujutsu Kaisen, the Camille's gonna be here. She's gonna get that domain expansion coming on through in this game. Camille, of course, you're not only looking at these kind of potential engages from the Exec Ultimatum, but also that split pushing potential coming out. We saw it in the very first series of the day from Trovanova, and if they play towards that once again, they could be looking good. But here we go. We're going to be back on the Rift. I know it's been a hot minute. No, there's no double zigs. You're fine. You're safe. As we're going to have the Braum and a 4-man pack-up coming out from Reason. You have a Braum. I always like to see some early 4-man rotates when you have the Braum on your side.
I think Braum's just got such a strong level 1. Like, if you can look for very early level engages, very early level skirmishes with the Braum, you can definitely come on top of it. And yeah, they're looking for it. Very early invade onto the blue side with the Braum here. They're going to catch him out.
Uh-oh, going to transform that Nami into sashimi, apparently, and you're going to become some sushi, as basic attacks are just way too good, and especially that's given over to the Kai'Sa, Scoundrel. That's the best champion who could have been given that first kill to.
Yeah, love it. Love to see that from the Braum, like early aggression. Like, he can do this in competitive really nicely. He's got such a strong level 1. But look at this. Galio is coming through. He's got level 2. Kha'Zix rotating over. This might actually force Withice and Luki away. Oh, my word.
They don't want to get taunted by the Galio. That's a double flash that's going to be gone. But hey, you know what? You double flash, that's fine. You still get yourself the first blood, and you're just going to play passive, right? You know you have that flash that's not going to be up. You're just going to take it very slow. So still strong, very early strong game coming out from them. They want to make it back because let's not forget, it is 1-0 in favor of Luminous Charm. So if they take themselves this game, that's Reason out way earlier than what I initially expected.
Yeah, you know, Reason, as a team that, as he said, came in the finals of a UK and Nordics tournament recently, so kind of covered the northern side of Europe, and they came to the finals of that tournament, so they really kind of surpassed expectations. It is Camille jungle, by the way. Kapana's actually running with the Wukong top, which is interesting because it is a pick that I think people have been trying to make work more and more recently. He has had a lot of buffs to the sustain on his first ability in, you know, against monsters. On the previous patch, they upped the sustain to 80% of the value that's listed versus minions, so they're trying to make Wukong lane more viable here. But Wukong lane has the same problem versus Garen that many other of the kind of more squishy, no sustain top laners, or well, actually he has got sustain now, but has the problem that a lot of the other top laners do, is that you just can't out-trade a Garen. He silences you and then spins on you, and you really can't do anything about it. And that's, again, one of the problems that Wukong does have. But you can, with the extended range in your first ability, proc Grasp the Undying really easily. So I'm expecting to just see Kapana, you know, try and utilize that Grasp over and over again on cooldown, try and use that extended range to constantly proc it and start doing a bit of magic damage over to Garen and building up those HP stacks.
Yeah, I mean, as Clamara said, right, during the interview with Trid, Garen, too good, too tanky, too annoying of a champion to deal with, so it could be still a little bit complicated, but Kapana, with that buff you mentioned on the Golden Staff, can make matters a little bit easier to heal off of those minions to have a decent matchup in that position. I want to actually talk about this jungle pathing coming on through, especially from the Kha'Zix, that I found very interested. He went a little bit deeper, went towards the jungle camps, the one on the bottom side of the map was the jungle of Reason Gaming. I thought it was an interesting one, but if you try to initiate a kind of gank on Braum and also on the Kai'Sa, I don't really see the value of that because you are not going to be having that isolation buff coming on through. He was maybe expecting to have a nice little bit of synergy with the likes of Lewin on the Chain of Corruption, but if I'm a Kha'Zix, and tell me if you agree there on Xcandle, I would always prefer to prioritize a lane where there's only one enemy champion, such as Baron lane or mid, to always get that isolation buff perk available anytime.
I think the ganking path is kind of like a secondary point here. I think he was mainly just looking for the invade onto the Krugs.
Yeah.
What I found interesting about that, though, is that he didn't have any priority bot lane. Like, he was doing it with almost no priority bot lane. It was, I think, actually a relatively risky invade to do, but the vision just wasn't there for reasons, so he got away with it. I do agree with you, though. I think Kha'Zix is stronger when looking for a gank into the solo lanes. You often see a lot of Kha'Zixes prioritize either a Baron lane or a mid lane gank early on, because it's much easier to get that excess damage off and get the quick cooldowns on your first ability. But yeah, the bot lane you can still definitely go for the gank. Like, you can still definitely look for those plays. You don't need the isolation bonus to get the kills. You can still do damage coming out of, you know, your passive allows you to do damage coming from an unseen location. So, you know, you can still get that extra bonus damage off versus someone.
Yeah, that could work out just fine. Though, here you go, a little bit more vision with the Scuttle being controlled in favor of Reason Gaming. Though, instant collapse into the mid lane position. Galio not looking too comfortable. It's going to be Azazrael, going to have to move out of that position. Of course, the dash will allow him to do just that. Teams now going to try and rotate. Once again, a big push happening both mid and the bottom side to try and regroup a little bit and avoid getting sandwiched away. That's going to be the engaged Hectic Ultimatum on a really valuable target here. Kha'Zix can't flash away. Chain of Corruption completely misses and goes wide for Lewin. And now suddenly Ultimate's being wasted. Tidal Wave, a little bit of extra CC knock-up timer. Same for the Wukong, but Kapana went a little bit too far, bit down more than he can actually chew, and will be the first to lose his life in this fight. Now it's time to re-engage for the side of Luminous Charm, as there's going to be some nice damage. Good silence coming out from Shensho. Unfortunately, not going to be enough in the grand scheme of things. And Reason, they had a good initiation. I liked it, but seemed like especially Kapana went a little bit too aggressive at the end.
Honestly, there was actually a win for Reason. Like, it didn't look like it, but they actually came out with man advantage from the end of that fight. I think it should have been worse for Reason, honestly. I agree with you. Kapana went a little bit too aggressive here. I think overstepped the mark a little. But at the end of the day, Reason do actually come out ahead. And oh my word. Yeah, they should have backed a long time ago here. I really think they overstayed their welcome on that bot side of the map. And now they have given a potential chance for the Drake. Although I say that With Ice is quite low, so he's going to have to be careful. I don't think they're going to be able to go for it as easily as they'd like.
He also doesn't have the Hectic ultimatum. Every single ultimate is currently on cooldown, except for Lewin. There's currently got that Chain of Corruption ready to go any single time when he wants to. I don't think he's going to use it just now, so he'll try and keep it potentially for the Herald fight, though. That's the engage. Galio going to try and get himself the taunt, connects just fine, and that's going to be With Ice, as you said. Scoundrel already pretty low. That's not going to be making matters easy for Reason Gaming. And same for Lukey Pop. He's going to be just way too deep at that one. They get himself the Drake, but lose 2 players. We'll see if they can convert it and maybe a little bit more for the side of Luminous Charm.
I never really love when teams kind of sacrifice themselves for what I consider like the weaker Drakes.
It's not worth it, yeah.
Ocean doesn't really feel like a Drake that's worth massively sacrificing yourself for. Now, look, it really depends on what this gets converted into. That is a huge chunk of Sanji's HP. But it really depends what this gets converted into. If you can't convert this into anything meaningful and you end up losing the Rift Herald, then absolutely worth. And it looks like that's the case. Let's take a look at the replay here. That's the fight. Okay. Sanji buys some time. Galio kind of saves the day. Look, if that Chains of Corruption had hit, this is an easy win for Luminous. Like, they win this fight 10 times out of 10. But the Chains of the Corruption just goes absolutely wrong. And then the Wukong ultimate, as you said, Kapana isolates himself. I really thought the flank from Garen was poorly executed, actually. This could have gone much further in favor of Luminous. And this is that pick-off just after as well.
Yeah, especially the Garen, you talk about it. If there was a collapse coming out from the entirety of Reason, it could have got an even easier man advantage off the back of that, I think, not even having to take down the Kha'Zix. But it was a nice attempt. I appreciate the effort coming on through. As you have a replay of what happened just a few seconds ago, and apparently maybe a kill or few came on through off the back of that one. But Lewin is starting to stack up some really big damage. Those arrows are doing a huge amount of work. Luckily enough, you have the Braum that with that Unbreakable, he's going to be your tanky front line to assist you if possible. And I think that having that Braum on that side is definitely going to be helping you a tremendous amount. The top side, that's the fight that was going to be breaking on through. Sensio going to try and spin to win that fight versus the Gragas, but unfortunately, thanks to Gragas' passive, he can just out-heal it just fine. Every single ability it pops, so he's going to be completely fine in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, the damage from 2 key sources is ramping up right now for Luminous. The first one is the Sanji. Sanji's got the Duskblade Dragstar.
There you go.
I mean, he's going to, like, bop here, though. That was a really nice save by Lukey Pop. That was such a nice save. I would have loved that gold to go over to Josh. You really didn't need to take it as the Braum, but that was a huge save from him. That's one of the things that unfortunately it makes Braum really good versus assassins. Like, Braum is very, very good at locking down these individual assassins. He can protect his carry. One thing that a lot of people don't really realize about Braum is that actually he blocks damage from any direction, not just projectiles. He can block the first projectile with his shield, but then he actually looks like I think Camille's going to go here. With Ice a little bit too aggro there, but Braum can actually block any directional damage, which includes melee hits and abilities. So he can block all the damage coming in from the Kha'Zix onto the Kai'Sa there, and they're able to sort of lock him down with the Braum passive, which is absolutely nutty broken, by the way. The Braum passive is disgusting. So yeah, I think, you know, that's why I really love Braum into assassin picks. He's very good at, like, locking down individual targets.
Yeah, they even tried to nerf it just a few updates ago. I think it was patch 2.3 where they nerfed it by, I think it was quarter of the CC, but really the damage is still so good and the stun is still so strong itself, though. Mid lane, that's going to be Glacial Fisher trying to pop it away. Azrael taking quite a severe amount of damage, but he's able to give it back to Reason Gaming in due time, as we're about to hit the 9-minute mark, though. And this is a very, very close game, I have to say here. Scoundrel seem like we have seen Reason Gaming being able to learn a little bit more from their very first match versus Luminous Gaming, as things are going to get a little bit more interesting as we go on, as Imperium, I don't know, I'm thinking of another cast I work with. Scoundrel, one of the big fights we're going to have coming on through very, very soon is going to be that Infernal Drake here. Normally is going to be a Clown Fiesta in that position when it's going to spawn in now, just 20 seconds. Every single player on the Rift is currently going for their back, for their resets, to get some items, to have a potentially proper 5-on-5, as the Herald's going to be popped as a distraction into the bottom lane.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to set up. You know, that's going to take the tower and it's going to start to push towards the tier 2. So you're going to create some natural pressure for Luminous Charm to have to deal with as Reason now start the setup on the Infernal Drake. This is where the value of a Rift Herald really pays dividends, because you're eventually going to have to react to that if you are Luminous. But because the Infernal Drake is such high priority, as soon as you go and react to that, it's going to allow Reason to step up and start this Infernal. So it's just a really, really nice play from Reason to create some natural priority in a lane that is eventually going to have to be dealt with. But it looks like they are valuing that Infernal highly over anything else.
That's the explosive cast. Going to have a few players actually low right off the bat into the Cyclone of the Wukong. That's going to be exactly what you're hoping to see. Going to be a little bit wide, especially on the ultimate. Lokipop going to have to try and move away from that position, but doing still a tremendous amount of work at the very end of that engage. Sanji and also Azazrael will be taken down and shut down at the end of that fight, and that's going to be the ace in favor of Reason, not losing a single player here, Scoundrel.
Oh no! I mean, that Gragas barrel was so good.
It was so good.
From Michele. Like absolutely nutty Gragas barrel, because that essentially separated out the fight. It threw Luminous Charm into absolute chaos, and look at this. It's Shelly paying dividends. Sorry, we call the Rift Herald Shelly in League PC. I'm translating this over to Wild Rift. No one can stop me. But the Rift Herald pays dividends with the drop in the bot lane. Yeah, okay, you lose Infernal, but you get a clean ace, you get mid lane tier 1, you get bot lane tier 2, and the inhibitor tower. That is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Disgusting. I don't know. The accent comes from somewhere on that one for sure. But it was such a good execution. Michele, especially that explosive cask, is literally a game-changing ability if used properly. And in that sense, they got direct access to a few of the backline champions, right? And you just can't escape from that one. Did You Miss Me was definitely in a really bad spot. And I don't think he was missed at all in that fight because he just didn't have time to do almost anything in that skirmish. And we're hoping to see some big changes.
I think Withice stunned him out of the ultimate cast. Or at least maybe Braum blocked it right in front of the Nami, because I saw Did You Miss Me try to cast the wave and it just didn't go anywhere.
I think stunned.
Yeah, I think he might have got stunned during the animation. Either that or we saw Lokipop just block it instantaneously. But either way, like some of these big impact ultimates, and also because you split the fight up, like as Razel wasn't able to get a huge taunt off, like he was split, couldn't get a multi-man taunt. Really, really good stuff, and they're going to catch out Sanji here.
Explosive cast this time around, not going to be as impactful as you might hope, but they got himself the passive. Sanji does not want to take 3 more basic attacks, otherwise it might be the end tidal wave. Secured himself an extra life. Sanji will be able to move away from that spot just fine. That's why the Nami has been so good in the current landscape. The peeling she offers is just nutty when played properly.
Yeah, but it was a Nami ultimate for what was a very sort of low risk engage coming out from Reason, right? It's a low cooldown ultimate. You're not going to be too bothered about just using it, but
yeah,
you had to use it or you were dead, potentially losing another set of towers as well, potentially losing the Baron. So it was great to disengage, but it was a Nami ultimate to not lose. And at this stage of the game, you're 10k gold behind. Luminous, you're playing to not lose. I don't think you scale here. You definitely don't scale. So like, what item spikes can you play off right now if you're Luminous? Like you have a certain item spike that you have to play around. It looks like they're gonna catch Sanji out.
I mean, see you later, mate. You got nothing to do in these lands. Isn't a kill coming on through. Sanji just gets completely blown into smithereens. And they're going to get some decent poke on the other side, but there's nothing you can do here. Reason are in clear control, and this is the part of Reason Gaming that I enjoyed so much back in the Northern European, should I say, tournament that was happening just recently, is that they create a lead from one single fight and then they take the game. They are very clearly a team that when they have a lead, they play around it extremely well and they just keep harassing opponents, get themselves more objectives, forcing or even threatening objectives to force fights to come their way. And this is why they're looking so comfortable. They built a lead in the matter of minutes. They were 6-6 with 0 goal lead advantage, and now they got themselves an extra 6 kills on top of Luminous. And they're just looking in such a good controlling position, and the vision is just missing very clearly here. Scandal for Luminous Charm, that if they go anywhere into their very own jungle even, and they might just get clapped, especially thanks to Lokipop always being present in those fights.
Like I said, from what we've seen from Reason right now, I think their team fights are actually really, really strong. Like, you can split the team fight up with Michele, like we saw previously. Michele is just able to just like jump in and split the team fight up. You have Kapana with a very strong knock-up with the Black Cleaver build on the Wukong, shredding armor for both Withice and Jash to kind of pop off. And then you have so much mobility from Withice and Jash. You're able to just isolate a target, take them out of the fight instantaneously. And once you lose Lewin, once Lewin goes down, that's your team fight donezo. I mean, because Sanji's, like, we know Kha'Zix, he's useless in team fights. Like, Kha'Zix is not a team fight pick. He's used for smaller skirmishes. It looks like they are just individually picking off people in the blue side jungle here. I'm not really sure what Luminous Charm can do.
But they close it. I mean, they got themselves already the inhib tower early into the bottom side, though. Top side is 2v2 skirmish currently unfolding. Oh, no, actually, no. I got baited by the fake monkey. But you know what? It was a 1v2. Not going to quite go in the favor of Kapana. And Nastily wasn't able to get it for himself. But they got another kill into the mid lane position. And Reason are just taking straight control of the Baron pit. And that's going to be really hard to contest.
Yeah, I don't really think you can do anything about it.
You just
the
can't,
best, The best option you're going to have is like trying to go for like an absolutely crazy arrow steal from Lewin, but at the end of the day, they've got a big wave. That natural pressure that's being picked up by the Rift Herald take of that inhibitor tower very early on into the game. That's the worst inhibitor tower to lose as well. If you lose the inhibitor tower that is furthest away from the Baron pit, you are constantly fighting a rising tide of pressure on that side lane that is going to have to really put pressure on you around the Baron, because if you're having that lane pushed in and it's the furthest away from the Baron pit, you have to respond to it, and unless you've got teleport, you have to walk a very long way to be able to respond to any Baron pressure. So that was the perfect lane to get the tower in early on here for Reason. And honestly, as I said, the scaling is massively in favor of Reason Gaming. I don't see a good way for Luminous to get back into this.
Yeah, I mean, one inhib tower, a 10k goal lead. Very rarely will you see this actually turn into a comeback, unless in your my solo queue games, then probably because you'll have some bad teammates. But in this case, this is not at all the scenario at hand. Body slam going to be missing from Michele, as Sanji could very easily move out of those kind of sticky situations without too much of an issue. There you go. Continuous attempt at a split push though coming out from Sencho, but hey, Garen not going to be doing too good, and you might lose another inhib tower because of him not being present. Galio going to be picked up instantaneously by Jash. Hectic Ultimatum on a very valuable target. That's the very stand, and you said it, Scandal. The moment Lewin goes down, your damage is basically nullified to nothing. And now they get themselves another inhib tower into the mid lane position. If they get the top lane one, it's just going to be GG. It's just a matter of when. And there you go, 3 inhib towers, increasing the gold lead even more for Reason Gaming. And I think they're feeling so confident. They want to close off the game. They want to make this series go to a game 3 on the broadcast of the Origin series. Sanji will die in his very own fountain. You're not escaping from that one, homie. And they're going to put the focus down onto the Nexus. And that's game number 2 of this matchup versus Luminous Charm, going over to Reason Gaming.
Yeah, Reason played that really nicely. Again, beautiful play with the Rift Herald around that Infernal Drake. Like, who cares if you lose the Drake, if you take an inhibitor tower that early on into the game and get a clean ace on the team? That was just so well orchestrated. The drop in the bot lane of the Rift Herald paid dividends, and Mikkel, your Gragas barrels, chef's kiss, legit chef's kiss on the Gragas barrels there, because that split the team fight up and made it so difficult for Luminous Gaming to play the fight that they wanted.
Yeah, and especially you talked about how important synergy and communication is. You saw instantly that explosive cast came on through, put 3 players in jeopardy for Luminous Charm, and the follow-up, it was instantaneous coming out from them. So I really enjoyed how they played it. The strategies and how they played the game in general was really strong, and the team synergy when you play in a 5v5 mode, but that's where you won, and they played around that one extremely, extremely well. But that's going to be it for our second game of this series. Still got one more to go between Luminous Charm and Reason Gaming, so we'll have the check onto that game right after this very short break.
Welcome back to the Origin series. We just saw Reason Gaming begin their comeback. I know it's only 3 maps, but they're starting the reverse sweep. We've got to call it as it is. And Luminous Charm not really having much leg to stand on there. 3 inhibs down, Nexus turret. You're kind of just waiting for the game to end at that point, Kiernan.
Yeah, as I said, like getting an inhibitor tower that early on into the game, especially one that's the furthest away from the Baron pit, is a bit of a death sentence. And Reason played that super nicely. Their team fights were really strong. I did kind of call it in draft. I thought they actually had the better team fight comp. I think Kha'Zix is not a good competitive jungle pick because he's so easily shut down in team fight situations. Great in solo queue because people kind of run it down individually and you kind of get a lot of skirmishes and a lot of people getting caught out. In competitive, you get less catches, less picks, and that's where Kha'Zix kind of shines. So I really don't rate Kha'Zix as a super high competitive jungle pick. And you saw there, like, I can't name one team fight where Kha'Zix was able, especially past that Infernal Drake, where Kha'Zix was able to do anything. He just kind of got shut down by the Braum, shut down by the CC every single time.
Yeah, I can tell you none. No fights he had was really impactful for him, unfortunately. He is a champion. Normally, Kha'Zix, if he is in your games, you want to try and build an early lead thanks to him, and typically you want to try and get those kills over to the rest of your team. Didn't happen that time around. He tried and get himself a few of the kills himself, and it didn't work out at the end. So it seemed like, that first game definitely, even though it did not go over to Reason Gaming for the first one, seemed like they came in this second game with a plan, and now is the time to Luminous Charm to try and find their response coming into that third game, because let's not forget, it's BO3. They're currently onto the lower side of the bracket. Whichever team loses this next game, they're done, and it's just day 1.
So I just want to point out as well, because Kha'Zix, when they were released, wasn't exactly the best of champions. I know there's been some slight changes to him. Is Kha'Zix really the most competitive jungler that could be being run right now?
No, Kha'Zix is not competitive. No, there is loads of junglers that are better than Kha'Zix. He's strong. Don't get me wrong. He's strong. Don't get me wrong. But there is definitely Kha'Zix has definitely got some strong potential. You can snowball games really easily as Kha'Zix in the jungle, but versus competitive teams who generally don't get as caught out on the map as easily. You tend to see a lot more team fights rather than scrappy skirmishes. That's where Kha'Zix kind of sucks because he can't really find good isolation opportunities, and that's where he really shines. So like the jungle, like the picks in the jungle that I think are really strong right now are Lee Sin, like Camille competitively, Wukong competitively. I really like Vi, Jarvan. These are all like just good, solid teamfight champions. And this is here, like Sanji. This is the teamfight that actually went okay because Kapana isolated himself in. Like he jumps over the wall and isolates himself, which makes him easy to take out. So this is a team fight where even though Reason ended up coming out on top, it wasn't a particularly convincing team fight in their favor. It was the team fight that was around the Infernal Dragon that really showed exactly what happened. I think we'll be seeing it. I mean, this is a catch on to the Camille, just with Ice just looking for a tower dive in the mid lane tier 1 and unfortunately just messed it up.
Yeah, and used a Hectic Ultimatum too. That was weird. But actually talked about the Braum here. He actually did already use his Unbreakable really early on, so the Nami just got CC out of that one. And the direct access to the backline, it just set it up so cleanly and nicely for the entirety of Reason Gaming. And then they just tried to pick a few fleeing enemies here, left, right, and center. And they even got himself the Galio a few seconds after. So that was the ace very early on. And as you said, off the back of that, they also get himself access to the second bottom lane tower, get himself the inhib, and get the Infernal Drake too. That fight was everything for Reason Gaming, starting to build a lead from literally nothing in that point. And then Kapana, that was this small little, what I thought was a 2v2, but I got baited by the fake monkey, but it was still an attempt and a half. But the team got himself the inhib towers during that fight in the top side, so they still got some really big wins coming their way. And Reason Gaming, this is the time where they were trying to put the nail in the coffin, got every single inhib tower, trying to focus and take down the game, because they knew if they go for a throw, they'll basically out of the entirety of the Origin series, and they were feeling really aggressive. So there you go, focus on the Nexus, pick up a few kills along the way, and make it 1-1 in a series to initiate the reverse sweep.
There's no way you throw at that point, though. You're so far ahead. Like,
I've seen worse, okay?
I've only ever seen a few, and that was solo queue. I mean, in competitive, if you're throwing at that stage, like, oh my word. But look, I think at the end of the day, it was a very clean performance. That Infernal Dragon fight was Nami did get her ultimate off, by the way, but it did hit the Braum shield about halfway through, so it didn't get the full effect. But it was the Gragas barrel that separated everyone out, and because that separates the enemy team out, but doesn't separate you out clearly. Kha'Zix was like, where do I go from here? Like, you had 2 people that were isolated in the river, 3 people that were pushed into the blue side jungle, and that made it very easy for this like moving death ball that was Reason at this point to just walk through and just bop people with the Kai'Sa.
All right, that puts a nice little bow on game number 2. We're going to go into game number 3, though, because we're going the distance in this series for the first time on the Origin series. Game 3 was an interesting prospect. We were looking at a very surprising scoreline when we jumped into this series, seeing Reason playing from a position of weakness. They've now leveled the playing field, and they're going to solve it all on game number 3. Reason definitely in the driving seat this series, so I'm going to be looking towards Luminous Charm to make some adaptations. Max, what do Luminous need to bring into this next game to win out the series?
Luminous, of course, I think that in terms of draft, it was a good initiative. And mainly thinking back to the bans, I think that was really strong. But it's how they try and set up flanks. And I especially think back to the Garen. It was a really weird one at one point. They took himself a fight, got initiated upon. And one of the great things that Reason Gaming do is if they see a mistake or one player out of position, they're going to capitalize on opportunity and they're going to win the fight off the back of that mistake. Iron out the mistakes. That's what I'm mainly going to say. I know it's something very easy to say, but if you have one player out of position, that's something the Reason Gaming is very quickly going to capitalize upon. So I'm mainly thinking at the Baron laner here for Luminous Charm is to make sure to not be out of position. If so, then you know that you're going to get instantly initiated upon, and most of the time that's not going to go your way.
Yeah, I think the Garen flank was a bit awkward at the first Drake. I think it could have had way more value than it got. And so I think that was just a little bit poorly executed from Luminous. Good recovery from Reason in that fight, realistically, but I think it could have gone much further south if Garen had actually used his ultimate properly. He didn't need to blow it that early. He had such a good flank. He could have just come in and spun on people's heads for a bit, and then what looked for a better opportunity for the ultimate. But regardless, I think they clearly won a game in this series. They clearly know how to beat Reason, and we're going into that final game where everything counts.
There you go. That's going to be the Kai'Sa taken away. I do respect it. Luminous Charm here going to be back onto the blue side. So getting rid of that, it was such a dominant performance coming out from Jash. Though I still want to see the Tristana. Okay, they call me the Jinx caster. You know what? That's why. Tristana going to be banned away the moment I mention it. Feels a bad man indeed. And Elisen, I mean, it's an expected ban coming into the jungle position. Though I'm not expecting a Kha'Zix. We touched upon that a few times now, why maybe you do not want to see the Kha'Zix coming on through. So I'm hoping that's not going to be a pick coming later on by Luminous Charm and the Yasuo to try and wrap up those 4 bans for both of these teams. Yeah, okay, I'm okay with that one so far, though a lot of ADCs currently being taken out of the picture, and I'm thinking back, one champions I would love to see picked actually in the Dragon lane would be Ezreal, if possible. But there you go. You've been talking about this one a lot on the Ziggs, and he's going to be the first pick for Luminous.
Yeah, we haven't seen much Ezreal. I do agree with you. I expected to see more of him, actually. He's a very high-tier AD carry right now. But the Ziggs coming through as a first pick, they mean business here in Game 3. Like, they're just going for the tried and tested competitive S-tier stuff. And that's a very solid and pretty usual first pick blue side if it's not banned away. But Kapana is like, okay, nope, going back to what works for me, going back to my Garen. He's going to lock that in. And we're also going to see the Camille come through too. So there are good ways to deal with Ziggs. One of them is Camille. You keep Ziggs locked into that Hextech ultimatum. He can't bounce out with his Hextech satchel charge. And then obviously you have the execute potential with Garen. So there are some good options here. I think this is a relatively solid early draft into a Ziggs pick. But the Gragas is the obvious response in the top lane here versus the Garen. We see it quite a lot. This is like the tank versus tank matchup that kind of dominates the meta right now. And I'm not sold. I'm not sold on the Kha'Zix. I just don't think it's a particularly strong competitive jungler just because you need to snowball it. And I think any jungler that relies purely on snowballing is a risky jungler to pick. And especially versus the team that is going to clearly play very grouped up team fights with a Camille and a Garen. Now you're bringing in the Ashe as well for extra control and extra engage. A little worried about the Kha'Zix pick, honestly.
I was going to say maybe an Ashe report. Okay, they got himself the Lulu. I was going to say maybe Black Cleaver could have been a thing, but no, that's something that I haven't seen played in a long while. Also, it's going to be Lulu with the Ashe also, so that's going to be CC for days coming into that Dragon lane matchup. Not too much mobility coming out from those two, so that's something that Kha'Zix could potentially try and use in his favor here. But Rakan here going to be actually picked up by Luminous Charm. So interesting. This is a very original draft coming out from both sides. I'm really enjoying what's coming on through, a little bit out of the ordinary. But the Rakan, also, what are they going to play it with this one? Xayah is open, and Xayah Rakan in the current landscape of the game is one of the strongest matchups to currently go for, but they closed off with a Darius. Question mark, question mark, question mark. I don't know what to expect from this one.
I just want to jump back quickly. You know, you said you're down on the Kha'Zix. Well, you know, if there's anything I've learned from the PC version of League of Legends, you're bringing Ashe and Lulu into the lane. Lulu is basically the no fun allowed Kha'Zix farm. Broad growth, polymorph, like there's even more options to just mess this jungler up.
Is this Ziggs AD carry and then, or...
I think so.
This is Ziggs AD carry. So this is Ziggs Rakan bot lane.
And Gragas mid. Yeah.
Gragas mid. It's Lulu mid, by the way. Lulu mid with Braum bot lane. Braum Ashe is a very strong lane. This is a wild draft, actually. I'm very excited to see how this one plays out.
Oh, I'm hyped up. A little bit out of the ordinary in the current meta of the game, so I'm intrigued to see how this one's going to be coming on through. And because it's out there, I don't know which team to call as potentially a fairy coming into this. So yeah, I'm hyped to get into the Rift for this.
All right, then I'm going to let you guys keep moving along then. I'm going to disappear, sub out, and I will be back after the match.
Thank you very much, Trid. We're back for our third and final game of this series between Luminous Charm and Now Reason Gaming. We said it, and I'm going to say it once again. Whichever team loses this match, they're gone. And which is surprising, right, Xscoundrel? This is the last chance for these two teams, and they go for some of the wackiest, I'm not going to say wackiest, but out of the ordinary drafts that we've seen in a long while. It's weird to have this as like your last resort play you're going for to make sure you make it through to the next stage.
Well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the individual matchups when we get into game, but Ziggs AD carry is something that isn't out of the ordinary, especially in competitive. We do see it quite a lot, but Ziggs Rakan is not really a lane that I've seen played together. Usually you'll see Ziggs paired up with like another poke enchanter type support like Ziggs Lux or Ziggs Sona sometimes, Ziggs Seraphine. Never really seen Ziggs Rakan, but Rakan does offer you a lot of team fight presence, right? Rakan is a very strong team fighting champion. Darius into Garen, terrible matchup for Darius. Like, you actually cannot win this matchup. As long as Garen doesn't run it down and allow you to get 5 stacks really quickly, then it's a really tough matchup for Darius to win out in.
Yeah.
It's an interesting set of picks, honestly. Very interesting set of picks.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what's going to be the game plan, especially around it, because you talked about these drafts being pretty interesting. How are you going to play the Ziggs Rakan? Are you going to play this one pretty passive, which I'm expecting because you're dealing with Braum, and you don't really want to try and face up against that Braum too much, and I think it might be a little slower one.
It might be rough level 1, but beyond level 1, like level 2, you'd be able to push the lane. Like, the thing about Ziggs is not about, you're not looking to fight, right? Ziggs is not looking to fight this lane. He just wants to push the wave. So you like, whenever you pick Ziggs in the bot lane, it's not about fighting. It's about just pushing the wave. So you get natural priority in that lane. So you just shove wave, shove wave, shove wave. If you can get any hits on tower, that's fantastic. But you just shove wave, shove wave, shove wave, shove wave. But look, we're jumping into our third game, Max.
Yeah, there we go. We've got the Braum. He's T-posing into this one. He's going to be moving forward. And as a 4-man stack, we'll see if they can try and get himself an early kill. I think that this time, Luminous Charm are going to be wiser by the time this game happens, and they're not going to face. Don't do it again, please. Okay, Ward, thank you. I appreciate it. No Sushi this time around in the early game, even though he's not playing Nami. They're not going to be encountered whatsoever. So here we go. Once again, final chance for these two teams of Luminous Charm and Reason Gaming to make it to the next stage of the lower bracket. If they take the L, well, unfortunately, they'll take the L home. As this, I mean, they're playing from home, but they'll go to their room, I guess. I don't know, man. You take that whatever you want, but last chance for these two teams, regardless.
And honestly, this is where the risk of the Kha'Zix comes in. It's Lulu versus Gragas mid. Lulu got to be a little careful in that matchup. It is a matchup that you can sustain pretty easily in as the Gragas, and you have a lot of hard engage potential, which is difficult for the Lulu to deal with. This is very much like a kind of like a buff the Ashe, protect the Ashe style comp. Like you have 2 supports for the Ashe, which is going to give you a lot of good late game scaling options. So you have a lot of scaling potential in team fights here. You have a lot of hard engage, which is good to deal with the Ziggs. And you've got a relatively solid front line with the Garen. If you heard Clamares in the interview talking about it, it's like one of the best tanks in the game right now. So you have a really solid front line with good engage here to deal with the Ziggs. And I think the real problem child of the comp that you're going to deal with right now is that Ziggs in the AD carry position. If you can deal with the Ziggs, I don't think you're going to have much of a problem here with Reason, because you have such a grouped up solid team fight. You have 2 supports that are going to absolutely make Kha'Zix's life a living hell in skirmishes and team fight situations. So yeah, I think overall you're in a good spot compositionally here for Reason Gaming. It's just obviously the laning phase and potential snowball opportunities that are still there. And looks like Sanji with the level advantage is maybe looking to go for a double scuttle opportunity. And Braum having to rotate out of the lane very early on here to provide a little bit of help as we have an engage.
They go on the front line with the Unbreakable. Procs the passive, actually, and the body slam away. We'll get some extra CC on the likes of with Ice, and the barrel will do some pretty decent work, but they're going to scout away that position. With Ice, nice attempt. I like the rotation coming on through, but unfortunately, it's not going to be enough, and the Scuttle will still be secured away by Luminous Charm. So as you said, double Scuttle control coming their way. A little bit harder for Reason to roam freely around the map.
Yeah, the problem is you didn't really have much priority bot lane, so obviously Ashe couldn't rotate out for the the drawback of losing minions and losing experience and gold here. And so once you made that initial roam with Braum and it didn't work out, you weren't able to secure the Scuttle there, then it was very easy for Did You Miss Me to rotate out with the Rakan and have the impact following. So yeah, double Scuttle start on for Sanji on the Kha'Zix, a really good start. Has a level advantage right now, and I expect him to try and use that before the Drake fight opens up. It is Infernal Drake to try and get some kind of edge in a lane, because I think if you go straight into a 5v5 right now or straight into a full-out brawl, even with this advantage that you managed to get in the early game, you're still a Kha'Zix in a team fight situation versus a double kind of protective support, which is going to result in you, I think, struggling to have the impact that you maybe want in that early dragon fight.
Yeah, and the current meta and competitive, at least in Europe, is very team fight focused, so Kha'Zix by default is not going to be great in the landscape of the game because of that current meta shift, but we'll see if later on the meta might adapt a little bit more to a Kha'Zix in competitive, which as of right now is not truly the case. Top side though, I'm going to be intrigued, and I think that Sensho could be a hidden gem for the team of Luminous Charm. I think as a composition up against, he might struggle a fair decent bit, especially the likes of that Braum. There's a lot of champions with quite a bit of mobility. I'm thinking back to that Camille especially, there might be a little bit of an issue. Sensho, it's got to be very careful. If he falls behind, Darius tends to struggle, but one strong fight, and I've seen it many times, one good reset on that Noxian Guillotine, and you are set for life. So you got to keep an eye out for him. Darius is a very scary champion, given the right prospect, and if they put him far behind, which I'm hoping is going to be happening for Kapana, then that is going to be one major threat taken down very early on. But there you go. Infernal Drake, as you said, Scandal is now going to be on the Rift, and right away, the entirety, well, not the entirety, most of the players, should I say, of Luminous Charm are going to be in that position. The response of Reason is very slow. Satchel Charge going to move away with Ice, and he's already pretty damn low. And he's the jungle in this one. If he wants to go in, he might just die instantly. Tried to steal away, secured actually by the Kha'Zix. Sanji smites him down just in time. He gets some CC thanks to the quickness. A nice re-engage coming out actually from Did You Miss Me? The health bars are now not looking too good, and they're getting reversed engaged by Reason Gaming. 4 players still up and ready to go and ready to rumble as Reason pick themselves up. 3 kills, but no Dragon this time.
Yeah, it was a really late reaction to the Dragon fight, but you did just see in action how bad Kha'Zix is versus this kind of team comp. Like, he just didn't do anything. They're going to pick off the Darius here as well. Did You Miss Me? Might drop. I mean, the Ashe Braum is such a good combo as well. Double support for Ashe makes it even harder for the Luminous team to actually get in and deal with the biggest threat, because Ashe is really the biggest damage threat in this comp, especially for consistent DPS output in these team fights. And you give that double support edge to her. Jash as well, who I think is the main carry from Reason, like is the person that's going to step up and do the majority of the work for this team. They've really set Jash up for success this game, and Jash is kind of slam dunking the ball when it's handed to him.
Yeah, and I've seen a few times actually in the last few community tournaments in Europe. I think I've seen so far 3 pentakills on Ashe. Going to show that she is a champion in Europe. There is been played a bit as of recently, but at this level of play, especially in the Origin series, you might see that as a risk. It's been working amazingly well for Jash. I still want to see Tristana. Hopefully we'll see that happen throughout the next 3 days of this June session. And we're going to have a quick replay then back onto that fight. I liked it, and you can see the quickness from Did You Miss Me? I think was great at the end, but then get a little bit too far, especially with Sanji. And then the re-engage is just clinical from Reason. And the slows coming out from Jash are just too damn powerful. You can't make it out of the grasp of Reason Gaming. And then they put the focus on Sensho and got himself all of those 3 kills at the end. So yeah, really Jash is not only playing that damage dealer kind of role with the Ashe, but also the utility kind of position, able to set up the rest of his team in good ways.
That's what Ashe's role is. As a look back, we have a live bit of action here going on. Obviously, Rift Herald is being started up.
Yeah.
But they are slowly rotating over to it, but I don't think they're going to get there in time.
Nah, no way. With Ice going to be able to smite that one down in the nick of time. Sancho not able to join the party just at the very end of that re-engage. So nothing much happening in this point in time. 6 minutes 30 seconds in, 5-1. A current lead is shown the top of its head for Reason Gaming. And not an insane gold lead so far, but in terms of kills and especially that damage output that Reason Gaming has been able to show, showing that when we have a proper 5-on-5 engage, and thanks to that Elder, that could make things a little bit easier, but that's the flash into the Hectic Ultimatum into the top side. Senchu is going to get smited on down by that Demacian Justice, and that is going to be looking golden once again. And they instantly use the Herald pretty early, but the next Drake is Ocean, so hey, that's a tower.
I mean, like, I don't mind, if you're going to use it to convert into something. I mean, the problem is that they can't really push it much further than this, but they may be able to use that pressure that you've had by drawing both the Rakan and the Kha'Zix to the top side of the map. You can see Lulu rotating bot. May be able to use this to get 2 towers. So that's natural pressure created top lane that I actually really like the way that Reason have played this. They basically said, cool, fair enough, we weren't using it to get the first tower of the game, but we are going to use it to translate into a bottom tier 1, which we are able to do. Essentially, what you're essentially looking at is here that Rift Herald's taken 2 towers instead of 1. It may not have been a direct take of Rift Herald taking 2 towers, but the pressure that you drew by having Rift Herald drop with a kill on top side of the map meant that you were able to commit resources to that bottom lane tier 1. So it was essentially 2 tower takes for the price of 1.
Exactly what I was going to say. Looking like a pretty fancy deal that Reason Gaming were able to strike themselves. The Drake about to respawn instead is going to be Ocean. If you don't get it, it's fine. But at this point in time, we already got every single tower almost into, every single first tower in both side lanes. So you can very easily put the focus on that, and you should be completely fine. Scuttle respawns. Sanji's going to try and get it. You better be careful, though. You get slowed by the sweep from with Ice. That's going to be a hard one to secure. Who got it? I have no idea, but they're going to get some extra CC. Body slam does not quite come on through. Knockup is actually going to be nice. The quickness onto the backline is helping a lot the position of Luminous Charm, but now you've got to be careful because the Braum passive has been stacked on so many targets, and all Jash has to do is spam that basic attack button, and he's just going to be set for life. Another time he gets himself the CC, and this is why Braum is so good. I would almost say like OP tier in this current meta, like every basic
Braum's
attack,
the best support in the meta,
and you're good.
Like Braum and Janna, I think the 2 best supports in the meta, and you can see why Braum is like so strong.
I'll be careful there. The wave is dead, but you know what? They're still pretty beefy boys, so they get themselves an extra kill. Need to get the wave, and that first tower should fall very soon. And they even got himself the dragon being secured solo by with Ice.
I mean, honestly, we might get to look back at that fight, but there was one crucial area that essentially ruined the team fight for Luminous. The Rakan engaged, and he engaged past the Braum, and Braum just put his shield up. And then what are you going to do? Like, your Rakan's on the other side of the Braum. You can't get through the Braum shield because it's just tanking so much damage, and everybody else is completely free. You Hextech Ultimatum the Kha'Zix is giga useless in team fights, like absolutely turbo useless in team fights. I can't stress this enough. And then he just gets Demacian Justice, the big old sword from Fools from the Sky, the press ultimate for skill button, as I like to call it, from Garen, comes through and just takes out the Kha'Zix way too easily. And then, as you said, you're able to recapitalize, get back on and support Jash, who's then from the back line with double support, protecting him, able to just completely take over the team fight.
Yeah, especially keep up, able to proc his passive on so many targets is really valuable. Then the entire team, of course, they see that big glaring kind of icon on the minimap. They're like, okay, very easy. We'll just basic attack them. And that is going to be not only some CC, but some extra burst damage on those basic attacks once the passive is procced. Baron is now going to be up. And I think that is going to be the game to seal the fate of Luminous Charm. Reason Gaming get himself potentially a new fight, or even if they just want to threaten it to force a fight to come their way. They're currently in the lead. Why not? I don't think there's a significant enough lead for them to try and play around that Baron buff just yet. So you want to get a very clear advantage in a fight, get himself a kill or two, or just a bunch of health bars extremely low. Then maybe you want to try and play around that Baron pit, as they're going to send actually Kapana into the bottom side. So it seems like they want to try and once again create the opportunity for some of their team down there. I'm not sure if he's got a teleport just now. It would be great to see the items, but if he has that TP, then I'm completely down for that, as he can instantly join up with the rest of his team.
I mean, I think at this point, like, where is the windows for Luminous? Like, what windows are you looking for? I think the only thing that I think you, I mean, again, it's just Lulu, the ultimate anti-fun champion for assassins. I think the only window that you've got is getting Ziggs to late game, right? Like, other than that, I don't really see how you come out on top in 5v5.
Well, bottom side, though, that was a pretty big fight coming on through, actually. You said it, Demacian Justice just won, and that's going to be Sanji dead. And that's exactly what happened. It was a 1v2, and Kapana wins it. So it seemed like what you're mentioning here about the giga garbage kind of Kha'Zix is coming to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, if Kha'Zix doesn't snowball, he's kind of useless. So that's the problem that I have within competitive. Versus good teams, you're never likely going to snowball, right? Best you're going to do is like even. But look, at the end of the day, like you have to try and look for windows for Luminous. I think the windows that you've got is potentially looking for a big combo team fight. But look, the problem is that you make one mistake and Ashe is going to punish you for it. You make one mistake, you get locked up with the Braum passive, and Ashe is just there slapping you with arrows. It's so difficult to really find an edge if you're Luminous at this point. I think Reason are very comfortably in the driving seat at this point in time.
Very clearly. There's not much you can really do. Jash Day even just popped his arrow, tried to pop the ulti, and he didn't get the kill, but you know what? He's going to get back by the time of the next fight, hopefully at least. Kapana really more in that split pushing kind of situation now, trying to create a point of pressure, forcing Luminous Charm to try and take care of that side lane, to go back every once in a while, to maybe allow the likes of Reason to get more priority in the mid lane position. They wanted to try and get himself the mid lane tower, not able to get it just yet. But in my eyes, Scoundrel, the moment that mid lane tower falls for Luminous Charm, that is when Reason Gaming is looking to get even more control around the map, get even deeper vision, and make sure that Luminous Charm cannot contest any jungle objective. It might be a dragon, it might be a Baron. It will be really hard for Luminous Charm to make it work. And with their composition, I just can't see it happen at this point in time.
When you're commentating games, you do always like to try and make sure you're not kind of like saying, well, it's over, right? You're trying to say there's somewhere, there's a ray of hope. Yeah. There's a silver ray of hope somewhere in this game where they might be able to find a way back in, but it's looking less and less likely. And you can even see now that we're opening up into a 1-3-1, like they're utilizing Garen's side lane split push pressure. This is like a ridiculously fed Garen. Withice is doing the same, although Withice has kind of overstepped the mark here.
Got themselves the TP of Kapana, gonna try and get himself involved. Unfortunately, they do lose themselves with ice, but they don't really need him for the fight. Great explosive cask actually able to move them away. But now it's just the damage is a little bit too high for Luminous Charm, as they actually pick themselves a really good engage. Seemed like that overstep on with ice is definitely what they needed. The arrow! He snipes it down. The European sniper of Jash makes it work out. Re-engage into the grand entrance, so a little bit too low, so he will lose his life almost instantaneously as he goes for the initiation. But Luminous Charm, they get himself a bunch of frags, but it's just clearly not going to be enough as Reason Gaming take it back from the brink of death. There you go, now going to be pushing into the mid lane position. That's going to be Reason, Jash, Michele, and also Kapana on the board. First tower coming their way, and they're going to look for the second. They're going to get the inhib off of this one very clearly, Scoundrel.
Yeah, they've got 1 second until the Ziggs is up, though, so I think that unfortunately is going to mean they're not going to pick up the inhibitor turret, because the Ziggs wave clear is just, even at this stage of the game, when you're behind, still too strong. I mean, Ziggs is sitting on a Ludens and a Ramadan's Deathcap. He's gone for the Void Crystal as well to give him a little bit of Magic Pen. However, please, Ziggs, don't finish the Void Staff. Get Void Amethyst, sorry, Void Crystal, it's the same thing. Please give us stasis. I don't want to see you finish this Void stuff. I want you to get stasis. You need the stasis. If you don't get the stasis, you die. So I think I'd like to see him finish the stasis, and obviously Flash being off cooldown for the next 40 seconds with Baron being up is a little bit difficult for Ziggs to play. But you know there is windows. I mean, we're 13k behind right now as Luminous. That is a significant gold advantage to have to try and come back from. However, as we've said, we've seen crazier things happen, and if you take out the Ashe, you do kind of neuter this composition a little bit.
Yeah.
So if Jash does die, then there is hope for Luminous in these fights.
Yeah, very clearly. The main issue I'm having here, especially for Luminous Charm, is the fact is Kapana has very easy access to the backline. And Lewin, you said it right. We want to see him get that stasis. Otherwise, Luminous can't just come back from this game willy-nilly, as now the fight, Sanji going to try and jump on forward onto Michaelia. The Dragon secure, they got himself the Cloud Drake, extra zoom speed coming their way, and now they're going to close that gap. They're looking for the engage. Get himself a decent smite at the end with the Noxian Guillotine, but he's not able to get himself the second reset, and that is going to be himself losing his life first for the side of Luminous Charm, and now it's a big push for the Baron.
Yeah, you've lost the Braum though, so the Braum is one of those key team fight tools that allows you to individually stun up those targets so easily with the Ashe. Sanji just a little aggressive for his own blue buff, and Withice is having none of it. With that Sterex popping and just gets it.
Yeah, Cabana going to move away too. Seemed like that blue buff was a little bit of a greedy attempt overall from Sanji. Will be losing his life at the very end. Though, still, they're trying to get himself a little bit of vision control, and I think that if they got a little bit more, Reason Gaming would have went for the Baron, but they're not going to get too overzealous in that attempt whatsoever. They're going to go back to base. They got himself a lot of gold from that whatsoever, so they can just get back, try and convert that gold into some extra itemizations, and be fully prepared for the next engage. They're just about to rear its ugly head in the very, very near future.
A Baron will be a game ender because you have such a strong siege comp. Like, you just walk up the towers with Ashe, Braum, and Lulu. Like, who's going to stop you? And especially because we know that the Baron is a really good way of dealing with Ziggs. Like, he can't wave clear versus Baron means. Are they even going to get here in time? I don't even think they're going to get here in time.
There's nothing he can do. Maybe able to close himself the gap, try and get himself a volley from Jash and apply that slow. Unfortunately, not able to make it happen just yet. Big push through mid, and there you go. They're going to strand once again Kapana towards the bottom side of the map, towards the Dragon Lane, and maybe try and get himself 2 Inhib Towers. If they get 2 Inhib Towers, most of the time, that's resulting in a win. Sanji trying to jump on over. Luckily enough, thanks to his kit, he can make it over those walls without any issue. But you can see Ziggs is struggling pretty heavily to clear those minions, those empowered minions with the Baron buff, and that might be the downfall of Luminous Charm, not only in this series, but they're out if they lose this game, so they need to pull in one of the most insane comebacks versus Reason Gaming, but it just doesn't seem possible at this stage almost. There's a chance, as you said earlier, when you're commentating, you want to always think there's an opportunity, but it seems clearly out of the grasp of Luminous right now.
Yeah, and also what I really like from Reason right now is that, yeah, okay, Ziggs is doing his best to clear these waves, but look, they're 1-3-1ing it. They're just making the best use of Baron in every single lane. Like, just sit around these cannons and you're going to get the bot lane tier 1, the bot lane inhibitor down. Looks like they're trying to take out Withice, but I think Withice can literally just 1v1 this, and he has GA.
Yeah, he avoided a burst actually with a really good use of his ultimate on the Hectic Ultimatum. The volley of Jash is just too much damage apparently, even though you're supposed to use him more as a utility. The damage is just too high right now. And now every single Inhib Tower has fallen down. They got himself the empowered minions. The buff minions from the Nexus will be coming out very shortly. And now they just moved away, trying their best to get himself a few more kills. Maybe secure the ace before they take down the Nexus. And that is going to be set, game, and match as Reason Gaming secure himself their second game in the series. And will be sending Luminous Charm back home out of the Origin series already.
Yeah, and they'll be going against Cream Real Betis in the next round of the losers bracket. But a really good resurgence from them. I actually, from seeing them play, I don't know how they lost the first game because they were so dominant both games here. And I think they played a really, really nice play around the first Dragon, and they clearly knew how to deal with the Ziggs in this particular composition. Very, very clean stuff from Reason Gaming in both of these games. And I think as well, really understood how to sort of pressure the map out. And I love the 1-3-1 with the Baron to kind of make it very difficult for Ziggs to protect his base and stall out. Great stuff.
Yeah, amazing. Still really good attempt coming out from Luminous Charm. Hopefully we'll see them back in the future. We got 3 qualifiers and 3 stages happening back to back to back every single month. So I'm hoping to see Luminous Charm back on the Rift once again. But with that said, myself and Scoundrel, we're going to go back to a very short break, and we'll be back shortly for our third and final series of the day.
Welcome back to the Wild Rift Origin Series monthly final. It's our first one, and we're already saying goodbye to a couple of teams. We're about to say goodbye to some more because this is going to be our last series of the night, and it is on the line as we're in the lower half of that bracket, meaning that the next loss means that they'll go home. They'll take some prize money with them, 500 euros for making it this far. That's not too bad.
Yeah.
But also 92 points. As Maxwell mentioned before the break, this is all about reaching the main event, which is going to happen towards the late September, but more details about that are to follow. Gents, Pick Ban, our brand new series is, of course, Team Singularity going up against Vampire, two teams that have found themselves into the lower bracket after having some initial runs up in the top. What do we know about Team Singularity? I'm expecting a lot here, Kim.
Yeah, I'm actually very good friends with a lot of the guys on the Team Singularity roster. I know quite a lot with them. I play with them in solo queue frequently. You've got Joey and Keys in the bot lane. They've played so many games together. They're a really kind of like veteran bot lane in terms of the amount of games they've played together. They're also previous mobile MOBA players from another mobile MOBA, and they had competitive experience in that MOBA as well. So both really good players. Ryu is a very smart top laner, like really smart guy. He's one of the few top laners in the game that I think is maybe one of the best on tanks out there. Like there are a lot. I think his carry pool is a little weak, but his tank pool is very strong. So I think that's why I think it's something that really gives them a big edge. And then actually they've got a pretty strong jungle as well. Another guy from a previous mobile MOBA too. They've got a lot of previous mobile MOBA experience on this roster actually.
Yeah, it can help a lot with a different kind of take on the current game itself on Wild Rift. So I'm enjoying the fact that we've got so many old players back in the scene, especially Joyce Gags. I mean, he's criminal. This guy was not picked up earlier, so it's good to see him finally into a competitive setup. But here we go. We've got the bans coming out already for these two teams. Going to be the Garen, also the Ziggs, Seraphine, and the Braum taken off the bat. So pretty normal bans. I'm not really too surprised. The Seraphine may be a little bit of an outlier, but that might be something the Singularity intended to play with. So they take that one off the board. And yeah, I mean, this is a very meta kind of draft coming out from these two teams. The Wukong to followed up with the Gragas already. Good engaged potential coming out from them. So right off the bat, what I'm seeing for Vampire, when you have such an engaged potential, I would love to see a Kai'Sa to be put in that ADC position to back up those engages and get direct access to the backline. That would be the game plan I would like to see. But you have a Camille with those tech ultimatums, could be trying to play spoilers to the likes of the Kai'Sa. They're going to take the Kai'Sa away. I think Singularity knew that would have been too good of a pickup to pair with Vampire's comp.
Kai'Sa is Joey's best pick, so like there's no way you wouldn't pick it on this rotation. They're going to go for the Renekton pickup, which I know that Ryu is a big fan of. I think he specifically said, I believe Renekton is incredibly underrated right now in the meta. One of the common builds that you see in Europe is Black Cleaver into full tank, but one of the builds that you might see over in Southeast Asia, which is gaining popularity in solo queue, is Blade of the Ruin King into Black Cleaver, so a bit more of an aggressive Renekton build. Joker, who's the jungler for Singularity, is a big Camille player, so that's absolutely going into the jungle for him, for Singularity, and that kind of leaves us with a mid lane and a support left to pick, and you just see the Galio and the Rakan get locked in. So versus Rakan, like Braum's already gone, like other tanky supports like Alistair are good answers into Rakan, and it's going to be the Lulu though. That's interesting. It's okay into Rakan. I do prefer tanky supports into Rakan because Rakan can't deal with them very easily, but Lulu's fine. It supports the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, exactly with the Kai'Sa. Also, you can just add on top of the dominance of the Renekton, you can also add a Wild Growth. So he's going to be a real big beefy boy at the end when he goes for those initiations. Or Lulu Olaf. That's a very old one that we saw very early on in Wild Rift. It's coming back a little bit recently. I've seen it especially back in the, I think we saw it once or twice in the Summer Cup of the Icon series. So Olaf Lulu is going to be a very interesting one, and it's pretty hard to deal with. You just can't stop that Olaf whatsoever. And they're going to go full Xayah Rakan. We talked about it. It's typically an S tier kind of AD carry matchup right now together. They work extremely well. They got strong peeling. That peeling means nothing against that Olaf if he procs the Ragnarok. So the rest of the team good, but Olaf, if he times that Ragnarok properly, then the Blade Caller is not going to be as impactful as you might expect.
Okay, I'm sensing a very stark difference here. A lot of familiarity with Team Singularity. I think Kiernan's friendship is really going to shine through on this cast of how much insight he's going to be able to bring. Try not to root for them, though. We don't want any biased casters, all right? Yeah. I'm going to disappear, and if I'm going to come back, and I'm going to have words if you are biased, all right, Kiernan? So just bear that in mind, yeah? Watch me.
Woo! Go Singularity! No, I'm
you're
joking.
troubling, scoundrel.
I actually think Vampire's draft is super solid, by the way. I think they've got a really strong team fight combo, and like plenty of chain CC in there as well, which is going to prove really a big issue for Joey if his positioning is not absolutely on point. So like a lot of this is relying on just Joey having a very strong positioning or snowballing off like the Renekton Camille combo. Otherwise, if you come to strict team fight situations, I think Vampire have got a very strong team fight comp, and it's very difficult to punish Xayah because she has the Feather Storm to just keep her safe in any situation. So a lot of pressure on Kai'Sa's shoulders to kind of to really position well in this game.
Yeah, though to give the respect to Droskagz, I think he deserves. He, in the recent tournament, we were talking about a lot, the Northern European tournament that happened just recently, where Singularity did beat Reason Gaming in that final matchup and did take the win 3-0, very dominant. Almost every single game, Kai'Sa was banned away purely because Droskagz were playing those specific matches.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He is insanely talented on every AD champion you give him, but Kai'Sa is definitely one that I would say he is the best at performing at. So in terms of position, I'm expecting him to be pretty good. And if the team engages properly around that Kai'Sa, he should be set up for success. But here we go. We're going to dive once again onto the Rift for the first game of our series of Singularity versus Vampire Esports. And this is an interesting one. I think that these are two well-matched up teams here, Scandal. So it's a little bit hard to call who I think might be taking the series here.
Yeah, I think Singularity come in as favourites, but I do believe that Vampire are a team that maybe doesn't get as much credit as they deserve. I think they're strong. It's interesting that actually we have Renekton mid for Xayah. So I was actually watching Ryu play a bit of solo queue today, and he was spamming Camille, and he was like, "Oh wait, I'm actually pretty good at this champion." And so I wasn't expecting him to convert that directly into competitive. Oh wow. My word, Xayah, you absolutely! Oh my gosh, he got level 2. He got level 2.
You lucky, mate. Oh, damn. Okay, Warlife might be a little bit careful. He's potentially going to be waiting also for the honey fruits to spawn. They spawn just now. He's going to pick it up instantly. But Xayah already got that lane picked up, so he's going to pick up his very own honey fruit. But okay, a little bit of an aggressive start coming up from these two teams.
Yeah, that was very all-in from Xayah there.
But
AD, actually, the Renekton mid is a great answer into Galio. Galio is an anti-AP champion. He's very good at dealing with AP matchups, especially AP melee matchups like Diana and Katarina. He sucks versus Renekton. Like, he really sucks versus Renekton. He does not have a shield that protects against physical damage. Renekton is pretty much exclusively physical damage. So this is a great matchup for Renekton, and I don't really envision that Warlife's going to get much love here.
Yeah, I really enjoy that matchup. It works really well for the likes of Xayah. I still want to see Xayah potentially play back on Ahri that I've seen played a few months ago. So I'm still going to request the Ahri pick in mid eventually. One day will happen. I hope for this Origin series. We've got 4 days to go. So I'm sure at one point a team will make my dream come reality. As they go, Scuttle's going to be secured away by Kemal. Top side was already secured away by the opposing side of Singularity. So no double Scuttle control this game, unlike the last series between Reason Gaming and Luminous Charm. So a little bit happy to see that coming on through. Seemed like they were paying attention. The first Drake is going to be Mountain, and this is very clearly, and we mentioned about this many times in Scandal throughout the day, is the fact that if the first Drake is going to be Mountain and not an Infernal Drake has priority at any kind of stage of the game. Here, you can very easily contest and lane kind of cross-map that Mountain Drake without too much of an issue, and Ryu is the one we're looking at to potentially do that. So he has to be very aware and cautious of how he wants to play around the map. Do you want to take the fight for the first Drake, or do you want to try and maybe get a tower on one of the side lanes?
I mean, you do have the good old boost Olaf comp, which is actually relatively solid in some of these early fights. Javix looking maybe for a level 5 with his ultimate here. I mean, Ryu's going to have to be super careful. I don't think he wins these.
Yeah, Body Slam's not going to be up anymore. That could have been a really good engage coming out from Javix, maybe just enough to close off with the explosive cast, but he's going to keep it up and ready to go. But we talked about it many times, is if the Hectic Ultimatum comes on through, explosive cast, and you're just going to be displacing away that Camille, and the ultimate is taken down instantly. Though mid, there's going to be a big rotation. You can see on the minimap from Dark Ghost wants to try and close that gap on Xayah because he sees Warlife is getting bullied into submission very clearly. You talked about the AP matchup that Warlife typically does really well into. Xayah's doing well, so he needs a little bit of backup, but even then, it is clearly not enough. Xayah wants to hold on very strongly to this mid lane.
Yeah, and also Xayah going to have a lot of presence in this first team fight. I'm very interested to see which build he does go, by the way. It looks like he's going for the Black Cleaver build to begin with. Looks like he's got a bit of an edge here versus Warlife. And yeah.
Oh, okay. There we go.
I mean, I have just to make you aware, we don't have the game feed anymore. So anyway, this first dragon is going to be pretty insane. This first dragon is going to be clearly the big turning point, I think, for the game. Now, I wonder whether we are going to see Ryu go for a cross map onto the first the first tower, or we see him come and join the fight. I think the problem is that, you kind of have to rely on the Olaf to kind of like run this fight down. Because I think if it comes to a strict like 5v5, then I do believe that you're at a loss if you Singularity. I don't think you actually win that as easily, because I think the 5v5 is slightly better, especially at that first dragon for Vampire. But I think if Singularity can cross map, they can start to accelerate that gold a little more. That could be something that we look to see them do.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I think that definitely you talked about the cross map that could be really strong. So we'll see. As we got the feed back up, Excountress, we're going to know exactly what's happening in this game. So we've got some eyes, we've got vision of what's currently unfolding on the Rift. Ryu's going to be on that front line, trying to hit himself a little bit of a sweep. Not much, as the Dragon's going low, 50%, and Ragnarok going to be popped away by the Olaf. That's the fight you're looking to see coming on through, but the Blade Callers are so strong coming up from Zero, especially the CC's just not there, especially not on this Olaf, as Singularity now going to be losing himself an extra player. That's going to be Ryu down and ready to go, as the Dragon's going to be secured out and will be going over to the blue side of Singularity. Fight's going to keep on rolling. You be careful there, Zawa. You might be batting down more than you can actually chew. He will make it out just fine, but can't say the same for the likes of Keys that went a little bit overboard and will be losing his life in the process. Joystax, though, really willing to go for those kills, but the Void Seeker will not be making it through that Wolf Camp.
I mean, at the end of the day, it was a win for Singularity. They pick up the Drake and also kind of get an even team fight off the back of it. Joey was kind of untouched the entire fight. And so he was on the sidelines just getting those passive stacks built up with no one really threatening him. However, that key example that you saw from Javix there, he was doing enough to frontline to kind of worry Joey that he couldn't go more aggressive in that situation. He was threatening the body slammer every time, which meant that Joey wasn't able to convert on those low HP targets that he was chasing down through the jungle. So good stuff. Let's have a look back at the replay of this fight. You can see here Ryu on the front line. Obviously, they separate out the Wukong. We get the Wukong Galio combo, gets a lot of knockups. Ryu buys a lot of time, uses his ultimate to get kind of like a split up in this team fight. Joey over to the back line to take out the Rakan very quickly here. And again, look at Javix threatening Joey out of the fight. Joey finding it difficult to get consistent basic attacks off. And eventually, they collapse back into the front line of Singularity, and Joey just isn't quite strong enough to chase down them in the jungle. But we have another fight here around the Rift Herald.
Around the Rift Herald not going to be secured just yet, so it's going to be happening later on. But back to that fight you just mentioned, right? There was a very clear split for Vampire. They were thinking, do we go for Joyskags or do we go for the Dragon? I think that Joyskags could have been maybe a very valuable target to take down and maybe put the focus right after on the Dragon, but it was so short notice that they had to go for a decision, try to go for the Drake. It didn't quite work out at the end. Ryu, there you go, another Hectic Ultimatum. The Feather Storm, really well used by Zero, able to negate the entirety of the ultimate. Going very low, the Herald, who's going to be the one secured away, is going to be in smite range, and it will be secured actually by the Galio. Warlife secures it for himself. As Vampire now, the health bars are just dwindling away into oblivion, trying to make it out. The stun of this Renekton is going to be big for Zawa, and that's another very strong win going in favor of Singularity, and is looking like this game is slipping away for Vampire as time goes on.
Yeah, and they get the Rift Herald, but you may end up losing the first turret of the game to Camille on the top side of the map here, which means it wasn't massively worth it, especially as the next dragon's going to be Ocean. Doesn't look like Rio's going to get enough time on that tier 1, though, so a bit more space to try and use the Keys just BMing. That's classic Keys, by the way. You got a bit more space here for Vampire to try and utilize that Rift Herald to their advantage. Still, teamfight wins kind of in favor. I think the brawling power of Zawa is becoming very apparent right now, especially in the smaller skirmishes where you don't have everyone grouped up. Zawa is kind of popping off, and that's what we expect of a Renekton this early on into the game. And he's going for the tankier Renekton build. No Blade of the Ruined King here instead. And we're going to take a look back at this fight. So, Vampire have the setup. They go for the big old Wukong Galio combo again, which is very tried and tested. You just get the knock-up into the knock-up, which is very strong. But look at Zawa on the backline. No one's touching him. No one's threatening this Renekton at this point in time. And you try and go for Ryu, who's got that mobility built into his kit. You need to focus down the Renekton. Get an early Executioner's Cooling, which you have got from Zero, and just trying to focus that Renekton down ASAP, because he was just left completely alone in that team fight. And Renekton, who's left alone, is just going to rinse through the backline.
Yeah, and Scandal, I'm seeing a big issue actually coming up and arising quite a few times, especially the last 2 fights, is that I got the impression Vampire's got a really big issue with their team focus. They sometimes make indecision, and in my eyes, when you're in any game, it's better to go for a bad decision than not knowing what to do. And here they're very clearly trying to make a plan work out, and they just lose themselves in the middle at the end of these fights, and they lose their focus, and they just lose the fight off the back of that. So I think that they need to try and get back into the mindset, get back in the zone of a good competitive game. But there you go. Hero's entrance to the bottom side, not going to be doing an insane amount of CC. Keith's going to be ulting himself, and this is a little bit of an overstep. I'm going to say a little bit, actually a big overstep, because Kimao died there when there was really no reason for that to happen, and now Zawa's ready to go potentially for a tower dive.
Yeah, he's looking for it. Zero might even just face check into him. Zawa's popped the ultimate.
Yeah, he get instantly taken down. He's going straight for the tower. He got himself the Dominus ready to go, and he popped it instantly. Big health bar, big beefy Croc, and he's going to go for the flash to confirm it. Gets the stun, the extra basic attack, and that is the kill once again to Zawa, seeming pretty unstoppable this game.
Yeah, this mid lane Renekton pick working huge for Singularity, especially into that matchup versus the Galio, where it gets a lot of value. And now that mid lane tier 1, now they don't have anyone to protect it, is being opened up like almost instantaneously for Singularity. Great convert, great collapse into the mid lane tier 1. What a first tower in the game to get as well, because that mid lane tier 1 opens up the rest of the map. So you can now start to get some offensive vision control in both the blue and red side jungle. So I'm expecting Singularity to now push that vision line in a little further, especially on the setup for this next Drake of the game, which will be the Infernal, which is a really big one to try and contest. And we have that Baron starting up in around 5 seconds as well. So obviously we have a Baron to worry about in the future also. But Singularity in a very strong spot. I think they did come into this matchup as favorites. They're clearly showing that they're the favorites in this early game right now. And a lot of that lead is sat on Zawa's shoulders. He is 7-0-1 on the Renekton, by the way. Very, very undervalued pick in competitive right now, and Singularity is showing why.
Yeah, there you go. Another fight going to be happening once again. Singularity not going to have higher priority, but the big knock up there, all singled out. Singularity got himself CC'd engaged, but Joker had to pop the ulti at the very end. Nobody dies just now, but Vampire definitely taking a really severe beating, and with the Baron up, as you said, Excandral, that will take their focus. The Singularity instantly with the eyes on the prize.
Yep, and they have a very quick Baron take with the Olaf and with the Kai'Sa here too. They have the Lulu to speed up the take also, and they should get it scot-free. The teleport's coming through, but
I don't like that. Yeah, that's the... He knows he's instantly going to regret that decision. Flashes himself away. The Herald is going to be available in mid. Was used away by the likes of Warlife. They got to be careful there. Zawa a little bit too far. The Dominus will be used. And he wants to go for the re-engage, but you're down to 50%. I would not recommend it. Focus down the Herald. You should be fine. And that was clearly a reactive Herald coming out. And you want to try and be proactive. You want to try and create opportunities with it, not try and react to a Baron push. And unfortunately, they just lost themselves so much in that fight. Once again, the Herald now wasted as... a little bit too far there. Not sure what's happening with Javix. He's going for opportunities I would never think anyone will try and give a shot. He's trying his best, and he's taking too much damage along the way. So I'm not sure. Seemed like Vampire trying to fix things on the go, but it's just clearly not working as they intend to.
Yeah, I think they were trying to sort of bait Zawa in. I mean, Zawa's worth a ridiculous amount of money right now on the shutdowns, so just trying to bait him in and potentially get the kill with the surprise Galio ultimate coming out, but they weren't able to make it work. If you can get a kill onto Zawa, like that's a big chunk of gold you can massively potentially swing back in your favor. We do have a fight coming through though.
Yeah, quickness from the Rakan. Going to get access to the backline just a bit, but the team is not there to back it up. And now Hectic Ultimatum, you're going to be singling out a few targets here. Hard bars are going lower and lower by the second for Vampire. Big engage, but no Joyce Gags. That might be a little too much. An instant regret for Joyce Gags as he does lose his life in the process. Keith, I don't know why over there, mate. He gave it a shot, didn't work out, whatever. There's still going to be Singularity moving out of that one entirely. And... yeah, weird one. Singularity, take the L on that fight.
Well, is it an L? Because you're getting a tower in the bot lane, like... It may look like an L, clearly.
It was a bit much, I would say.
But it was definitely an overstep, but it was a 4 versus 5. You actually got a kill in the 4 versus 5. You went 2 for 1 and got bot lane tier 2. Clearly worth the Singularity. Like, absolutely 100%. I'd take that trade every single day of the week. Loving the build from Zawa, though. Look at this. Blade of the Ruined King coming through for this chap. He's got a very aggressive with the guy with the Stoneplate enchant onto his boots as well. He's going to be very difficult to take out in this next team fight, and I think he'll be the difference maker in this Infernal play. You can take a look here. Again, just like I think I praise Vampire for trying to force the 4v5, but they're just too far behind at this point. Like Zawa's too tanky, too difficult to take out. Obviously, Joey Skaggs did not want to do that ultimate. Realistically, that was not the play. But at the end of the day, it happened. He went for it. He's trying to follow up. We have another engage in the mid lane, though.
Yeah, back in mid. Ryu going to have to jump away from that one with a hook shot. He's going to be able to make that one work out. Joker's got to be careful. Does pop himself out of the fight, just on the brink of HP on the deathbed, but we'll be able to make it out just fine. 12-6 currently, 30 minutes, 20 seconds into the game, and the gold lead just about 10k in their favor. This, especially with the Infernal Drake, this is the point where it's almost impossible to come back from. I'm not going to say impossible, but it's almost impossible to come back from because the lead is too big, and if they get any kind of inhib towers, which Zao is just bullying this mid lane every time, then that's where things are going to get really dicey for Vampire to take this first game of the series.
I think realistically, like, when you're looking at comeback in Wild Rift, you're always looking at potential late game options. I don't think that your late game is better than Singularity. Like, don't get me wrong, Xayah scales okay. You've got some really good front lines to scale with too, but I don't think you scale much better than Singularity. Exactly. You're going into a Kai'Sa, you're going into a Camille, a Lulu Olaf, Lulu Kai'Sa. Like, these are things that you almost can't deal with in the late game. So as much as I want to say potential, I think Vampire have already missed the mark for what they needed to do this game. And I think, unfortunately, they are very unlikely to find another window back in at this stage.
Top side, that's going to be a little bit of an engage. Got to be careful, Joey Skaggs. That's twice. You're going a little bit deep in those fights. Already going to be able to flash himself back to safety. Now is re-engage time for Ryu. Hectic Ultimatum, Blade Caller not going to be doing too much full zero. Unfortunately, as Zao, he has his eyes straight on the prize and he knows exactly which target he's going to go for, but he's going to collapse on the next best thing, and that is going to be War Life as he has to go golden for a few. War will be not losing his life actually for now, as Zao is going to try and move his way even further forward towards that Baron lane inhib tower. And he gets it done once again. It was a little bit of a messy fight, all over the place, I would say, Scoundrel. But you know what? Can't argue his results, and that's another fight going the way of SNG.
And again, the Baron is up once more. I think SNG, they're taking a little bit of time to kind of like put that final nail in the coffin. But honestly, that coffin has been well and truly sealed for quite some time. Singularity absolutely in the driving seat. Interesting attempt at the Baron from Joker with keys by himself, but they can group up and do this very easily. I think that the Baron would be like the deal breaker here. Like, you'd be able to take that out super easily. Take a look here. Joey just out of position once more. A little bit too aggressive, has to flash out, but by the time that Ryu joins the fight, they don't really have the damage to actually take down the Camille easily. And then Galio jumps in. Zawa is the big raid boss that's eventually come in, and at this point you're just picking off one by one. Unfortunately, Warlife knows that he's dead. The rest of them are able to retreat to their base. Warlife kind of gave his life to try and sacrifice on the exit and paid for it, but at the end of the day, Singularity are winning these team fights anyway.
Yeah, pretty dominantly so also. Unless there was a little bit of an overstep coming up from Joey Skaggs, which happened twice, so he's got to be careful how he positions in those fights. But
I mean, Joey's not the carry.
Exactly. He's not anymore, right? He's not anymore, right? Yeah, Zao now is just going to be looking at a flawless game here all around. 7-0 in 4, a 15,000 gold coming his way. He's 4,000 gold, 3,000 gold ahead of a War Life, which is the other mid laner he was dealing with. But currently has the best KD on the other side, 3-1-2, which is not amazing by any stretch of the imagination. So he's clearly one step above the rest. So bottom side, that's going to be a mini 1v1 currently happening with Ryu and also the Gragas played by Javix. But you can see the split push is continuously there, trying to put pressure, force the comebacks from Vampire onto the bottom side of the map. But it's just not working out because the wave clear from Javix is struggling quite a bit, and he keeps on getting poked down by Ryu. And because of that, because of the split focus of Vampire, they're going straight for Baron fight.
I mean, you go for Baron here. Baron's the way that you end the game right now. I mean, Zao is just creating pressure on the top side of the map. They're going to get Baron for free. There's no way that, I mean, you can't even enter your own red side jungle if you're a Vampire. I mean, Zao is a little overextended here.
Okay, Dominus and also the Wild Growth. That is the biggest champion I think I've ever seen in Wild Rift right now. And he's going to get himself some decent damage. Dokimel pretty damn tanky into this one. I think it's down to his build path to make sure that he does not go down almost instantly. JVX is going to be left stranded away. And they don't even... That was literally a 4v5. And Singularity was still looking dominant. So the moment you add also Joker to the mix, that's when things start to find closure for Singularity as they try and secure themselves game one of this series against Vampire. And there you go. They're knocking on the Vampire's door and they're about to tear down the entire door about, should I say.
They're going for every inhibitor tower, like way too easy for them to do so. I mean, Zao is dead, or at least the GA's popped. Come on, guys, you got to save Zao's perfect KDA. You got to save Zao's perfect KDA.
Give it to him. Oh, he's getting chased. They don't want to give it to him, though. Apparently, Scoundrel will come out, will lose his life, and Singularity will continuously go for the push. A little bit of an overstep. He's got himself the GA. Will try and respawn. A little too early War Life, unfortunately, and with the Baron buff, too. Those Manions are going to be clearing it even quicker, and this is going to be finding closure right now, as that's going to be Games of the Redemption to make it up, and that's going to be game number one going over to Singularity in very dominant fashion. In fashion, I would almost say here, Scoundrel, where Singularity seemed like they were playing with their food from time to time versus Vampire.
I think end of the day it was a bit of draft diff. I think that was a really strong mid lane pick into the Galio. I think Zawa really carried the early game. I would critique Singularity though. I think they struggled to close out the mid game quicker than they should have done. I think versus better teams, if you give them that 5 minutes from 12 minutes to 17 minutes that Singularity gave Vampire, they would find a way to, punish you harder than Vampire were able to. I think Singularity they found it difficult to end despite the massive lead that they got themselves in that early mid game. However, very clean stuff. Zawa kind of put the game on his back a little bit with that Renekton pick, but no one was really in danger of kind of being no one was massively in danger of being too far behind for the Singularity roster, and they just had a really solid game all round.
Yeah, I was very surprised, to be completely honest, Scoundrel, seeing Singularity in the lower bracket this early on in the tournament. I thought Team Future would have been a good matchup, but they have to redeem themselves in our eyes, and I think they're definitely doing so in these drafts and these games. But you know what? We'll have to break down this game a little bit more and go towards game 2 of this series for Singularity versus Vampire as we head on over to a very short break. We'll be back on the desk with Trade It right after.
And we're back. Team Singularity instilling some confidence back into us, as you kind of alluded to there, Max. But you didn't expect them to be in the lower bracket, but they're making the case that they need to extend their tournament life a little bit longer. And when I'm looking at last game, really, and I think you guys hammered it home, it was the story of Zawa's Renekton in the mid lane. Like, what a fantastic pick against the Galio. And he became a raid boss throughout the entire map.
Yeah, Scandal touched upon it that game, right? Galio does really good into AP matchups, and that was a setup that came in really early on in that draft from the entirety of SNG. They knew that they were going to get himself priority in mid because of that Renekton matchup that worked really good. He almost got himself a kill in, what was it, a minute 30, 2 minutes in the game, forcing the flash instantly out of one of the players, actually the Galio. It's very interesting. I think that is something that maybe you're looking at Vampire, they will try and make sure that doesn't happen in the next matchup, because Galio struggles a lot against that. And what happened off the back of Renekton getting that kind of lead is it was forcing Rakan to roam instantly into the mid lane. So because of that, it created priority in other sides of the map to try and assist the likes of this Galio, and then made the game a lot easier on other sides of the map for the entirety of SNG. So that one little change alone made it very easy for them to gain priority, gain the lead, and then take the game off of that.
Yeah, and they kept gaining their lead just for following off the back of like the micro lead. The one thing leads to another, to another, to another. They didn't really seem like they lost control of the game. But I want to highlight this particular clip, and Kieran, I want you to take us through this one. Is this first Herald fight? Can you break this down for us? How did this go down?
Yeah, let's have a look. Okay, so this is following the Dragon fight. There was a little bit back and forth where it was a slight edge that came out, but specifically Zawa, as you can see here, came really well out of that Dragon fight. So he's in a pretty good spot right now. Right, backline. I don't know why Xayah has already used her ultimate. I don't think she's massively being threatened here, but at the end of the day, she's already used her ultimate. So she's in the back of the pit.
You see Ryu, right?
Sorry, say again.
Is Ryu not a big enough threat?
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of.
He just used his ultimate there. So that's why he used the Hectic Ultimatum, and he used it as a response to negate it in that fight.
Yeah. But like at the end of the day, you have the protection of Dark Ghost, and you have both of your base. So I think it was a little reactionary to use your. I don't blame him. Don't get me wrong. Don't blame him. Absolutely. Camille is definitely a threat, but it's a little reactionary given how much support you have. You have essentially what is a Galio here as well. Like imagine if a Camille ults you and you have the Galio ultimate. If your team's communicating, you know you have the Galio ultimate, so you should be able to use the Galio ultimate onto the back line and potentially save him. Regardless, though, he's used it. So he's used it reactionary to stop the Camille ultimate. So I completely understand. But this is a beeline now for Zawa. Like all Zawa needs to do, there's no flash. He's used his ultimate. Like you just get into the back of the pit because there is nothing that Xayah can do at this point in time. So we're going to play it out, right? You need to keep your eyes on Zawa. He's the absolute MVP here. Right, backline. Boom. Stunned up. Nothing. The Zero's not even basic attacking. Nothing he can do. So pause right there. Whatever happened here doesn't matter because no one dealt with Zawa. And as I said, there's nothing you can do as a Xayah in that situation if you've got no flash and you've got no ult. Like the Renekton just walks in and bops you on the head. And then suddenly the rest of V3 are like, okay, like we did pretty well against Ryu and Joker, like they're low HP. Keys is kind of on his way out here, but we have a very angry Crocodile in the back of the pit and we are very low HP. Boom. Kemal dead. Keys is there just supporting Zawa at the same time. Boom. Rakan dies at the end of this as well. That is now an extremely fed Crocodile, like extremely fed. And that was the platform that Zawa used to kind of carry the game from this point onwards. And I think A little bit of miscommunication from Vampire. I think you could have saved Desire ultimate a little longer. You could utilize the Galio ultimate or the Rakan to provide the shielding and the knockups that you needed to save her. Because realistically, apart from the Camille, no one else is threatening you. And a Camille this early on in the game, she's not going to one-shot you. Yeah, she's a threat if she gets people to collapse on you with the Camille ultimate. But at this stage in the game, it's not like I'm going to one-shot you. Whereas in the late game, that definitely can be the case. So once that had all gone down, great presence of mind from Zawa to know that there was a sitting duck in the back line, takes them out, nothing they can do in the rest of that team fight.
I also liked that you were showing us the entrance as well. Zawa spotted the Galio ultimate coming in, just waited a brief extra second to not get knocked up before taking the path into the pit, making sure they weren't CC'd. But this is kind of the stuff we're expecting from a team like Singularity, Max, isn't it? Mechanically gifted, but also they have a clear game plan when they're coming into this.
Yeah, especially we saw at the very start of the show, right? We had a little section where we were hearing from a few of the players, and Ryu said he thinks a lot of the teams in this tournament are maybe overlooking them, and then you're thinking back at the Game Lords, your Tribes are maybe not seeing them as a true amount of competition. They clearly are, despite that big hiccup, that 2-0 that they lost versus Team Future in the quarterfinals, which I do think is just them having potentially a really bad performance at the very start of the day, but they got themselves back into the rhythm of things, and they could go really far. They proved that they are a championship level team. They could very clearly make it back from the loser bracket and make the Grand Slam happen in the bottom side back into the finals. So I'm hoping to really see them go really far in this tournament. I think that they showed some really good moments of greatness, not only this tournament, but the last few tournaments. So we need to see Singularity be on this A game all the time, because this is great. Well, they played, the draft was strong, the execution was strong, but it needs to be like that on a consistent basis, which I guess we didn't see the match, but I guess that didn't quite happen versus Team Future. They were definitely not the favorite in that matchup.
Right then, let's close the book. I got props now on game 2. Game 1, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and then jump into game number 2. The Team Singularity are leading the series. I now believe they're going to be going on to the red side for this next match. Is that going to change up anything with the draft at all? Do you think it's still going to be Singularity just dominating in game number 2?
I think it's going to be pretty similar. Both teams went for very meta bans and also very meta picks. We saw the first pick actually coming out last game was Camille for the side of Ryu on Singularity. And I think that if you don't get yourself access to a Camille, you can very easily switch up the Camille for another champion if you want. I'm thinking of a Gragas that's really good in terms of you can flex in different positions. That's what also Camille offers. You can play at jungle, you can play at Baron lane. So if you want to go towards another champion that is not Camille, if it's picked away or even banned, I think it's fine. So I'm not expecting too many big shifts, but some champions might be exchanged between these two teams as we go on down this draft phase.
Yeah, I think Renekton in itself, in a bubble, I don't think is a huge deal, but I think into a matchup like that is where you really get value out of the Renekton. So I honestly, I'm not sure Renekton's worth banning, but you just need to be a little more careful about the flexibility of Singularity. Like, Zawa has got a very wide champion pool. Like, Zawa can play a lot of champions, and that's one of the things that makes him such a strong mid laner, I think, for Singularity. And plus, him and Ryu do share champion pools, so you have that ability to flex those champions. And also, I love the fact that we saw Ryu flexing the carry muscles a little bit more. Has been classically more known as a tank player in competitive, but seeing him get onto the Camille, be a bit more carry orientated, very good for him.
So let's say they do ban the Renekton, right? And we're going to get our answers pretty soon. Because let's say they do ban the Renekton, you're going to have to what could be an option to shut down a Galio pick in mid lane, just as an educational piece to some of the newer viewers. What's quite good into Galio that isn't the Renekton?
Any AD mids, if you really want to go for a Zed, for instance, any AD mids are good into the Galios. Otherwise, ranged mids can be quite good. Even if they're AP, you can still punish the fact that you're ranged versus melee matchups. Really, Galio is kind of okay in a lot of matchups. He's very good against melee AP matchups. Does struggle against melee AD matchups a lot of the time. But Garen mid can work. It's banned here. I've seen some Garen mids into Galios.
Yeah.
Camille mids I've seen into Galios, for instance. There are a lot of things that you can flex into that mid lane versus a Galio. It's just whether about it fits your team comp or not.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's going to be the Renekton banned away by Vampire. They don't want to get bullied into submission once again. With the Olaf 2 and also the Garen, that's a lot of frontliners going to be taken off the board this time around. So a lot of Baron laners off. Intrigued to see what's going to be the final ban actually coming out from Singularity. Seemed like the Ziggs, there you go, the Ziggs is going to be banned away from them. I have no issue with this whatsoever. We talked about it, the Camille still being open. If you want to try and flex it, that'll be good. And I think that might be something towards which Vampire want to play. I remember seeing them play it back in the tournament. I think it was a month or 2 months ago. So they do play it quite a fair bit. And that's indeed going to be the first pickup for Vampire, as they're going to go with a Camille to first pick. So a little bit hard for Singularity to respond because they don't know exactly where to pinpoint down the location of that Camille. So they need to be a little bit adventurous in how they're going to go for their 2 first picks.
You kind of hit the nail on the head here, Max. At the end of the day, that's why Camille is such a good first pick in competitive. It just gives you that flexibility of the draft right now. You can go jungle or Baron lane. If I were Singularity, like I would be thinking about a safe Baron lane pick if I wanted to, like the Gragas. But the Braum Kai'Sa comes through immediately here, which is really interesting because Braum has got quite a few bad support matchups in the meta. Like he's not particularly strong into enchanters. However, it is a great pick to pair up with the Kai'Sa. Keeps her very safe. You have a lot of pick potential in the late game as well.
Okay, I'm happy. I'm having a good day now. My day went from good to even better. I'm having an Ahri fight. I'm going to prove you. Scoundrel, hopefully. Vampire, don't do me wrong. The Ahri mid can indeed work if played correctly. It's all about how you roam and hitting those charms. Of course, you've got to hit the skills for it to be decent. So we're hoping to see that coming on through. Better with a Rakan.
Why would you?
Interesting first. I don't know. I would have liked to seen some other ones maybe before, but Rakan picked very early on. I mean, you already got a support picked by Singularity. You don't have to pick support this early on.
No,
okay,
well,
Max. Okay.
No.
Just give it over to Kieran because I feel like he's going to mold a little bit about the Ahri.
I'm just molding because, like, why would you pick Rakan into Braum? Like, you've got so many good support options open. Braum sucks. Like, sorry, Rakan sucks into Braum. Like Rakan jumps in. Oh wait, you just hit him with Winter's Bite and suddenly he's stunned and dead. Like, it's just not a great. It's just not a great pick into Braum. Okay, and also you saw in a couple of fights, like if Rakan goes to the engage, Braum's just like, okay, I'm going to walk in front of him and just put the shield up, and suddenly you can't do anything in the team fights. That's an interesting rotation, though. The Fizz is an interesting one here. Jungle Fizz, 100% Jungle Fizz is, you know, or at least unless Zhao is feeling confident in that Ahri matchup, you can dodge the charm with your Playful Trickster, of course, which does make it, you know, give you a little bit of an edge. But I'm assuming this is Jungle Fizz, considering that you're seeing that you're going into a potential Kha'Zix now, which comes through. So we are flexing that Camille to the Baron lane.
This is a very squishy composition from Vampire. I don't know how they're going to go towards with this one, but they have a great front line coming up from Singularity with a Braum, and now the Pantheon too. This is an original take on the current draft. I'm really liking it. So Pantheon, seeing how things are going to come on through. Should be played into the, I believe it's going to be played then Baron lane, and they're going to put Gragas essentially in jungle. And then there's so many things they could make with this. So it's very hard to respond to this with Vampire. They're going to have to see how things work out, but I'm loving it. And we got the Ahri, so I'm down for this game.
Let's just see how we get into games.
I'm gonna let you two bicker because I feel like you have very different opinions on how this draft went. So I'm gonna disappear. I'm gonna get out of the way and let you two lovebirds have at it.
Thank you very much, Trid. We're going to see. I mean, I am definitely loving it. One thing for sure, I'm enjoying how this draft has played out, and we got some really interesting picks. I want to see this Ahri played out properly on the side of Vampire. It's all about how you roam, get yourself those charms
I just
down.
want Ahri to lose really hard so Max shuts up about Ahri. I just want Ahri to lose really hard so Max shuts up about Ahri. That'd be great.
Wow. Okay, but I mean, if Ahri does bad, I'll just ask for Blitzcrank next time. But in general, you talked about also the fact that they could be playing potentially this Ziggs in the mid lane position, but with the picks they have, they could put Gragas in mid, they could put Gragas also flex it in the jungle position. There's so many things that they could play around with, and if they want to lane swap or just swap positions midway, except for the jungle, of course, because he's going to have the smite, you could definitely do so. So yeah, I want to wait and see us actually going into the Rift for this game, because it's up in the air as to exactly what's going to be happening on Singularity's side.
Yeah, I think we've got to wait to see when we get into game before we make any speculation, and then we can see exactly which pick has gone where. If I had to speculate, I would imagine it's Ryu playing Gragas top, because that's something that he's more comfortable on. But look, we're getting into game. We'll see.
We'll see exactly who's got the smite on their side. The smite's going to be over to the Pantheon. It's going to be Joker on the Pantheon then. I don't know, because you play with Joker quite a bit. I don't know if that's a champion he plays a lot as of recently. It's not something that I've seen him play myself.
I haven't played with Joker too much, but it is, I think, actually is an underrated jungle pick in the meta. The interesting pick for me is
Concussive Blows going to be procced. Zero will be the first kill, and you give it over to none other than Joker himself. Talk about him on the Pantheon. Really good early game champ, and you got Braum too, man. You just got the perfect package to take an early game fight.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that they're going for the invade off the back of this as well. Have to be a little careful about level 1 invades, but it looks like Kha'Zix is on the opposite side of the map. The interesting matchup for me, though, is the is the Fizz into the Ahri. Like, that can be quite a difficult matchup, unless you're going to, be able to dodge away from the charm. But it looks like we're going to get a ward onto Kha'Zix. Are we going to see Zawa go for an invade here? Oh my god, Zawa.
And maybe a little bit too much there. I'm not a big fan, but you know what? He's able to put him out pretty low. He's going to get the flash on over, and Zawa might try and jump over. The blue did indeed go his way here. Scandal, he got ignited down. One more basic attack is all you need. They still get himself the kills. Aggressive from Zawa, I would say here, clearly, and maybe a little bit overzealous, but yeah.
It doesn't matter that it doesn't matter he died. It literally doesn't matter that he died. Kha'Zix is level 1 at 1 minute 12 into the game.
Yeah.
Like, he's completely gutted Kemal's earlier jungle here. Is Ryu about to solo kill Javix? Oh my god.
Oh, you gotta be careful. He's got the shield. No, Ryu just got baited out of that one. Got himself the barrier last second, and the honey fruit will be going back on over to Javix. Man, this is off to a bang of a game. I'm loving this one already. One more basic attack. Concussive blow gets it done once more. Keith will be there to trade it off back and forth with Zero. What is this game? You guys gotta chill out a bit. Do Vampire know if they lose, they're out? Like, come on, guys, we need to relax a little bit. Jesus.
I mean, they are getting kills back. Let's be fair. They are trading 1-for-1 in a lot of these scenarios. Looks like we're actually. Do you know what, Kemal? Props to you, because he's gone into a red side invade here. I think Joker kind of missed the trick a little bit. He's kind of allowed Kemal back into the game more so than he maybe should have done. And Kemal looks like he's gone for a red side invade and is going to get away with it as well, which is pretty crazy. Joker has not really got a huge level advantage over his opposite number, though. Has found the engage in the jungle onto him, but Kemal actually has the level advantage right now.
Yeah, he wants to reclaim his red buff. Can he jump on over? He gets himself the cooldown reduced, and he's good to go. Though, dive into the mid lane, get himself ignite, and another tower shot. It's a 1-for-1 trade happening once again. This game is nutty, and I'm loving it. I live for these kind of games, but the Ahri, unfortunately, not the roams I want to see. Don't roam under tower, please.
I mean, it's a rough matchup for Fizz pre-5.
Yeah.
So, I think you've got to be a little careful as Zawa. If you don't dodge the charm with your playful trickster, you are probably inting that matchup. And I think it was a very, very confident pick from Zawa to go into the Fizz here. Yeah, he got charmed. He got charmed in the middle of a first ability, and he doesn't have level 5, so he can't respond. So he's lucky that he traded 1-for-1 thanks to the tower overall.
Well, a little bit of a hard one, yeah. Unfortunately, not able to work out around that first ability in that fight around this Urchin Strike. It's a little bit of a hard encounter here. Still 3 minutes into the game, 4-3 in favor of Singularity. And Trid in the chat we are part of. He just says the word Fiesta. And you know what? I couldn't say any better word to describe what's currently happening on screen. A Fiesta is the perfect word to describe what's happening currently. As things like Clown Fiesta even says, yeah, Clown Fiesta. We're going to give him more. That's it, though. Kemal's going to push his way forward. Doesn't have himself the isolation buff. He's going to have to move away from that fight entirely. The Unbreakable was exactly what they needed, but though they're going to go for Joy Stacks. Maybe extend a little bit too far forward and goes for the Killer Instinct, and he picks up the double now and looking for the triple. The concussive blows are now going to be proc. One more basic stack is all you need, and that's the triple. And you know what? Kai'Sa triple kill already at this stage of the game. Okay, SNG are looking like the top team in this matchup.
Yeah, Font of Life, by the way, kind of busted. Looks
so good,
like,
right?
Yeah, Zawa just dies 1v1. It is a really hard matchup if you're not confident, and I really think this is a little bit overconfident from Zawa to go for the Fizz into the Ahri. But nonetheless, that bot lane is already giving a huge platform over to Joey Skaggs, who has now got a huge gold lead on that Xayah. So I really think that you're just seeing the prowess of the Keys Joey Skaggs bot lane in action right now, just getting a triple kill in that scenario. Great counter engage. It's what Braum is so good at, is the counter engage situations. And they may even... Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, tries to jump on over with the explosive seed. Unfortunately, not able to get anything out of it. Though his Kha'Zix right can very easily jump over to the other side of the pit. So if he can take that risk, that is fine. But yeah, Keith and also Joy Skaggs, very clearly two players that have a lot of... they know themselves for the longest time. They have some prior mobile MOBA experience together. They used to play together on some teams, sometimes as enemies. So they know how each of those two players play. And typically is more of the aggressive playstyle. The one ability, and Darkest was almost 50% HP. You've got to be careful. So Churn the Waters will be coming out, trying to move away with the Playful Trickster, and Javix will be there to close that gap. Hectic Ultimatum onto Ryu. There's no way he can escape and run from, as Javix gets himself the double. And bottom side, that's another kill to Joy Skaggs, and he's on an absolute rampage this game.
Yeah, bot side of the map is kind of carrying, and it's a good thing because Zawa went from carrying the game to like perma running it down on the Fizz. He's gone for the Rabadon's Death Cap, so at least he's gone for an item that's going to give him a huge amount of burst damage, because realistically, that's basically what he's going to be good for. If he lands a fish, it's just going to be about burst damage for him. But yeah, clearly not having the best game in this matchup. And it is, like I said in draft, that's what you want to do. Like now you have that's what you want to do if you're Zawa. Joey?
Oh, be careful there. Ghost goes for the killer instinct. Will pick himself up 1 kill. Nice snipe from a distance coming out from JFX. And now they're going to engage. Pull the sweep. Nice damage coming on through from the Camille. It's just going to be one stranded away in the distance. Pops back thanks to the hook shot. Nice re-engage and a little bit of a knockup coming out from Keys once more, but they're just running the party one by one. Not really loving what's happening from the side of Singularity. Ryu's going to join, but the health bar, they're not low enough. He's going to try and get himself to focus onto Kumao. Explosive cast puts himself so spread away from each other that Kumao is not able to lock up any extra damage, and now the passive of Braum is coming down so strongly. I thought it was too much. I thought it was an overstep, but it worked out for some time. Maybe not anymore. Actually, he's going to go for the body slam. Maybe looking for the kill. The Burrows are barely keeping Vampire up and alive, and the two go down. What just happened? What is this game?
Oh, that's a classic Joey Skaggs right there. like winning the game. Absolutely just turbo winning the game when you decide that you have to ult under tower. They kind of all got baited into like a crazy series of like one-on-one engages there. And honestly, you're giving a lot of gold over to Ari, who does get locked up by the Pantheon. Nice chum the waters, forces the flash early on. Zawa does, again, go a little aggressive for me here, Max.
Yeah, he's going to be able to flash away from that one finally, so he should be safe with the rest of the squad. Redemption able to heal them up just a tad. He's going to be down the front line, doesn't have his ultimate available anymore, so he's going to have to wait a few more seconds for that to be available for himself and to be able to proc that Glacial Fissure. Though no Herald available just yet for these two teams, not finding the opportunity for the time being, while in the bottom side you still have that 1v1 happening. They want to try and get himself that Scuttle to get vision awareness of that Herald pit.
God, this is so messy, Keys.
Yeah.
Oh. It's so messy. And I really don't think it has to be if you're Singularity. I think you're giving way too much over to Vampire. And I think you have to be careful. Like, this is not a one series. You can't, I don't think you can afford to like troll around here. This is not an absolutely one series. No, I love what Rio's doing. He's creating some side lane pressure against the Camille over here. He's going to now rotate over towards this Rift Herald.
Nice.
Oh my word, Joker. Yeah, okay, he's bought some time.
Charm into the knockup. The grand entrance is big, but unfortunately they lose himself their support instantaneously. Darga, see you later, Alligator. As a overstep happening from a Vampire very clearly in this fight. Sure, Singularity are pretty low, but that's going to create an opportunity to go straight for the Herald. And they got himself mid, getting pushed up too. So yeah, no, not the fan of how Vampire positioned that fight, though. The Charm connects once again. It'll be enough damage. Yeah, it will be followed up nicely by Zero. The concussive blow passive from the Braum is going to be connecting once more. And they're going to even further and beyond in that fight. Explosive cast connects perfectly for Ryu as they get the Herald and a bunch of kills. Singularity starting to build a really significant lead in this game.
Yeah, finally we see Singularity come alive. It was a really good initial push coming out from Ryu on the bot side of the map. It looks like JFix is going for a 2v1 though.
And he's smurfing in these fights. 1v2 picks up the tower, picks up the kill, also onto Joker. I mean, he was 2-0 in this game very, very early on in that Baron lane matchup, and he was doing really, really good things. But now they're going to go straight for Drake. So yeah, it's weird. Joey Skaggs was having such a good early game, but now it seemed like there's almost that comeback opportunity coming to Vampire. They're almost even Steven in this game.
Yeah, and they're going to get the Dragon off the back of that as well. That nice little 2v1 picked up by JVix now has allowed them that space and that priority in the mid lane to go for the Dragon. Got to say, Zawa outplayed a little bit towards the end there to get himself back into back out of that kill. And where do you even analyze this game though? It's just brawl. It's fist fight after fist fight after fist fight. But again, we talk a lot about scaling. I do think the scaling favors Singularity. It looks like Zero's getting caught out.
Nice, little bit of an engage, gives himself some nice CC with the Chain of Corruption, but is that going to help you? Of course, not really when you get collapsed upon by a 5-man crew, by the way, of Singularity. Vampire going to have to move away, but there's no clear jungle objective to secure now, so I would just say push mid tower, and seem like that's going to be the focus of SNG.
I think you should be going for mid lane tier 1, though. Mid lane tier 1 is one of the most important tier 1. What, Ryu? Okay, Ryu's there. Oh, he's got Zawa's backup, though. They might be able to get Kima.
Yeah, another Fiesta. The Braum passive concussive blows will be connecting once more. And the JVix trying his best to move away. The burn damage is going to be there. And now will be going over to Zawa himself. The Fishman doing pretty good things. Trying to move out. Nice little bit of an off angle. Joey Skaggs is going to be flashed away. I think that's a really good flash. Otherwise, that could have caused his demise in the grand scheme of things. You got to be careful there. Keith's a little bit too deep. Can he jump over on the target? I think that ability is currently off cooldown. The cask is going to be able to slow down the entirety of the team. And they go once again. What's happening? Chain of Corruption could get some big CC. Gets himself the root. Get himself another root on top of things. That's a double kill coming away of Vampire. And what? I don't know how to analyze this one. I fully agree, Excandal. This is weird.
It's 2 for 2 overall. The Rift Herald was dropped mid, picked up the mid lane tier 1. Kind of worth for Singularity overall. Look, You can brawl it out all you like. Go toe to toe every single fight, but you still have an enemy Kai'Sa, an enemy Fizz, Gragas tank. These things scale really well into the late game. You're playing kind of like a lethality Varus. It really only has so much legwork it can do before it starts to fall off. And as we've talked about before, compositionally for Singularity, they've got a lot of dive potential. Like it's kind of like an all-in opportunity. Like Fizz jumps in, Pantheon jumps in, Gragas jumps in, Joey can get to the backline with his ultimate. Like they have a lot of kill threat onto the backline, and if you can take out the Varus, if you can take out the Ahri very early on into these fights, you have a massive advantage of Singularity.
And also, you talked about it, especially in the draft Scoundrel, you touched upon it, is that this Rakan is not working as planned whatsoever, especially because you already had the Braum picked up so early in the draft for Singularity, and they went towards it very early on, and it just clearly has not been working versus Keys, and especially versus Keys and Joyskags together. So we're going to have a quick replay of that last fight. And very clearly, that chain of corruption was really big coming on through last second from the likes of Zero. Almost got himself a triple root, but Joyskags just barely able to each out of that one. Otherwise, that could have been a really, really big kill extra coming their way with some bounties. Though, another fight happening towards the Baron Pit. That's going to be the Charm connecting. Joker's got to be careful, very deep in that fight. But Javix, he's now going to be left unabandoned by his team, going to be ignited away and will indeed go down in the grand scheme of this game. Singularity still have 2 more players. Jump on forward from the Playful Trickster into the body slam. That's some big CC. That's some great damage, actually. Vampire gonna have to move away from that fight entirely, and Joker is there to connect the damage and get himself an extra stun. As Kamau, the last chance for his team of Vampire, will indeed go down. And that's the ace going the way of Singularity, and the double kill that goes the way of Joker.
Beautiful little bit of micromanaging from Singularity there. What I really loved about the end was how they juggled aggro between all of the different players on the team. Like Zawa goes in, Kamau turns around to try and find an isolation Q onto Zawa, can't find it. And also at the same time as Zawa jumping in, Ryu body slams in to prevent the isolation from even happening. Instant flash away to make sure that he can't get the kill and get the reset. Just really lovely micro stuff from Singularity in that little engage there. And we just see the Infinity Orb being finished up as well by Fizz, so lots of like execute damage. Very aggressive play from Dark Ghost there. Unfortunately, doesn't really have the backup. But look at this. Like
so
I love
good.
this. Love the stasis. Instantly they turn. You have the front line blocking the damage from Joker here. Look at the flash straight away from Zawa. He's away, and then they take out Kamau at the end as well. But just beautiful micromanaging. Like honestly, lovely micro play between the 3 of them right there. Kamau kind of desperate to kind of get his own camps at this point in time as well.
It was such a well-orchestrated fight. Zawa, also with Ryu and Joker, just one by one, they were being on the front line, dashing the CC, getting the damage done. It was so well played. That is a big proof of strong synergy and communication being dealt between these 3 players, especially on the side of Singularity. So I want to see more of that. It's great to see. But it's weird we're still seeing these kind of performances, because let's not forget, this is still not a one matchup for Singularity. Even though now, because of the goal lead they created and the kill lead that they have in their favor, it's starting to look very favored in their position. They body slam onto Dark Ghost. I mean, he's 0-6. I think now he's even maybe potentially 0-7. He is not the threat the Singularity is looking to take down. You want to try and focus down the likes of Zero. If Zero's dead, then you win. Very, very clearly. Javix also does some decent damage, but Zero is the main threat, and he is just clearly not able to move away because those dives are too clean and too hard to deal with on the side of Singularity.
And I love that you're getting some zoning pressure from Keys and from Zawa on the Baron. Again, they're going to get this for free. Big engage.
Yeah, Glacial Fissure, nice knock-up. Actually, the really good grand entrance from the likes of Dark Ghost, but it's just not going to be enough because they don't have an easy access to the backline here, Scoundrel. Nice dive. Joyskag going to be able to snipe himself a few targets. Dark Ghost and Zero down. We said it, Zero, when he's dead, I mean, you lose most of your damage. There's not much you can do to redeem that game back in your favor. As Zawa, Playful Trickster over the wall, he's not going to go for the kill onto Warlife. Emotes away. Sees Warlife backing up. I think might be a little bit of a bait, and he goes Golden. He tried, but there you go. 3, 2, 1, and you are done so, and nothing else to do but to spam the Corky butt in the chat.
Yeah, that was a little bait there from Zara at the end.
He tried.
But you mentioned the grand entrance from Rakan, and it was a nice knockup, but Keys had the shield up. Like you Rakan grand entrance behind the Braum shield. How's your team supposed to do any damage? And that's why I hate Rakan into Braum. TED Talk over.
That's Thank you very much, Scoundrel. But you're right? Even if you are going to get knocked up, you're still going to have the Unbreakable available and nothing is going to come on through. It was a good initiation, but unfortunately, not only was that Unbreakable going to be up for the likes of Keys, but also I think the follow-up was clearly not there for the entirety of Vampire. So it is just some nice attempts, but it's just not coming together in the way we were initially expecting. Joyskags now just looking like the unstoppable force. This guy is 12, 3, and 8 get himself even that red buff to be even more of a threat in that next engage. But we're going to have a quick replay, and you see, yeah, exactly, that Unbreakable is just in front, and there's clearly not the angle being secured away. There's no way Singularity are going to be taken down from that position. And the moment that they knew that they overstepped, they take down the likes of Zero, convert the entire fight, and pick up the remaining players one by one, as we have another fight currently happening into the bottom side jungle. Ryu's going to be on the front line, 1/3 HP currently remaining. You don't want to push it any further. They got the Inhib tower here, Scandal, so they're looking to find closure very soon. Yeah,
I mean, Javix is just on the other side of the map right now. Doesn't look like he's trying to respond to the pressure coming out from a Singularity, and they're going to get another inhibitor. Very, very strong stuff. Singularity just pushing their way through. Finally comes back to the fight, but way too late. Lost too many resources in the map right now, and again, it's a huge ask to try and come back from a situation where you've lost 2 inhibitor towers and you don't even scale that well. Javix is going for the flank, though.
He's feeling himself pretty good. He goes for Zao, playful Trickster, able to dodge a lot of that damage output, repositioning with the Arcane kind of rush, and Joker's straight going to be jumping on forward with the ultimate to try and assist his team. I mean, concussive blow, you just can't make it away from that one. The slows of this Braum are just way too damn good. And that's going to be another pickup. 2 players down, Zero, Dark Ghost, and Javix trying their best to keep this side of Singularity away from their Nexus. But can they make it happen? Scandal, I'm not going to lie, I am very doubtful of how this game is going to find closure. Vampire, if they lose this game, they are out of the Origin Series, as they are currently taking their match versus SNG in the lower bracket. Skax, even though he's taking a lot of damage, he's going to be able to reset the aggro. Zawa able to play that playful Trickster away from the Nexus focus, and that is indeed going to be GG as they get themselves the ace, get themselves the Nexus, take the series, and continue their adventure in the lower side bracket of the Origin Series.
Great stuff from Team Singularity. I think came in as the favorites into this matchup and clearly showed why as well. I do think a bit of a draft iffy in both games. I think they kind of had the edge in draft. I think support matchups are really important in terms of how the game plays out, and I really, really don't like Braum into Rakan into Braum, and it kind of showed in these team fights. Also, again, illustrating why Kha'Zix is not a strong competitive pick, especially versus coordinated teams. But honestly, Singularity, all props to them. They got the picks they wanted, they played them well, and won the game.
Yeah, hoping to not see too much of a Kha'Zix, but this is really good redemption arc coming out, especially from Singularity. I was surprised to see them actually drop really early on in this tournament out of the winner bracket. It seemed like they're going to be making it down, but you know what? They redeemed themselves in my eyes in this match. So we'll have to talk about that and break down exactly what happened in this series. Wistrid on the desk right after this very short break.
But there you have it. That's pretty much all of our gameplay for this evening. And Team Singularity, they are reinstilling confidence with a 2-0 victory over Vampires. And one of the things that I noticed very early on in that game, and Max, I'm glad you translated my message to the audience. What a clown fiesta to kick things off. Like, that was just absolute anarchy for like the first 15 minutes of the game. I'm going to ask the difficult question here, Kieran. Can you start to make sense of that for me?
No. Honestly, that was just a categorical brawl. Absolutely, just nothing held back. Fists out, slapping each other in the head over and over again. It was very messy, very messy. But like I said, in those kind of situations, if both teams are coming out even, it's always going to favor the team that scales better. In this case, both games, realistically, Singularity just had the more favorable scaling. And then when they decided to play properly, like you saw the compositional differences as well. You saw, like, when you're in these small, scrappy brawls, that's when Kha'Zix is good. Like, Kha'Zix wants the little 2v2s, he wants the little 3v3s. Then when we got to the actual proper 5v5s and he's used his hands, they ended up, showing the compositional differences between the two teams. And that's kind of what we saw and kind of gave Singularity the edge around these fights.
And I'm glad you brought up the Kha'Zix, actually, because we might be able to touch on this a little bit more. I think we got a perfect example of it, I think, around the first, like, kind of Herald fight. I think it was around about, like, or it was around objective 7 minutes 40, roughly. A fight started for Vampire, got disengaged quite quickly. Kha'Zix didn't get the message. Dove in 1v4, and we got a perfect example of how he just gets rolled in that one. Max, is that miscommunication on the Kha'Zix part? What's the biggest offense here? The Kha'Zix pick, the miscommunication, or everything else just going wrong with the team disengaging? Now, I'll tell you what, production's been kind enough for us to get this replay. So, Kieran, let's just have a look at the 1v4 quickly. We won't dwell on this too long.
I'm going to break two things down. Yeah, I'm going to break two fights down. So the first one I'm going to show you is just, I don't even think I really need to explain it, but
I just want to see it again because I thought it was hilarious.
Nice charm here. and Kha'Zix looks like he's going for an easy reset. Like, okay, right, this right here, I don't blame Keymal for looking for this. Joker's just used his damage invulnerability, right? He's just used his third ability, which stops any damage coming his way. So you may be looking for an easy reset for Keymal. So I kind of get it, but you're going to see why Braum sucks. Sorry, why Kha'Zix sucks, especially into Braum. Like, watch this. Stunned, dead.
Yeah. You can't.
That's why Kha'Zix sucks into Braum. Like you jump in, especially into a clustered team fight like that, and yeah, it's kind of memes. I'm going to break down another one though. I want to break down. This was just a really lovely bit of play between Ryu, Zawa, and Joker. They just balanced it really nicely. I'm going to see if I can put it into slow. That's really slow.
Oh, nice.
That's too slow. That's too slow, mate.
Wait, how do I speed it up? I can't speed it up anymore. Wait, slow motion then. I'm sorry, guys. I've ruined it. Let me see if I can reset it. It's still
press play, apparently.
Press play. Oh, there we go. Cool. Okay, I didn't mess it up. Right. Joker's back. Very, very low HP. Ghost goes for a very aggressive knockup and misses. And then we have Ryu and Zawa clearly working together. Right. So that was a really lovely combo for Ryu. He had a great body slam to 3. So big knockup. Watch this. Immediate stasis. Oh my god, I've messed this up, guys. Immediately stasis from Zawa. Zawa buys a bit of time. They pick up a kill. And Zero and Keymab, for some reason, are like running away at this point. Like, if I were there, I'd maybe collect myself around Zawa, try and get him out of the stasis. But either way, great stasis from Zawa. Ryu, like, Joker finds the one block. This is buying a bit of time. Ryu jumps in, finds the kill. Watch this from Zawa, gets himself away from Keymal, and they just perfectly juggle the aggro between all of them. Like, each of them at some point using a way to inhibit damage. First of all, Zawa's stasis to buy some time and space. Second of all, Joker jumps back in and then uses his damage reduction to stop any damage coming his way. And then eventually, like, Ryu just coming in and bopping people. It was just, honestly, just a really nice little micro piece of juggling between the three of them to kind of turn what was essentially a bit of a scrappy team fight for them into a big win.
Yeah, you could just see each of them going, okay, I've got cooldowns, I'm going to go in. It's not just the aggro, it's also the layering, the crowd control, the damage, everything's added up there. Like, it was so good for them. I completely agree with you. I'm going to go and praise one of the players themselves, actually, because I got Ryu for an interview. So I'm going to say goodbye to you two. You'll be back in a second. Then we'll have a chat and we'll close out the show. But Ryu, come join me. Hello.
Hey, man.
Hey, how are you? You must be feeling good. I mean, it's a bit of an eventful day for you, isn't it? Getting dropped to the lower bracket and then being able to win a couple of matches. So we didn't get to see that on stream. I was wondering if you could give us a brief overview of your upper bracket game that sent you down here.
Yeah, we played against a very well-playing Team Future. They played great compositions, and we were taken by storm. So just big respect to those guys.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry, it happens. Keep going.
I'm back. Hello.
Yes, you're here. Don't worry. Yeah, just keep talking.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I mean, we played against a team called Team Future, and they played extremely well. They took us by storm, and their composition, they played some very aggressive comps with Olaf, Renekton, Camille, and it's something we copied and used in our game against V3.
Wait, hang on a minute. Did you play the Renekton in that matchup against Galio because Team Future played it against you, or was it something you prepared beforehand?
I mean, we've been playing a lot of Renekton into Galio beforehand. Like, if something we know is strong, but when V3 let it open, like, if something we knew that was strong, but yeah, I mean, when the opportunity came there to pick it into Galio, that was just even better.
Well, both of your games, Ryu, you seemed really under control. But in game number 2, it seemed a bit like anarchy for like the first 15 minutes. Now, was that you guys feeling yourselves, or were you genuinely caught off guard by some of these fights that you're being forced into by Vampire?
I mean, there is something we call the stream on buff. When Saura is playing on the stream, he just absolutely pops off, wants to take aggressive trades. So yeah, I mean, Saura played an amazing game on Fizz and created a lot of action and made the game very messy for V3 to play.
Mm-hmm. All right, and looking further ahead down the tournament, obviously you've already ran into Team Future. They weren't one of the teams that were necessarily on our radar when we were looking at this bracket. Who are the strongest teams in this group if you are going to make that call, right? So you have to respect Team Future, but who else in that upper bracket right now is going to give you a run for your money if you ever meet them in your lower bracket run?
Hello?
Don't worry about it, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I like that out there. I think the strongest teams, I think I'm surprised by the fact that Team Queso knocked out Game Lord down to the lower brackets. But yeah, I mean, I think Game Lord is probably the strongest team with Team Queso and Tribe Gaming. Then Team Future is probably shortly after that with us. I think Tribe Gaming has Tribe Gaming has an amazing jungle mid lane duo with Snitch and Dooms. I think Game Lord has the top lane jungle with which is Random and Zefta, and TQ has the Acolyte Andres duo. And I think those jungle mid or jungle top lane duos is extremely important in the current meta right now, and I think that's why these three teams are extremely strong.
All right, thanks for your insight, Ryu. Before I send you on your way, have you got any shout outs, any messages for fans, anything like that? Stage is yours just to close this out.
Just a big shout out to my team. My team is amazing to be around. The Saura, Joey, Skags, Joker, and Keys, amazing teammates. They always play fun games, and yeah, I mean, happy with my team, and yeah, go Singularity.
All right, thanks so much, Ryu. You have a nice evening, and good luck with the rest of the tournament.
Thank you.
Let's bring him back. It's the boys.
It's the boys.
That's the boys.
I love hearing from Ryu. I play with him a lot. He's a really, really great guy. And I think, funnily enough, I think there was a point in Ryu's career where he was considering not playing. Like, I think there was a point a few months ago where he was considering not playing, and then he kind of just popped off. Like, he just kind of became this really strong Baron laner, and kind of decided, oh well, do you know what? I'm gonna put the effort in and kind of get into it. So, you know, I think big credit to Ryu. He stepped up to that role in a role that has got a lot of really strong Baron laners, like Random, for instance. So yeah, really, really good to see him do well. We're kind of looking back at some of the highlights from the last few games. Like, this was that Reason matchup where, honestly, I think Reason kind of came out big here. I think they had a really strong series.
Yeah, they moved up. They were one of the first few teams. I mean, they had a matchup versus Game Lord. That was, of course, going to be really complicated for Reason Gaming in the grand scheme of things. But you know what? Able to catch himself back up versus Luminous Charm, taking themselves the series 2-1. Interesting prospect coming out from them. I think they could potentially go really far. They did have a matchup versus Cream Real Betis, so I'm intrigued to know exactly how that matchup went down. But then a few little replays back from that last game between Singularity and Vampire. And these are some of the big fights that really get a big lead in favor of Singularity. That's when Zhao, especially with playing on that Renekton, that he was absolutely OP. There was nothing you could do. It was 7-0 and 5-in at some point in that game, and a fed Renekton is just horrible to deal with, Excalibur.
Yeah, Renekton, when he gets ahead, especially when he goes for this Blade of the Rune King build, is absolutely insane. And Zawa had a really, really strong performance in that last one. Obviously, this one, we saw him on the Fizz, where it was a little bit more of an early game, but he got there in the end. And kind of managed to bring it back in his favor. And Singularity, a little bit messy in that second game, but I don't think ever really in doubt that they were likely the better team.
So I know we can't really take a look at the final updates because results are still coming in from all of the groups. I'm going to focus a little bit on Group A right now because there's a couple of teams that we know are definitively just out of the tournament at the moment. So Luminous Charm, we said goodbye to them. We had their game live. We had the obituary read out on stream for us. That was nice of them. We had Clash Spain, they're out, which sounds a little bit surprising to me. I'm surprised Clash have found their way themselves out of the tournament already.
I thought they were going to win their matchup versus 7 free agents, personally, coming into this one. I thought that there was a chance for them to, even if it did go to a game 3, there was definitely some action back and forth between 7 free agents and Clash Spain. But Clash have been a team that I was never really sold about. They had some clear moments of greatness, and I think they had really good individual performances from time to time. But as a team, I think there's always been something that was maybe not working well together. So I was hoping to see Clash, how good they improved on that prospect. But apparently, I mean, it speaks for itself, right? You're already out first in the tournament. It's not looking too good for you. But I'm hyped, especially to see how 7 free agents could play, because they were a team that I was not expecting. They're French, so I'm going to be a little bit biased. So I'm intrigued to see how far they can go with that one.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've now got all the results in for the night. So we're going to take a quick look at this one and get the complete picture that's going in. Let's pull up Group A, upper bracket. Let's see what the results from that are. And hopefully we get a good picture of all the action that's happened tonight. So let's take a look at it. Not getting scores on here, but you can kind of see the state we're at. I'm looking at a lot of names that have been brought up already. I'm very surprised, though, that we see Team Queso going through to the next round. I would have thought Game Lord would have done that.
I mean, do you remember talking earlier about Team Queso's top lane, Andre and Acolyte? I think they're really strong, massively underrated right now. That was a pretty clean 2-0 apparently versus Game Lord as well. I talked to a lot of people. I don't really want to leak strats on air, but I've talked to a lot of people that people have kind of said Gamelord have a one specific comp that works really well for them, and then if you kind of learn to deal with that, then it can be a bit it can be a bit easier to deal with them.
All right, let's take a look at the lower bracket though, because we know Gamelord's down there, which was a bit of a surprise, but there's a nice little recap of everything that's going on. You can see that the teams that are progressing through to the next round. So we know Team Singularity's going there. I think Cream Real Betis is still waiting to go on. And we got Resolve Devils 1. And the winner of that actually has the tall order of going up against Gamelord.
Oh, that's not an easy one.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough matchup for either of them. I expect Resolve to come out of the win there. But obviously, I think also Cream Real Betis are likely to beat Reason. I think they're a better team overall, but things can happen. It's a bit crazy. This is the Group B, the Turkish and CIS region. Most of the teams getting through that I expected, Fastpay, Wildcats, Trovo Nova, and Unicorns of Love, I think were the top 3 teams in this bracket overall. I expect Trovo Nova to meet Unicorns of Love in the grand final of this group, or at least the winners bracket final. That would be my prediction going into the next few days.
I was very surprised, especially to see Futbolists not able to make it through to the semi-finals, actually, of this this upper bracket. I'm really surprised. I thought they would be the team to actually win that matchup versus Fastpay Wildcats, especially since Fastpay Wildcats have suffered some pretty big roster changes on their own. So, yeah, Futbolists were looking, for me at least, as a favorite, but Fastpay were able to move forward, meaning that one big matchup tomorrow in the upper bracket is very clearly going to be Trovo Nova versus Fastpay Wildcat. That is the match I can't wait to see happen in Group B.
Okay,
and we're going to just quickly jump into Group C and take a look. It did happen. There's some results coming all the way down, and looks like we've already got our upper bracket final kind of set for that one. We've got Sunlight Team going up against Cut Esports. They will be fighting for a position in that grand final.
Yeah, I'll be completely real with you. I don't know a huge amount about these guys. This is the region that I was not so brushed up on coming into the Origin series, but I think Cut have shown that they're clearly one of the favorites. They came in pretty strong. Looked like they had some pretty good from the double Ziggs game that we did catch. They seem to be working together. They seem to be working together. I was impressed with the way that they were being much more proactive, very objective focused team. So, I think they do clearly have the fundamentals down, or at least some of the fundamentals down from what we saw in that game. Just need to make sure that we don't double pick a Ziggs going any further into the tournament. But regardless, I'm excited to see how that group pans out as well.
Right. So, okay, that's the end of day one. You got a nice little overview of all the action that's happened. We've said goodbye to half of the teams in each of the groups pretty much at this stage of the tournament. So we've already called half of them, and we've got 3 days left to go. So we're going to try and give you more of the matches per day, or more of the important matches as they come in. I know for a fact that tomorrow we are starting with Team Future versus Tribe Gaming. Max, why should someone tune in tomorrow to watch that matchup?
I mean, Tribe Gaming, very clearly, if you guys have been watching any kind of community-run tournament right now for Wildrift in Europe, you've got some really big names here. Of course, you're looking at Leon, you're looking at Doom, that, by the way, are playing a lot with the Scoundrels of recent times. Snitch also got a lot of experience in other MOBAs, also PC MOBAs, which is very interesting. So they're just very clearly an Avenger level threat team in this Group A, and I'm hoping to see make it right to the finals. Very clearly, they look like the standout team. But versus Team Future, that they took themselves a very big win versus Singularity, so I'm intrigued to see what Future are actually made of, and if that's enough to take down the Goliath level team, which is going to be Team Tribe.
Yeah, really quick one on this. I think Team Future are a massive dark horse for Group A. They have a lot of incredibly skilled and respected players in the solo queue ladder right now, and they've kind of come together and formed a very strong looking team. 2-0ing Singularity is no mean feat. And by doing it with, convincingly as well, I think we are looking at a closer series than it may feel like on paper. But if you want to watch, especially the best jungle in Europe, Tribe's got the best jungle in Europe, and you'll see, a very, very strong performance from them tomorrow.
All right, all of that is going to be waiting for you here tomorrow. But that's it for tonight. As I said, we said goodbye to a lot of teams, but from this point onwards, there are more points. There's more prize pool up to grabs. It only keeps getting better here. Thank you so much for joining the first ever Wild Rift Origin Series broadcast. We'll be back tomorrow for day 2 of the monthly final. Be sure to check it out.